Chapter 778. He had it all planned out. Although the plan had been brought forward because of his marriage, it was still carried out step by step. Before the servants in this villa were changed, there were spies everywhere and there were bugs everywhere. He could not touch those spies and remove the bugs. He could only treat Xan Man well and let Zhuang Yifeng know that Xan Man had completely betrayed him. He could only treat Xan Man well and let Zhuang Yifeng transfer all his hatred to Xan Man. At first he couldn't bear it. After all, Xan Man had never harmed him. But what could he do? Xiaoya had been kidnapped once. She would be kidnapped again. He couldn't follow Xiaoya 365 days a year, 20 hours a day, 60 minutes an hour, 60 seconds a minute. One mistake and his life would be in danger. Between Xiaoya and Xan Man, even if Xan Man had never wronged him, he could only choose to give her up and let Zhuang Yifeng target her. He was indeed cold-blooded and ruthless. But when he saw Xiaoya trying to choke Xan Man to death with a pillow, the blood in his body boiled. He couldn't wait to kill Zhuang Yifeng immediately to end her pain. He had to bear with it. If he couldn't bear it, Zhuang Yifeng would have to be on guard. Once he was on guard, the time to kill him would be delayed indefinitely. But by the time he had settled everything, she had left. He had left without a trace. The cash check expired. She didn't withdraw a single cent and the bank returned it. He had checked her bank card. Her parents-in-law were using it. Her luggage was still in Qingfeng Garden. He tried to open the password lock on the luggage and entered her birthday. No. He entered her birthday. When he saw the password lock open with a click, he knew he was done for. His heart was in so much pain that he couldn't breathe. He didn't know how many more things belonged to her. Just the password lock for her birthday was enough to make him wish he was dead. He opened the luggage. It was filled with her daily clothes. She only brought 3 pairs of her favorite shoes. But she didn't take these things with her. The bedsheets were clean and placed in the cupboard. When he took it out, it still smelled of the sun. It was as if she had washed it yesterday. He opened the drawer in her closet. There were some gift boxes inside. It was a small box with exquisite packaging. He opened it. There was a tie and a handkerchief. The box was not broken, but the things inside had been cut up. It was just that they had not been thrown away. He put the pieces together. The violet handkerchief had a pink edge and was very beautiful. It could be folded into a beautiful flower and inserted into the breast pocket of his suit. At the corner of the handkerchief, there was a word embroidered, Qin. The word Qin was also embroidered on the inner hem of the tie. He knew he had broken her heart. She was deeply hurt. She was so hurt that she didn't want to take anything with her, not even a change of clothes. At that moment he fell on the carpet beside the bed with a dull thud. He thought about how many times he had spent the night in Qingfeng Garden. The next day he would kick her out of bed and hear her fall to the carpet beside the bed with a thud. He would see her crawl up and call out his name through gritted teeth, Zhuang Yichen. At that time he was very happy. He hated it when she called him boss in bed and called him boss off the bed. He was a very calculative person. He would not accede to every request of someone who called him boss. It turned out that she had always been different when she was with him. That was why he had been hiding her. He was afraid that she would be poisoned by Zhuang Yifeng. When she went on a blind date and found out that it was Kang Yun, he was furious. He could believe that she was just putting on an act, but he did not believe Kang Yun. He hated her past. There was only Kang Yun in that part of her past, not him. Zhuang Yifeng had been eyeing him covetously. At that time he did not care about anything. He went to the proposal venue that had been booked and dragged her back. Now that Zhuang Yifeng was gone, he did not have to hide anymore. He could openly take her out to eat, watch TV and play overseas. Every day when he thought about this, he was in so much pain that he could not sleep. It was as if someone was gouging out his heart and cutting his flesh. The woman that he had spent so much effort to protect was like a seed planted in his body. Without her, there was a huge hole in his heart. Every day someone was still digging it out. It was so painful that he could not even cry out. Young master. Li Yong did not knock on the door. He pushed the door open and entered the bedroom. Now that Xiaoya was not around, there was no need to hide too much. It was also to let Zhuang Yichen talk less. However, the moment he entered, he saw Zhuang Yichen curled up on the bed and crying softly. Li Yong's heart ached. He regretted coming in at this time. Zhuang Yichen usually hid it very well. He did not show much. At most, he would get angry. Now he was curled up on the bed like a trapped beast. Why did he come in? Did he want to deprive a person who had nowhere to vent his pent-up emotions to hide in the room and cry? But he had already shouted. Just as he was about to leave, Zhuang Yichen shouted hoarsely, "Uncle Li." Li Yong responded with a trembling voice, Zhuang Yichen was still curled up. He hugged his shoes, clutched his chest and sniffled. His voice was hoarse as if he was enduring great pain. He said with trembling teeth, "Uncle Li, I feel terrible. My heart hurts so much. It's useless to massage it." Li Yong stood by the bed, tears streaming down his face. Young master, the photo studio has already redone the photos. I'm here to tell you. Should we still hang them in the same position?" When they had taken the photos, Zhuang Yichen had tyrannically demanded that the photo studio delete all the negatives. When the photos were destroyed, Xiaoye's face could not be seen. He had asked Li Yong to call the photo studio to ask for the negatives, but they said that they had already deleted them. He almost tore down the photo studio. Fortunately, when the wedding photos were taken, Xiaoye showed off and gave Yi Er and Xia Qian a copy each. Then he copied Yi Er's copy and sent it to the photo studio to have it redone. Zhuang Yichen's memory was shockingly good. He knew which photos were made of crystal, which ones were made of wood, 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 and which ones were placed in the album. Okay, hang it up. Otherwise I'll forget what she looks like. It was another weekend. Su Jian returned to Qing County from the provincial capital to visit his grandmother. Sister Jean said that she wanted to treat him to a meal, so he called Xiaoyu over. After the meal, Su Jian wanted to send Sister Jean and Xiaoyu home. However, Sister Jean said that she wanted to go for a walk and exercise after the meal. When they were walking, Xiaoyu was always indifferent. She did not say or express anything. Su Jian was also a man of few words. In Xiaoyu's impression, Su Jian was not such a person. When she saw him at Grandmother Su's house the other day, he was very humorous. The people in the county had a rich entertainment life. There were people dancing in public squares, fitness centers, and couples. Those songs were all street songs, the catchy kind. Sister Jean stood at the side of the square and twisted to the music. She touched her waist and said, "Xiaoyu, people say that I'm too fat and need to lose weight. I think I really need to lose weight. So, I'll go and do some twists. Wait for me." Xiaoyu actually admired Sister Jin's sense of humor. She never thought that there was anything wrong with being fat. She always said, "I'm fat but my skin is good. Those skinny people my age don't have skin as plump as mine." Xiaoyu was about to stand at the side and wait for Sister Jean when Su Jian reached out his hand to her. "Xiaoyu, please dance." "Ha! Aren't you going to do me the honor?" The man asked her to dance in a gentlemanly manner. He placed one hand behind his back and bowed slightly. It was the perfect posture for a dance. "I'm afraid that I'll step on your feet." "It's okay. I've been stepped on by you a few times so that I won't be stepped on by you next time. But I'm not wearing high heels. I'm so much taller than you." Xiaoyu felt that height was a big problem. If she were as tall as Yi Er, she would not have to wear high heels in front of Zhuang Yichen. So, she thought that it was wrong of her to link everything to Zhuang Yichen again. Haha, maybe it'll have a different effect. The music in the square stopped and then it started again. The slow four-step dance was melodious. Soon the people around them stopped dancing. They looked at the man and woman dancing in the middle of the square. Xiaoyu straightened his back and leaned back slightly, tiptoeing along with the dance. The woman looked quiet and beautiful. However, when she raised her head and puffed out her chest, she suddenly felt cold and elegant. The man was leisurely and handsome. He was as noble as a prince from a fairy tale. He was holding his partner in a gentlemanly manner. The dance steps were perfectly coordinated. Because the male and female leads were a perfect match, even a fancy spin would attract waves of applause. Xiaoyu, actually, the best way to forget a relationship is to jump into another one. Have you heard of this saying before? Su Jian was merely holding Xiaoyu's arm. It was only physical contact, unlike other people who wanted to pull the woman into their arms just for the sake of a pas de deux. His gaze was still looking in front. However, it was faint. Through the music, it reached Xiaoyu's ears. Xiaoyu was shocked. You don't have to hide or forget when you're healing a relationship. When you experience another relationship, you might slowly forget about it. People have to experience a lot of relationships in a lifetime. Some will be broken. When it's broken, there will be hurt. However, life goes on, doesn't it? Su Jian led Xiaoyu around as he spoke in a gentle tone. Actually, you can settle for the next best thing. This time, Xiaoyu really stepped on Su Jian's foot. However, she swore that she did not do it on purpose. Su Jian did not mind. He stopped and held Xiaoyu's shoulder. "Xiaoyu, be my girlfriend. I think you don't have to wait until you've forgotten someone before you can accept someone else." "You? How did you know?" Xiaoyu put down her tiptoes and looked at Su Jian uneasily. she had forgotten that his hands were still holding her shoulders. However, this gentle man only had a gentle smile. Even though it was night time and the lights in the square were not bright, his smile was so gentle. It was as gentle as the early spring sunshine. It was warm and did not hurt. Since the day I sent you home and asked you why you didn't want to earn money, I guessed that you were hurt. Awesome novel Jianghu 799. Chapter 779. At your age, the things you make are exquisite and beautiful. You can definitely make a career in a big city. Moreover, Su Jian smiled faintly, but there was a sharp light in his gentle eyes, as if he could see through everything. Moreover, I've already said that I'll introduce you to some business, but you're not willing to accept it. You can make more money easily but you refuse. This means that you're afraid of being idle. You have exquisite handwork skills and understand design concepts. You're so good in appearance but you're single. Your eyes are dim and there's a strong sense of melancholy. If you're not injured then you've encountered a major setback. Seeing that Xiaoyu was in a daze, Su Jian took her hand again and held her waist. He started dancing again. There were no more fancy moves, just simple steps. Xiaoyu, I've been thinking about these problems in the past few days back in the provincial capital. Sister Jean said that you're a loner, but I always feel that there's a fire in your heart that will definitely burn very passionately. Xiaoyu, let's date. Young Master Su, you know nothing about me except for my name. I'm the same about you. Just take it as a joke. Xiaoyu used to entertain guests often, so naturally she would not blush, run away, or hide like a teenager. She moved along with Su Jian's steps, just waiting for the song to stop. I Su Jian, 25 years old. My ancestral home is Qing County. I live in Sea City. My grandmother, maternal grandparents, and parents are all alive. After my grandfather passed away, my grandmother insisted on coming back to take care of the house in Qing County. Our family runs a jewelry business. We have a jade processing factory in Yunnan and our own diamond factory in South Africa. Currently, our Suji jewelry store is in all the major shopping malls in the country. I've been in 3 relationships, but they ended without any illness. At this time, Xiaoyu pushed Su Jian away in a panic. She had thought about starting a new life. She really had thought about finding a substitute. She had even thought about it. As long as she could forget about Zhuang Yichen, she did not care whether she hurt anyone or not. The feeling of being alone was not good. However, she did not want to find a rich man. Even if Sister Jean called him Young Master Su, she did not expect him to have such a family background. It turned out that Suji jewelry store belonged to Su Jian's family. When they got married, the naked diamond was bought from Suji jewelry store. It was a high-quality South African diamond. Xiaoyu. Su Jian caught up with Xiaoyu, who had been silent all this while. Holding her hand, he said, Xiaoyu, what if I told you that during the few days I was back in Sea City, all I could think about was the way you ate without saying a word, the way you lowered your head and made curtains, and the way you held onto your seatbelt and looked straight ahead. Do you find it unbelievable? Xiaoyu shook his head and tried to shake off Su Jian's hand. I just want to live a normal life. Young Master Su, don't disturb me. Su Jian did not let go. I won't disturb your peace. If you like to stay in Qing County, then stay in Qing County. I'll come back every week unless I'm on a business trip. Why reject me so quickly? I'm not interested in rich people. Even if your former lover is very rich, do you have to treat all rich people as enemies? Young Master Su. I have a name. Su Jian was very particular about the way he addressed her. This was the first time he had used a heavy tone. I'm going back. As Su Jian watched Xiaoyu run out of the plaza, he hailed a taxi and let out a sigh. Jean walked over and patted Su Jian on the back. Did you hit a snag? Yes. Do you like her? Yes. It was a simple and straightforward conversation, but the content was already clear. Jean seemed to be very close to Su Jian. She held his arm. Do you really like her? Yes, I've missed her for a week. Xiaoyu looks like she's been hurt. She usually locks herself at home to make curtains. If young master's temper flares up, then forget it. At that time, I asked her to make curtains at your grandmother's house purely because I wanted to introduce her to some business. I really didn't want to be a matchmaker. Jean. The two of them walked to the place where they had eaten earlier to pick up the car. If you really don't want to play, then forget it. My grandmother likes her very much. Didn't you notice? She even mentioned her when she called me. Yes, when did Grandma Su invite anyone to eat at her place? Jean, I want to fight for her. The car lock was pressed and the two of them sat in the car. Jean was not used to wearing the seatbelt. Su Jian asked her twice before she finally put it on. It was rare for Jean to be so serious when she spoke. Jian, I've already said that Xiaoyu has been through a lot. You're in C City and she's in Qing County. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to develop a relationship. She locks herself up every day. If you don't care about her, how can you enter her life? At noon the next day, Xiaoyu sat in front of the sewing machine again and buried her head in making curtains. When the doorbell rang, she shouted, "Who is it?" "Wait a minute. It's me, Xiaoyu." It was Jin's voice. Xiaoyu quickly stopped the sewing machine and got up to open the door for Jin. When she opened the door, Jin smiled. "You're making curtains again? Come in, Jin." At this moment, footsteps came from the stairs. Jin had only one foot in the house when Su Jian arrived at the door. He smiled as if nothing had happened last night. He was not embarrassed at all. "Jin, I was just about to look for you. I'm looking for Xiaoyu. If you're looking for me, sit at Xiaoyu's house for a while." Okay. Xiaoyu was speechless. Did these two people think that she did not exist? As soon as Su Jian entered the house, he followed Sister Jin to change his shoes. When he smelled the scent of instant noodles in the house, he frowned. He followed the scent and found where the instant noodles were. He picked up the noodles and poured the lunch into the toilet for Xiaoyu. Yeah. Xiaoyu wanted to kill this guy with a knife. How dare he do this in front of her? Su Jian chose to ignore it. Don't eat those things that hurt your stomach and are not nutritious. Do you have food at home? You can make your curtains. I'll get something for you to eat. Sister Jean slapped her thigh and stood up. What kind of food does she have? She eats instant noodles every day. Wait here. I'll go upstairs and get it for you. I have a lot of food in the fridge. As Xiaoyu stepped on the sewing machine, she smelled the fragrance coming from the kitchen. The smell of cooking at home was indeed different. This process was enough to attract the glutton in her stomach. She could not help but swallow her saliva. It had been a long time since she had such an appetite. She was very curious. What would a man like Su Jian's cooking taste like? Xiaoyu stood at the kitchen door and listened to the sound of the kitchen hood. She watched as the man wore the apron that Jean had brought down. He rolled up his sleeves and skillfully stir-fried the food. The aroma of the food wafted into her nose. When it was time to eat, she took big bites of the food. There were 2 meat dishes, 1 vegetable dish, and 1 soup. It was delicious. Su Jian also filled his bowl with rice. He could not help but laugh when he thought of the way she chewed slowly the other day. Wow, how can you eat so much? I haven't eaten either. Leave some for me. I can't finish it. Do you think I'm transformed from a pig? The food would only taste better if one fought to eat it. When Su Jian saw how relaxed Xiaoyu was while eating, he also tried his best to eat with her. For dinner, Jean consciously took a lot of food from upstairs. She said that she wanted to freeload. Naturally, Su Jian was the one who cooked. Xiaoyu stepped on the sewing machine while Jean sat beside her and looked in the direction of the kitchen. Xiaoyu, Jian is a good person. Look, there's a rich man who knows how to cook. He's also very polite. Even a nouveau riche like me sincerely thinks that he's a good person. Don't be so picky. Try dating him. It's not like you're losing anything. He really likes you. Jean, I don't need any sincerity. Okay. You just need someone to accompany you. Just don't be so bored. Xiaoyu did not answer. She was too bored. The more bored she was, the more she was surrounded by Zhuang Yichen. She needed to change the situation. Then why don't you let Jian accompany you for a while and get to know you better? Jean asked. Jean, I'm divorced. Xiaoyu was still stepping on the sewing machine and did not stop. After being stunned for a while, Jean changed the topic. Xiaoyu knew that anyone would be calculative about this condition. It was good that she was calculative. She felt relieved. At night, Xiaoyu had already packed up and went to bed. Someone rang the doorbell again. Jean was the only person who would ring her doorbell so late at night. When she walked to the door, she looked out through the peephole. It was Su Jian. Xiaoyu wanted to pretend that she did not hear anything. She turned off the lights and was about to go back to sleep. However, the person outside the door had already spoken. Xiaoyu, I know you're here. The lights were on just now. Now that the lights are gone, Jean told me. Xiaoyu, I miss you. I don't mind. You're already divorced. You're alone now. Xiaoyu, aren't you tired of tying yourself up? Where are you going to find a man like me who's willing to be your substitute? I just think that since I like you to the extent that I can see you even when I close my eyes, and you're not in a relationship right now, why don't we try dating? As soon as he said this, the door was pulled open. Xiaoyu looked at Su Jian and asked directly, Can we not get on the bed? Su Jian heaved a sigh of relief. The corners of his lips curled up, and his eyes began to shine brightly under the light. Of course. Do you agree? Okay. Haiqing Ninth Mansion. Zhuang Yichen sat beside the tea table in Jiang Zhao's study. The aroma of tea filled the air. He said, "If I were to use the media to find someone, would it be a good idea? Yichen, if we use the media to find her, Xian Man's and Zhuang Yifeng's matters will be dug up. Maybe even more. It's too risky." Jiang Zhao sighed, his eyes deep and serious. "Yichen, if we use the media to find her, Xian Man and Zhuang Yifeng's matters will be dug up." Zhuang Yichen knew that this was a dirty secret that could not be exposed. If he were to openly look for Xiaoya, the reason for the divorce would be exposed. For example, the hostage incident that night would expose the gun incident. At the same time, his secret forces might also be exposed. Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 780. Everything that happened in the past would be used for hype, especially by people like him. People who liked to gossip would never lose interest. The love histories of the rich and handsome would always be talked about enthusiastically, but the conspiracy behind those love histories could not be exposed. Zhuang Yifeng was dead and there was no evidence. If he was exposed, he would be digging his own grave. Yichen, have you ever thought that with Xiaoya's personality she might have already? Jiang Zhao filled the washed tea set with tea, picked up the cup and handed it to Zhuang Yichen. His words stopped there and he held the cup in front of Zhuang Yichen, but his gaze was unreadable. Zhuang Yichen's heart skipped a beat. He took the tea from Jiang Zhao and quickly closed his eyes. His hands began to tremble slightly. The high-quality Tiguanyin tea was steeped in the boiling spring water, and its aroma filled the air. Even the light yellow tea splashed in all directions, scattering the aroma. Jiang Zhao frowned as he watched Zhuang Yichen pour the boiling hot tea into his mouth and swallow it. Zhuang Yichen took a deep breath. His heart skipped a beat just now and it suddenly froze. A chill ran through his body. Fortunately, there was a cup of boiling hot tea. It was not that he had not thought about what Jiang Zhao said. He had thought about it before, and that was why he wanted Jiang Zhao to help him come up with ideas. In the past, he thought that man could conquer nature, but now he felt powerless. He wanted to surrender and admit defeat. He could not stand the futility, hopelessness, and disappointment every day. He knew that if this happened again, he would be in despair. He restored everything. The photos, quilt, shoes, clothes, tie, handkerchief, and the furnishings in the room. Even the skincare products she used, he put them all back in their original position. Just like that. Day after day. He could not hold on for much longer. He was afraid. He was afraid that if this continued, he would either die or go crazy. He had never been tortured like this before. Back then, when Zhuang Yifeng snatched Xian Man away, he did not want to get her back so desperately. He did not even think about it. He did not even take the initiative to look for her. It was Xian Man who felt sorry for him and took the initiative to look for him. He thought that it was probably because he felt that he did not owe Xian Man, so he did not feel anything. But on the other hand, what did he owe Xiaoya? He didn't give her less than Xian Man, but he gave her so much more than Xian Man. What else did he owe her? In the end, he realized that he had abandoned himself and his heart with her. It was because she had never asked for anything that he was at ease with her. He was at ease with her if she did not go and provoke other men. He was at ease with her if she never disturbed him. His heart was placed entirely on her. Once she left, she took them all with her. He wanted to take him away, but he didn't want to take him away. He wanted to leave a body like this. It was clearly a body, but it still hurt. Every day he had to endure the pain. In his dreams, he had to endure her shadow coming back to dig out his flesh and drink his blood. He started to be jealous of Kang Yun. How much pain did little Ye have in the past for her to want to die? Was it like him now? What he hoped for now was that she did not love him as deeply as she loved Kang Yun. She did not want to die because of sadness. If that was the case, he could continue to look for her. How could he not know that with Xiaoya's personality she might already have a man? He did not say it, but it did not mean that he did not think about it. After all, he knew that she found him because she was abandoned by Kang Yun. Her goal was so clear. She was using him to forget Kang Yun. He knew that she would do it. She was actually a decisive person. She wanted to commit suicide for Kang Yun. She wanted to be his lover. She wanted to force him to marry her. Every time she would force herself to the road of death. She forced herself to find a way to live. He knew that she loved him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have wanted to marry him. She wouldn't have wanted to suffocate Xian Man. She wouldn't have even locked the lockbox with his birthday. She wouldn't have cut everything and left nothing behind. She loved him too much. That was why she left so decisively. She did not want to take any memories with her. She was looking for a way to live. She left to find a way to live. He knew it all, but the road in front of him was a dead end. Zhuang Yichen's heart started to hurt again. It hurt so much that his face turned pale. He and Jiang Zhao did not need to say much. The other party could understand. Yichen, how about this? 3 days. I'll use 3 days to get the people from the Industry and Commerce Bureau to find all the registration information of all the clothing companies and factories in the country for you. Xiaoya has a skill. When she left, she did not take her passport with her. Could she have left the country? We'll look for her in the country. We'll start with the clothing line. If it doesn't work, we'll do a big search. If it doesn't work, I'll ask Zhuahao for help. Some of the things in the army are very advanced. Are you afraid that we won't be able to find thousands of Xiaoya Qios? Zhuang Yichen's throat was choked up. He could only nod and take a deep breath. Brother Zhao, thank you. Jiang Zhao had never seen Zhuang Yichen reveal his own predicament and weakness in front of him. He was touched. It's just that I happen to have such resources. It's convenient for you. I also know that you're anxious. Spring came and went. Cold came and went. Time always changed people's situation. The summer in the southern cities was always long. The cold came later. This autumn, the flowers were still blooming. It had been 2.5 years since they left Haiqing. Xiaoyu brought his 1.5-year-old daughter to chase butterflies in the garden in front of the villa. The little girl's hair was very shiny. It was thick and black. It almost reached her shoulders, but it was not tied up. Her face was pink and delicate. The little girl stretched out her little hand and reached out when she saw the butterflies in the garden. She did not run very fast and fell from time to time. However, her gaze was still on the butterflies in the garden that were chasing around the flowers. Mommy, Xiaoyu's long hair was draped over her shoulders. She squatted by the flowers and pointed her index finger at the little girl. Her eyes were wide open. Shoo, baby shoo. The little girl's eyes were bright. She imitated her mother and pointed her index finger at her mouth. Her eyes were wide open. Shoo shoo, baby shoo. Xiaoyu had a blissful smile on her face. Seeing that another butterfly had landed on the flower in front of her, she carefully held out her palm in an attempt to catch the butterfly. The little girl imitated her mother and stood by the flower shrub, holding out her palm. However, her actions were careless. The little girl laughed and screamed excitedly. Ah. Shoo shoo baby, he kept saying. The child was imitating her mother. She picked a sentence and said it many times. It was better if she was noisy. She saw that her mother was serious and wanted to destroy the butterflies. She ran over, scared them away and continued to chase after them. Yo-yo. Xiaoyu laughed and shouted. Yo-yo ran dangerously and laughed along the way. The reason why it was said that Yo-yo was running dangerously was because she looked like she was running unsteadily and could fall at any moment. However, she continued to run without any fear. Xiaoyu saw that Yo-yo was wearing a pink and blue princess dress. She had made a pink and blue spaghetti strap dress herself. Her daughter was mischievous and her mother was as gentle as the wind. Mommy, Yo-yo pointed at the butterflies on the flowers. Mommy, butterfly. I'm not going to catch them for you. They're bad. Xiaoyu wiped the sweat off his forehead. Yo-yo suddenly ran towards Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu was happy and reached out to carry her. However, Yo-yo ran past her and ran into the arms of another person. Daddy, butterfly. The man was handsome. When he smiled, the sunlight shining on the garden was gentle and warm. Baby. He planted a kiss on Yo-yo's cheek. The sweetness of his doting made the little princess in his arms tremble with joy. The man asked, Daddy will catch butterflies for baby, okay? Okay. How will baby thank Daddy? Kiss, the little princess said in a childish voice. She then smeared her saliva all over the man's face. Ah, it smells so good. The man tilted his head and snuggled into the little princess's neck, laughing loudly. Smells so good. Baby's kiss smells so good. Daddy will catch so many good butterflies for baby. Xiaoyu smiled and walked over. Jian, don't spoil her. It's tiring to work. Let me carry Yo-yo, Xiaoyu said gently. No, I haven't carried baby for a day. I don't feel tired at all when I carry baby. Although Su Jian was talking to Xiaoyu, he was actually talking to Yo-yo. When he saw Yo-yo smiling, he raised his chin and said, Isn't that right? Isn't that right? My little Yo-yo, isn't that right? I miss Daddy. Yo-yo misses Daddy. Daddy, hurry up and catch butterflies for baby. Baby misses Daddy as a reward, okay? Su Jian handed Yo-yo to Xiaoyu. When Xiaoyu took Yo-yo, Su Jian planted a kiss on Xiaoyu's forehead. How about you? Did you miss me? Xiaoyu chuckled. Yes. Okay. Su Jian rolled up his sleeves. I'm going to catch butterflies for my wife and sweetheart. Xiaoyu watched as Su Jian entered the villa and took a large decorative glass bottle. He then filled it with fresh flowers and placed it on the grass. Then he went to catch butterflies seriously. Initially, there were not many butterflies in the garden in front of the villa. However, one day Yo-Yo saw butterflies flying around on the television. She clapped her hands excitedly and screamed for butterflies. The next day, he asked his men to replace the flowers in the garden with flowers that attracted butterflies. Then he asked his men to bring a few thousand butterflies home. That day, when he released the butterflies from the box, Yo-Yo ran around the garden excitedly. Some of the butterflies ran away. However, as the flowers in the garden were very fragrant, most of the butterflies stayed behind. She knew what he was thinking. He wanted to give her everything she wanted. A flash marriage. What a thrilling marriage. They had known each other for a week. After she agreed to be his girlfriend, he took out his household register and secretly brought her to get a marriage certificate 3 days later. What was done could not be undone. He said that in this lifetime he would do something impulsive that followed his heart at least once. And that was to get married for a woman that he missed all the time. He knew that it was a risk, but he wanted to take this risk for once in his life. He said that he did not mind being that person's substitute. After all, life was long. One day he would be able to make her happy. Every day he racked his brains to make her happy. He was so good to her. His family was in a mess because of her divorce, but he still persisted. He said that he was taking a risk and was impulsive. However, he was a man. He had to be responsible for his impulsiveness and risk. He persisted not only for the sake of responsibility but also for hope. Only by persisting would they have hope. She thought that God pitied her. He pitied her for being hurt so deeply by 2 men. Therefore, he sent her such a man to make up for the hurt she had suffered in the past. Then she would be in his arms and slowly forget the pain that was carved into her bones. Come and see. Jianghu 799. Chapter 781. At night. Su Jian was in the nursery, holding Yo-Yo in his arms as he told her a story. His voice was gentle and soothing. Once upon a time in a forest there lived a mother pig, a father pig, and 3 adorable pig babies. One day the mother pig felt that the babies had grown up and it was time for them to leave their parents and live independently. She wanted them to build a house of their own, and the eldest one made the first move. Yo-Yo suddenly burst into tears. She hugged Su Jian's neck and refused to let go. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she pressed her face against Su Jian's. Baby doesn't want to leave daddy and mommy. Baby doesn't want to build a house. Baby loves daddy and mommy. When Xiaoyu heard Yo-Yo's cries, she rushed into the nursery after washing her face. She saw Su Jian gently kissing away his daughter's tears as he coaxed Yo-Yo. That's a story, baby. That's a story. Yo-Yo will never leave daddy and mommy. Never? Xiaoyu stood at the door and watched this scene unfold. When she saw her husband coaxing her daughter gently, her heart softened. She heard her husband swearing to their daughter that they would never leave each other. They would never leave each other. Xiaoyu's eyes reddened as she smiled. What's wrong with Yo-Yo? There was a mischievous tone in her voice. She sounded like a children's show host who was in her 30s or 40s. A group of children would surround her and call her sister. Then she would use her sweet voice to get closer to the children. Her mischievous tone was filled with gentleness. Xiaoyu had never imagined that she could be so gentle. When she saw the child being born on the first day, she opened her eyes weakly and watched as the doctor held the child up. It's a girl. A very beautiful girl. At that time, some of the blood on Yo-Yo's body had been wiped off. However, there were still some bloodstains. Xiaoyu watched as Yo-Yo kicked her limbs and closed her eyes. Her cries were clear and crisp. Xiaoyu had never felt that there was such a voice in the world. It was so mesmerizing and it surpassed all other voices. Xiaoyu had heard children crying in the past, but she did not like it. However, when she heard Yo-Yo's first cry, she thought that she had been moved by Yo-Yo's cries and was moved to tears. Later on, she could not hear the sounds clearly, but she always remembered that this was her child. Every piece of flesh and blood in this child's body was supplied by her. Invisible to the naked eye, the jingzi and ovum collided with each other in her body, turning into small pieces of flesh the size of fingernails. Then they grew separately. Yo-Yo had small hands, legs, and a head. When she was in her stomach, she turned around and covered her face. There was a video of her playing in the ultrasound. Yo-Yo pushed her belly so high and so big that she had to bend her back when she stood up and when she sat down. She was tired, But the moment Yo-Yo landed on the ground, she felt that her tiredness was all worth it. Now that she had Yo-Yo, her gentleness was born from her bones. She had never been so tolerant and patient, even if that child had made her angry countless times and made her so angry that she wanted to hit her. However, she still held it in. She thought that this was her child, a child created by her cells. How magical. Although this child was infuriating, she thought that sometimes she would smile at her with a face full of innocence and innocence. Xiaoyu finally understood that the purest thing in the world was not the air in Shizong, not the cloudless sky, and not the distilled water. It was the child. It was Yo-Yo who had been cleansing her soul, making her feel no more hatred and resentment. It made her realize that there was a kind of sacrifice that did not care about returns or consequences. It was selfless and without resentment. Mommy, Yo-Yo hugged Su Jian as she looked at Xiaoyu with tears in her eyes. Mommy, oh baby. Xiaoyu climbed onto Yo-Yo's bed and slept on the other side of her. She hugged Yo-Yo together with Su Jian. Baby, what's wrong? Mommy. Yo-Yo called out in her baby voice. Although a child at such a young age could occasionally speak in an orderly manner, she would also be too anxious to form words. Su Jian sighed as he patted Yo-Yo's back. His voice was gentle and pleasant. Baby, don't cry, don't cry. It's all Daddy's fault. Daddy won't tell stories like this in the future, okay? Yo-Yo is sad. Daddy will be Yo-Yo's horse. Will you be my horse? As a child, Yo-Yo suddenly stopped crying and laughed. She flipped over and tried to climb onto Su Jian's back. In the nursery there was endless laughter. The child's laughter was so wild that she could not catch her breath. Su Jian crawled on all fours in the nursery that was covered with mats. He was carrying his 1.5-year-old daughter on his back and he was even imitating a horse. Xiaoyu was afraid that Yo-Yo would fall off Su Jian's back, so she supported the child and chased after them. Eventually Yo-Yo got tired and fell asleep on Su Jian's back. The screen was still playing. Xiaoyu placed Yo-Yo on the bed and covered her with a blanket. Then he turned up the volume of the surveillance camera in the nursery. If Yo-Yo cried, the servants would be able to hear it. Su Jian stood by the bed and looked at Yoyo's baby face. She was sleeping on her side and her face was on the pillow. One of her hands was even under her face. She looked really, so cute. Hugging Xiaoyu in his arms, he kissed her face. Xiaoyu, Yo-Yo is so cute. She held his hand and leaned against his shoulder. Then she wrapped her arms around his neck and said coquettishly, Okay, let's go to bed. You still have to go to the city tomorrow. Okay, he said as he hugged her and kissed her on the lips. The next day, Xiaoyu came out of Su Jian's arms. Okay. He pulled her over and buried his head in her hair. Xiaoyu, sleep for a while more. Jian, I'm bringing Yo-Yo to the amusement park today. You sleep first. I'll go and tidy up Yo-Yo. I'll send you there. Su Jian sat up on the bed and hugged Xiaoyu's waist. I'll send you there. It's okay. I'm free anyway. You're the one who's not free. It's so tiring to take care of the baby. It's not tiring at all. I have a nanny. I'm going to send you there. Let's go together. Xiaoyu smiled. She really did not know what to do with him. Yo-Yo did not want the nanny to carry her. Xiaoyu always carried her when they went out. When she got out of the car, the chauffeur looked straight ahead. Su Jian got out of the car and hugged the mother and daughter. Have fun. Call me when you're done. I'll come and pick you up. I'll call the chauffeur, Jian. Xiaoyu could not help but laugh. Don't be like this. We've been married for so long. You're always like this. Su Jian shook his head. No. We'll always be in a relationship. As he spoke, he kissed Yo-Yo. Baby, right? The child said in a childish voice, Daddy and Mommy are a perfect match. Ah. Haha. Su Jian and Xiaoyu laughed together. Who taught you that? Su Jian laughed until his stomach hurt. As he touched Yoyo's face, he could not help but kiss her again. Little Bao was really cute. Auntie. Su Jian looked forward and saw the auntie who had just come out of the passenger seat. She was carrying a lot of bags. Su Jian smiled and said, Sister, starting from this month I'll give you a raise. Xiaoyu carried Xiaoyu as the auntie queued up to buy the tickets. The amusement park was located near the city. There was a lot of traffic here. Many people brought their children to play, so there was a lot of traffic. Many people had to queue up for an hour. Yo-Yo pointed at the car and said to Xiaoyu, Mommy red. Mommy black. White. Silver. Xiaoyu slowly agreed. Baby, you're awesome. What's the color of the lantern on the tree? Red. What's the color of the pot of flowers? Purple. Baby, you're awesome. What's the color of the car? Orange. In the middle of the traffic, A black car was blocked by many cars. The car plate could not be seen clearly, but it was very clean and luxurious. It was different from the other cars on the road, which were all gray. Xiaoyu stood in front of the ticket counter in the amusement park. She was carrying her daughter and talking to her about the colors. Her face was gentle. The autumn wind blew, and her silky hair was fluttering. Today she was wearing sportswear. It was a matching outfit with YOYOs. It was pink. She liked these colors. She would wear all the colors that were suitable for Yo-Yo. The mother was young and beautiful, and the daughter was beautiful. Such a pair of mother and daughter would always attract attention. The black car was so dark that one could not see what was going on inside. However, there was an even darker shadow in the back seat. It looked like the outline of a person. Xiaoyu kissed Yo-Yo on the cheek. "Reward, baby." "Madam." The housekeeper came out of the crowd with the tickets. She raised her hand and waved at Xiaoyu's back. "Madam, the tickets are ready." "Oh, let's go and play. Let's go and play." Xiaoyu carried Yo-Yo with her other hand. In the black car, the handsome man's slender eyes stared out of the window. His breath was cold and dry, as if the breath he exhaled at any time could cause frostbite. His eyes fell on the amusement park in the traffic jam. Li Yong said, "Sai, it's the weekend today. If it's the weekend, it won't be able to get out even after 2 hours." "There's no hurry," Zhuang Yichen said simply. The wind was blowing outside, blowing the trees and causing them to sway up and down. The woman's hair floated in the wind. She kissed the baby in her arms affectionately. Suddenly, his skin tightened and the pores on his body contracted. He had goosebumps and he could clearly feel the skin on his cheeks contracting. The car started to move slowly. He suddenly opened the car door. Li Yong was shocked. "Young master." Zhuang Yichen had already opened the car door and got out of the car. The chaotic sound of the car horn was a protest and curse at the man who was shuttling between the cars. He could not care less. His hand held the front of the cars that were moving forward again, and then he barged past them. He saw the long-haired woman with the baby turn around. He started to shout, "Little demon Chiu! Stop right there! Stop right there!" He was so anxious that his eyes were red. A car wanted to pass in front of him to buy some time. He strode over and punched the hood of the car. Attention Jianghu 799. Chapter 782. The person in the car was clearly the one who had suffered a loss, but when he opened his mouth to scold him, he saw the man's eyes. It was as if the sky had turned dark and the man was an evil spirit from hell. The man behind the steering wheel opened his mouth in shock. The car suddenly stopped. Xiaoyu seemed to have heard someone calling, "Little demon Chiu." That voice was mixed in with the noise. She carried Yo-Yo and quickly paid for the ticket. There was a voice that had been sealed. She would never remember it again. Even if it was familiar. Xiaoyu knew that she was a loyal and heartless person. When she loved, she would break her bones. When she forgot, she would break her bones and body at all costs. After her rebirth, she would help her husband and raise her children and live a peaceful life. Zhuang Yichen saw the way the woman carried the baby girl. She pointed here and there with a gentle smile as if she was saying something to the baby girl. She was very patient. He had never seen little demon Chiu with long hair. He had never seen such an elegant little demon Chiu. A seal was placed on her. She was no longer little demon Chiu. She was Xiaoyu Chiu. He chased after her but was stopped by the staff at the entrance. He did not buy a ticket. Now he had to queue to buy a ticket. He took out his wallet from his pocket. When he opened it, there was no cash. There was their wedding photo in the wallet. He gently hooked her chin and kissed her. There was sunlight on the other side. It shone through, blurring their silhouettes. However, what was clear was the deep love between their lips. There was no pretense. He just kissed her passionately. The photographer liked this photo very much. The photography studio said that they needed their permission to advertise the photo. They would pay for it. What a joke. Would he want that money? Not to mention advertising, he would not even leave the negatives for them. Did he get the wrong person? But how could he get the wrong person? Other than the clothes, the aura, the hair, other than her face, there was nothing else that resembled his little demon. But even if it was just her face, he had to find her. She had caused him to be unable to sleep peacefully for more than 800 days and nights. How could he let her go? Whose child was that? He clenched his fists tightly. The person carrying the bags looked like a nanny. Did she hire a nanny? He didn't dare to think in that direction. He just wanted to find her and wait until he found her. The sun had risen high in the sky. The sun in the south was always unbridled, even in autumn. This was different from Sea City. The sun was already setting in the west. It hung in the distance, growing redder and redder, smaller and smaller. As the night approached, he stood at the exit and looked at everyone who came in through the exit. He had been standing for a very, very long time, but he didn't feel tired at all. The child with a childish voice shouted happily, "Daddy! Daddy!" He had no interest in paying attention to it, but she heard a woman's voice. She shouted, "Jiyan, we're here. Daddy! Daddy!" Zhuang Yichen looked in the direction of the voice and saw her waving in front of her. Before he could see who she was waving to, he rushed over without hesitation. After rushing over, he hugged her in his arms. Together with the little girl in her arms, he hugged her in his arms. He had thought countless times that if he saw her, he would definitely kill her, torture her, scold her, and hit her. But in the end he just hugged her. When he hugged her, his whole body twitched. He couldn't smell the familiar scent. She didn't wear Chanel perfume and there was no powder on her face. She didn't wear makeup and she didn't even use foundation. There was only a faint smell of skincare products on her face. It wasn't Lancome and he couldn't smell anything else. Little demon. He hugged her. His nose had already lost its function. He didn't dare to open his eyes. He was afraid that he would lose his sight and not recognize her. He didn't dare to scold her, hit her, kill her, or torture her. He was only afraid that if he said something harsh, he would lose her again. He just called out softly, "Little demon." The little girl seemed to have eaten a strong explosive. She pushed Zhuang Yichen with all her might. "Let go. Let go. What are you doing?" When Su Jian noticed that something was wrong, he had already rushed over. While Zhuang Yichen's divine sense was still in a daze, he was pulled away by two people who looked like bodyguards and shoved away. He saw the gentle man carefully caressing her head, her face, her shoulders, and the baby girl in her arms. "Daddy, daddy." "Oh, daddy is hugging Yo-Yo." While he was still stunned, he saw her holding the man's arm. "Jian, I told you not to come, but you came again. It's too tiring." "It's not tiring. How can I not worry when my wife and daughter are outside?" As he listened to the conversation, he suddenly realized that his ears had become extremely sensitive for a moment, but when he heard the man say wife and daughter, his ears began to go deaf. He could not hear the buzzing, he could not hear anything clearly. He rushed up and shouted, "Little demon Chiu, stop right there." When he shouted, he didn't realize that his voice was so domineering. No matter how many people there were, he rushed up without a care. He couldn't let her. She ran away just like that. She didn't even look at him. Just like that, she snuggled into another man's arms and left with the man with a child. He couldn't let her go. Why didn't she look at him? Did she not want to? Did she not want to? Or did she not dare to? "Sir, please conduct yourself with dignity." The people who stopped him were probably the men that the man had brought. He saw that she finally looked back at him. Her eyes were clear and bright. "Sir, you've got the wrong person." He looked at the man beside her and patted her shoulder comfortingly. "Let's go. Okay. Little demon Chiu, don't you dare run again." He was stopped and pulled. He wanted to hit her, but he was trapped and couldn't use his strength. He could only raise his voice and shout at her. At this time, the crowd in the amusement park was about to disperse, but because of this incident, it attracted a lot of people to come and watch. "Little demon, don't go." His eyes were already red. He raised his leg and kicked the people who were pulling him. Then he raised his fist and threw the two people down. When he rushed over, the man who was protecting her punched him and threw him down. He didn't feel any pain and didn't want to get even with the people who hit him. He just fell to the ground and looked up at her. He was afraid that he would miss the flash of heartache or something else in her eyes. However, he couldn't see anything. He only heard her say unhappily, "Sir, my husband is a very cultured person. You really went too far for him to get involved. I'm not someone you know." Su Jian's clenched fists were trembling. He only felt relieved when he put his arm through another hand. He took Yo-Yo from her arms and carried her in his arms. "Baby, go home with daddy and mommy." The crowd had already dispersed. He stood up when he saw those people walking towards the parking lot. Xiaoyu was warm. "Is your hand hurt?" she asked Su Jian softly. "It's fine. What do you want to eat tonight?" She didn't say anything, so he didn't ask. Since she didn't say anything, he couldn't ask. He didn't dare to ask. They ate dinner in silence. Yo-Yo was always able to liven up the atmosphere at the table. "Daddy, mommy." These few simple words from her mouth were enough to make the adults happy. They returned to the villa in the suburbs. Xiaoyu didn't like living in the big city. She used to live in Qing County. However, after they got married, Su Jian asked her to move to the suburbs outside the city. It was not in the city and it was quiet. Moreover, if she didn't move out after getting married, the Su family would have something to say. There were some bugs outside the villa. It seemed that they hadn't used up all their energy and wanted to vent. Late at night, on the bed in the bedroom on the second floor, Su Jian turned to his side and stroked Xiaoyu's hair. I'm going to sleep in the guest room. Jian, have you forgotten? We're husband and wife. Xiaoyu pulled him and hugged his chest. Yes, I haven't forgotten. Xiaoyu, how could I forget? He hugged her and hugged her tightly. How could he forget that they were husband and wife? She was the wife that he loved dearly and he was the husband that she relied on. I want to move. He didn't ask for the reason. Instead, he answered eagerly, Okay, where do you like? We'll move immediately. Outside the villa, there was a black car parked outside. The man sitting in the car seemed to be extremely cold, because his fists were clenched tightly and he was trembling from the cold. Uncle Lee, hurry up again. Why haven't you found anything yet? Young master, please wait for a while. The information should be sent over soon. Zhuang Yichen closed his eyes. He couldn't look at the villa outside the car window. There were lights and people. Someone shouted, Sir, Madam Miss is back. Indeed, she had found her way out. Indeed, she had found her way out. However, she had left him in a dead end. How could she do that? She was trying to drive him crazy. When the information was sent over, Li Yong read it out loud. Su Jian, the young master of Su's jewelry. Currently, all the high-end shopping malls in the country have Su's jewelry counters. He has his own jade processing base in Yunnan and a diamond factory in South Africa. He's on the wealthiest list. Before he could finish, Zhuang Yichen interrupted him. He rarely showed his temper in front of Li Yong. Don't read me these useless things. I want to know when he got together with Qiu Xiaoyao. And that child. Zhuang Yichen had a glimmer of hope. That child might be his. He couldn't tell the age of the child, but he stubbornly thought that the child was his. No matter how she found the exit, the child was his. Jiang Xiaoyu, married Su Jian in April 2010. Daughter Wu Yu, born in March 2011. Blood type, type 0, Jiang Xiaoyu? She had actually changed her identity to avoid him. Zhuang Yichen counted silently in his heart. He counted the days. She left in March and gave birth to the child in March of the following year. It had been a whole year. She had only been pregnant for 10 months. It had been a year. How could it be his child? He was naive enough to want to lie to himself. She loved him to such an extent. Perhaps she had given birth to a child for him, but his heart began to feel like it was being sliced apart. He punched the back of the front passenger seat. When he punched again, he shouted, Little demon Qiu, how dare you give birth to a little bastard outside? I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. He screamed again, his whole body convulsing. He fell down along the back of the chair and onto the seat cushion. After a while, he finally couldn't scream anymore. He covered his face and muttered in a trembling voice, Little demon, attention Xingwu 799. Chapter 783. Although Zhuang Yichen's heart was filled with grief, after experiencing countless disappointment and despair over the past few years, he was able to keep his cool. In the past, when he couldn't find her, he could always comfort himself by telling him to wait and see. Now that he had found her, he couldn't act on impulse and do something that he would regret. That night, Zhuang Yichen arranged for people to guard the Su family's villa in the suburbs. He left for Haiqing himself. He told Jiang Zhao over the phone that he would meet him face to face. Those two short words already concealed the turmoil in his heart. When he arrived at Jiang Zhao's house, Jiang Zhao led him upstairs. He thought of Jiang Zhao's twin sons and his heart swayed. If Xiaoye hadn't left with such hatred, his children would be about the same age as these two. Therefore, even though Zhuang Yichen was usually indifferent to everyone, he liked Jiang Zhao's twin sons very much. Every time he hugged them, he always felt very sad when the children kissed his face. At this time, the two little guys were also asleep. When he followed Jiang Zhao into the study, he couldn't help but glance at the nursery. Jiang Zhao patted him on the shoulder. The two little guys are too tired from playing. They fell asleep long ago. Children sleep early and grow taller. With ye heirs and my height, they can't sleep well and won't be short. Zhuang Yichen gave a rare smile. I hate it when you're showing off. Feels like you're asking for a beating. The two of them leaned against the chair. Tell me. Jiang Zhao went straight to the point. I found Xiaoye. When Zhuang Yichen said that, he realized that his voice was trembling. He tried his best to hide it and use other actions to distract the other party so that others wouldn't notice his abnormality. But even when he reached for the cup, his hand was still trembling. In an instant, his eyes reddened and he excitedly repeated, "I found Xiaoya. Brother Zhao, you have to help me this time." How could Jiang Zhao not understand Zhuang Yichen's current feelings? He had been looking for her for more than 2 years, and he had finally found her. He wasn't surprised by Zhuang Yichen's reaction. "As long as it's within my ability, I won't shirk my responsibility." After knowing Jiang Zhao for so many years, Zhuang Yichen knew that Jiang Zhao was already very close to him to say such words. But what he wanted was far from enough. "No, I need you to help me now." After Zhuang Yu's eyes, with Zhuang Yu with Zhuang Yichen, with Zhuang to Zhuang's to him. Yichen to with Zhuang Yichen? "I can't promise you that. Brother Zhao, if you help me this time, I promise that as long as you help me get Xiaoya back, I'll do anything for you in the future, and I won't ask for anything in return." "Never. Zhuang Yichen, will never complain about what you want me to do, even if I have to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a pot of boiling oil." Jiang Zhao pressed his forehead. This time he used so much force that his forehead hurt. He seemed to have heard these words before. "Alright, Shinkai." Back then, because of Xin Xian's matter, Shinkai had also looked for him and said the same thing. He knew that some men were like this. They would never make promises lightly. Once they made a promise, it would be worth 1,000 gold. "Yichen, I'm not trying to shirk my responsibility. I know that for you to make such a request of me, it's obviously difficult. But you know my family background. There are some things that you can't afford to get involved with." How could Zhuang Yichen not understand? When they were together, gains and losses were the most important consideration. "Brother Zhao, you've been with me all these years and we've gotten into a lot of trouble. If anything happens, I'll take full responsibility. I won't drag you down with me. Don't tell me that you don't trust me with this little bit of character?" Jiang Zhao sighed and said, "Tell me, how do you want to do this?" "Xiaoya is married. I want her to get a divorce." "Married?" "Yes. The other party is the young master of Su's jewelry. You know that Su's jewelry stores are all over the big shopping malls. When Xiaoya and I got married, we picked out the diamonds there. His power is not to be underestimated. I can't act rashly. But you have the ability to help me create a disturbance in the Su family. Yichen, have you considered the possibility that Xiaoya and the young master of the Su family have feelings for each other?" Zhuang Yichen shook his head coldly and said, "I don't care. Even if there are feelings, they have to be broken." Jiang Zhao sighed and said, "That's too much." He knew that Zhuang Yichen was anxious, but he wasn't that impulsive. "No, the Su family has roots in the south. The Peis and the Qins have a marriage agreement. You have a good relationship with Shinkai. Xin Xian is also the daughter-in-law of the Pei family. If you're willing to use the Pei family's connections, it won't be difficult to suppress the Su family." Jiang Zhao clenched his fist and wanted to smash it on his forehead. Wasn't he vexed that he couldn't use the Pei family's connections? Feiyu wasn't willing to marry over it all. The Qin family hadn't communicated with the Pei family and thought that time would pass. It was true that he had a good relationship with Xin Xian, but why had Xin Xian married into the Pei family? What was going on? He couldn't possibly use his sister's happiness to exchange for Zhuang Yichen's happiness. This was a problem that couldn't be compared. "I don't want to use the Pei family's connections for the time being. I'll think of another way. Can you hurry up? It won't be soon. Brother Zhao, I can't wait too long." "What do you want the Su family to do?" "The possibility of bankruptcy. That's impossible. After all, they're very powerful. However, the huge turmoil has caused the family to pressure them to get a divorce. This must be done quickly. It can't be delayed." Zhuang Yichen knew that a long delay meant trouble. The longer they delayed, the more prepared they would be. If Xiaoya didn't want to return to his side now, she would definitely find a way to deal with it. He couldn't give her this time. 10 days later. All of the Su jewelry in Haiqing had quality problems. Fake jade was mixed in and sold at high prices. There wasn't enough gold and the diamond grade certificate was fake. Shoddy goods. The Supreme Court of Haiqing handled customer complaints and broadcasted the news on the provincial TV channel. This news quickly became the first news on the provincial TV channel. The newspapers and periodicals occupied the main page. For a time, the Su family was in danger. They also regretted it. The chairman of the Su family was listening to the phone with his eyes closed. The man on the other end said lazily and confidently, "I just want your son to divorce Jiang Xiaoyu, and this matter will settle down." Zhuang Yichen knew that he couldn't go out and force Xiaoya. He had to wait for her to appear. However, 5 days later, he still hadn't received any news about the divorce of the young master of the Su family. He couldn't sit still anymore. He knew that she was so heartless. She was going to treat him like how she treated Kang Iyun, but he wasn't Kang Iyun. Kang Iyun was already married, but he wasn't. He didn't believe that he couldn't find her in this lifetime. If he couldn't find her in this lifetime, he would be single. Since he had found her, he wouldn't let her abandon him. He wasn't Kang Iyun. He couldn't do it. Qiu Xiaoyao was his and she could only be his. Xiaoyu was playing with Yo-Yo in the garden. When her phone rang, she thought it was Su Jian. While paying attention to Yo-Yo, she swiped the phone without looking at the screen. Jian, what's wrong? Jian? Zhuang Yichen smiled coldly. Xiaoyu was shocked for a moment. Zhuang Yichen said, hang up. The Su family is in trouble again. What trouble? Xiaoyu didn't understand. It seems like you don't know. The Su family is about to collapse and it's all because of you. Xiaoyu rarely watched television, especially the news. She wouldn't even touch the internet. She didn't want to contact the outside world, so how could she know about the Su family situation? What has it got to do with me? Because I've said it before. If you don't divorce Su Jian, I'll bring down this ace family. Do you believe me? Xiaoyu hung up the phone, and it fell to the ground because she couldn't hold it properly. Su Jian was still the same as usual when he returned home. He still had a warm smile on his face and he took care of his daughter and her carefully. He told his daughter bedtime stories, kissed her, hugged her to sleep and kissed her passionately. She turned on the computer at home and began to search. When she saw the full page of news, she began to cry. The location of the incident was Haiqing. She knew that Zhuang Yichen had the ability to do so. How could a family with a diamond family's reputation be tarnished? However, her husband, who had helped her through thick and thin, was smiling gently in front of her. He was gentle and meticulous. How could he do this when such a big thing had happened to his family? He could do this. Su Jian. Xiaoyu lay on the computer table, sobbing uncontrollably. All these years, she had never cried for another man. Su Jian said, Xiaoyu, I can't say that I can walk into your heart and make you feel happy, but I won't make you cry. I'll do my best to make you smile. When she was with him, she really didn't cry. He was always thinking of her. He let her sleep in peace and let their daughter Wuyu. In order to make her stop crying, he endured the pressure and smiled at her. How did he manage to smile? Xiaoyu cried until she had no energy left. She knew that Zhuang Yichen was the kind of person who would do things to the end. She couldn't find her phone, so she ran back to the garden. Yo-Yo was still catching butterflies outside. Xiaoyu picked up the phone on the ground and dialed the number that she had just received. The person on the other end picked up quickly and shouted anxiously, Xiaoyao. Zhuang Yichen, you're so ruthless. Do you still want me to come back to your side? Xiaoyao, I want you to come back to my side every day. Every day. Xiaoyu laughed sarcastically. Ah, that's funny. Aren't you a clean freak? I've already remarried. I have my own husband. I have the most intimate relationship with him. You actually want someone else to sleep with you? There was silence on the other end of the phone. Just as Xiaoyu was about to hang up, Zhuang Yichen let out a long sigh. Xiaoyao, you dare to climb into my bed to forget Kang Iyun? Do you think I don't know that you'll use the same method to forget me? For the past 800 days, I've already known that you have another man. There's no doubt about it. It's just that I haven't been able to find you. Are you a clean freak? The tie on my neck and the handkerchief on my chest have only been washed twice in the past 2 years. Do you think I'll find them dirty? Xiaoyu listened to the man's voice on the other end of the phone. A man who refuses to let go of the past is the most. Before she could finish her sentence, Zhuang Yichen continued, the most useless? Come and see. Hongcha 866. Chapter 784. Ha, he mocked himself coldly. Why do I need to be successful? Who do I need to prove it to? Is there anyone around me who can see my potential? Uncle Lee? He doesn't need me. He has seen every side of me. What does it matter if I'm successful or not? She was stunned. Don't you read the news? Don't you go online? Don't you read the newspapers? He questioned angrily. Little demon Xiao, do you have a conscience? I've been looking for you for so many years. I've explained to you. I've stood in front of so many people to explain to you, but you didn't respond to me at all. You hid so far away to give birth to another man's child. How can you be so cruel? Xiaoyu gripped the phone so tightly that her hands turned white. You've always known that I'm the most heartless. Otherwise, I would have turned back when Kang Iyun came back to find me. Yes, I know. You're the most heartless and loyal. Have you fallen in love with Su Jian now? Yes, I love him. How you loved me back then too. When the time comes, you'll forget about him just like how you forgot about me. I won't because he loves me. I love you too. Xiaoyu closed her eyes forcefully. Zhuang Yichen, let's stop. This storm will pass. We have a child. We can never be separated. All right then, I'll let you see the Su family suffer a crushing defeat. I Zhuang Yichen am all alone now. What do I have to be afraid of? Other people's families are ruined. What about me? I'm all alone. I'm all alone. What do I have to be afraid of? Zhuang Yichen almost lost control of himself as he roared into the phone. Don't you love him? If you love him, then sacrifice for him and come back to me. I love him, so I'll face his difficulties together with him. What a joke. Zhuang Yichen held the phone in one hand. His knuckles turned white as he gripped the phone tightly. Suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his heart. It was so painful that he tasted blood. A sweet smell rushed out and he coughed softly. When Li Yong saw this, he was shocked, but he didn't dare to say anything. He quickly pulled out a tissue and helped Zhuang Yichen wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. Zhuang Yichen didn't care about that. He gripped the armrest of the chair tightly as if he was going to break it. Face it together? Were they going to watch the Su family collapse together? Watching the sunset? Even if you don't care, don't the Su family care? For the sake of your selfish desires, do you want to cause so many members of the Su family to suffer with you? Xiaoyu was shocked. She felt that she had fallen into the abyss again. She just wanted to live a peaceful life, a life that a normal woman should live. She was content to have a man like Su Jian. What else was there to be dissatisfied with in this life? Zhuang Yichen, you can't do whatever you want in this world. I can't cover the sky with one hand. I'm not covering the sky. I'm going to overturn the earth and perish together with him. Anyway, I'm going all out. If you want to see him fall with me, then continue to persevere. But little demon Xiao, you'll suffer more if you stay by his side for the rest of your life than if you stay by my side. Zhuang Yichen, it's been so many years. Can't you just let it go? If you really love me, then let me go and let me live a peaceful life. Can't you? Little demon. He held his forehead and closed his eyes. That kind of painful frown was just like his voice. I can't do anything. How can I let it go? Come back and take a look. Everything in the house is still the same as before you left. I didn't dare to touch any of the furnishings in the house. I've had people repair all the things that were cut. Little demon, even in Qingfeng Garden, your password box is still in its original position. There's not a speck of dust on it. How can I let it go? People who let it go have no obsession. I have an obsession in my heart, so how can I let it go? Little demon, you're my obsession. I can't let it go for the rest of my life. When Xiaoyu lowered her head, her tears were already falling. Why bother? He treated her like that back then and only said that he couldn't let it go after she left. He was silent for a while. His voice was sad and gentle. Little demon, you hate me for what happened back then. But do you know how difficult it was for me? There were more than 30 bugs in the house. Among the dozens of servants, there were 5 spies. If you were the one who got hurt on that rainy night, Xian Man wouldn't have been the one who got hurt. I took care of Xian Man. The spies all reported to Zhuang Yifeng that Zhuang Yifeng killed Xian Man on the day you left. Little demon, if I didn't do that, the person who died would have been you. I usually communicate with Uncle Li through tacit understanding. On the night you were kidnapped, I sent an email to Jianghu to tell him not to interfere in my affairs. I was afraid that I would implicate him. Little demon, do you know how difficult it was for me? You didn't even wait for me for a few more days. That day, as soon as Zhuang Yifeng died, I immediately went to look for you. I even bought you your favorite high heels, little demon. She heard the man on the other end of the phone. He was sobbing uncontrollably, but he was holding it in and did not wail out loud. There must be thunder in the sky for her ears and brain to explode with a rumbling sound. It must have been raining. That was why her face was so wet. It was raining heavily. Her entire face and the front of her shirt were wet. She steadied her breathing and asked in a trembling voice, Zhuang Yichen, you said that if you didn't save Xian Man, I would have been the one who got hurt. But what if it was really like what Zhuang Yichen said and he would kill whoever he didn't save? She was just lucky. If that's the case, I'll kill him and then accompany you. I won't let you be alone. She heard the man say it so firmly. The phone in her hand hung up and fell onto the lawn. There was no sound at all. She hugged Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo, Yo-Yo, she cried in a low voice. Mommy, don't cry. Mommy, don't cry. You won't be pretty if you cry. Mommy, mommy. Sob, sob. Seeing that she could not calm Xiaoyu down, Yo-Yo began to cry as well. Her cries became louder and louder. Usually, Xiaoyu would not have been able to take it if Yo-Yo were to cry like this. However, this time, Xiaoyu just let her be. She wanted to hear her cry. Xiaoyu recalled the time when she had just given birth to her child. The child's loud cries had shaken her eardrums. Xiaoyu hugged her daughter and thought about her life. She had been through 3 men. The first one was that she was young and brave. She loved without any care and then got hurt. The second one was that she had been hurt before. She was careful to only give her body and not her feelings. She wanted to use this man to make herself stand at the peak. She wanted her ex to see how amazing she was. However, in the process she fell in love with her sugar daddy. Even before she died, she wanted to tell him, "I think I've fallen in love with you." The third one was that she finally saw through everything. What love? What body? She just needed a companion. When one was old, one needed a companion. Normal people would not spend the rest of their lives alone. That was a plot in novels. She wanted to find an ordinary person like her father, to live the most ordinary life. There would be love even if they helped each other in difficult times. Who could resist a man like Su Jian and not be touched? However, everything was about to come to an end. How much did she know about Zhuang Yichen's ruthlessness? Was Xian Man dead? Was Zhuang Yifeng dead? What would he do to the Su Corporation? At night, the man and woman kissed passionately on the bed. Their sweat soaked the blanket until their passion finally faded. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Xiaoyu was still naked. She hugged Su Jian's neck and said softly, "Jian, let's get a divorce." The man was obviously not asleep either. His body stiffened. Even his voice was stiff. "What if I say that I don't agree?" Xiaoyu raised her head, but she could not see his face clearly in the dark. "Jian, this family can't be destroyed because of me," he said confidently. "This family won't be destroyed. Just need some time. After a while, everything will be fine. You have to believe me." "But how can the old people in this family take it?" "Jian, they will be tortured to the point of collapse at any time." He shook his head. Without hesitation he said, "Xiaoyu, I won't agree to a divorce. Do you think that I, Su Jian, am marrying a wife as child's play? Do you think that I was playing around when I got married in a flash? I won't get a divorce. Even if I go bankrupt, I won't get a divorce." "Xiaoyu, what did you say?" "We are husband and wife. You hugged Yo-Yo and told me that we are a family and will never be separated. Xiaoyu, you can't lie to me." "Jian," Xiaoyu sobbed softly. Why did she hate herself so much? Why didn't she just die like how she left Kang Yun? Why did she have to meet Zhuang Yichen? Why did she have to come to the south? Why did she have to marry Su Jian? A woman like her should just jump into the river and drown. "My name is not Xiaoyu. My name is—" Su Jian suddenly hugged her and pressed her head tightly against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat in his chest. It was extremely frantic. She heard his voice, which was filled with panic and excitement. "No. Your name is Xiaoyu. Your name is Jiang Xiaoyu. Su Jian's wife is Jiang Xiaoyu. When she first came to Qing County, she was just a young girl who made curtains. Later on, she married Su Jian and is now Su Jian's wife. She is Wu Yu's mother." More and more water started to drip from the top of her head. She knew that the man who was hugging her was crying. Her heart ached. She had been so solitary that she had not even told him her real name. Jian, she did not know what to do. She thought that perhaps she was really a hindrance in this world. In the past, she had committed suicide for Kang Yun because she was impulsive and possessed. She was already past that age. Now she felt that she should not exist. If Zhuang Yichen had not found her, everything would still be peaceful. Yo-Yo would hug Su Jian's neck every day and act coquettishly. "Daddy, Yo-Yo misses Daddy. Yo-Yo wants Daddy to tell her stories. Yo-Yo wants to ride a horse. Yo-Yo wants butterflies. Yo-Yo wants to sit on Daddy's neck. Jian, if I'm not here anymore, please take good care of Yo-Yo." She hugged him and sobbed. "Xiaoyu." Su Jian was stunned. "You don't want Yo-Yo anymore? Xiaoyu, you don't want Yo-Yo anymore? She's your daughter." He was so shocked that his heartstrings were about to snap. Come and see. Xinwu 799. Chapter 785. Xiaoyu sat up and asked, "What's wrong? You don't want to? Because Yo-Yo isn't your biological daughter, you don't want to raise her on your own, right?" She knew how hurtful her words were, how hurtful they were, but what could she do? She could only hurt him. If she did not hurt him, how could he let her go? She was a femme fatale. Su Jian immediately sat up and hugged Xiaoyu. "What are you talking about? When have I ever thought of you like that? Xiaoyu, ever since I found out that you were pregnant, I have been taking care of you like a father. How can you think of me like that? The matter with the company will pass. It won't cause much of a stir. I will handle it well. Zhuang Yichen was speechless. How could he let the matter rest? He said that he had no choice but to hurt me in the past. So you want to turn back? Zhiyan. Xiaoyu's eyes had been closed the entire time. She relied on her breathing and hearing to discern the man's feelings. You know that I am someone who no longer has the ability to love. Yes, I know. You said that we are family. You promised me that we will be a married couple for the rest of our lives. What's the point of love if not love? A life of mutual help is the longest, isn't it? He did not care whether she had love or not. All he knew was that he loved her. People like me. Xiaoyu had not felt heartache for a long time. But now her heart began to ache again. People like me who had been in a mental hospital. You are the only one who did not despise me. You even helped me to keep the child. Jiyan, I am actually a scourge, am I not? Su Jiyan caressed the tears on her face carefully and gently. He coaxed her just like how he used to do in the past. Xiaoyu, it's not your fault. You were mentally ill at that time, but it was only temporary. You recovered after a while. You have a strong will. Everything is normal now, isn't it? He had never thought that a woman who looked so normal on the surface could be so friendly and polite to everyone. She was smart and the curtains were beautiful and exquisite. Everyone spoke highly of her. There was nothing strange about her actions, not even the look in her eyes. But such a woman had a very serious psychological problem. She had hit the wall several times and her head was bleeding. He could not describe how he saw her the next day after washing her face like a normal person. Compared to her actions the night before, he was incomparably shocked. He saw her curled up in the corner, grabbing her hair and slapping herself. She slapped herself until the corners of her mouth bled. She clenched her teeth and cried. At that time he felt that if he stood by her side, he could protect her from the storm. When she was not sick, she called him Zhiyan. When she was sick, she hugged him and begged, Yichen, I want to get married. Marry me. Yo-Yo was an angel. He was simply an angel. This angel cured her schizophrenia. Day by day she slowly got better. This year she finally stopped calling him Yichen. She would snuggle in his arms and call him Zhiyan. Even if she had a dream at night and he walked into her room thinking that she was sick, she would sit up and see him. She would clearly know that the person standing in front of her was Su Zhiyan. This year his life was finally on the right track. She began to accept him. She said that although she no longer had the strength to love, she would be a good wife and grow old with her husband, as long as he didn't despise her. You do as she said. How could he mind? He had been looking forward to this day for a long time. But it had only been a few months and she said that she wanted to leave. He wanted to run his business for the rest of his life, but she would only stay for a while. Zhiyan, a man should focus on his career. Family business. A man can only have a career if he has a family. Xiaoyu patted him on the shoulder. Go to sleep. Don't force me. I don't want to go crazy for a man again. She had really had enough of this life. She had died once for a man and gone crazy once for a man. It was not easy to meet a man who treated her so well. He did not care about whether she loved him or not. She thought that she was fulfilled. But she was destined not to be fulfilled. She closed her eyes and thought about it. Perhaps she was a demon in her previous life. She had violated the laws of heaven and was struck down by the gods. She had to suffer the pain of reincarnation. It was more unforgettable than being tempered by volcanoes. Now she felt that she was better off dead. The next day Su Zhiyan went to work very early. He asked Xiaoyu to stay at home with Gigai. He would come back early and settle the company matters. Xiaoyu only smiled and let him go to work. She hugged Yo-Yo and played in the garden. Then she handed Yo-Yo to the servant and went upstairs. She sat in front of her desk and began to write a letter. I don't want any of you to find me. I'm very tired. I just want to find a quiet place with Yo-Yo to live. The past is the past. I don't have the strength to take it anymore. Please forgive me for being weak. I'm so afraid of that feeling. I'm so selfish, right? I don't want to, but I don't have the strength. I'm afraid that if I continue like this, I won't even have the strength to live. Don't look for me. Don't be like Zhuang Yichen. I beg you. Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu packed a few clothes and carried them to the basement. She knew that there was a way to the underground garage. There was a branch that led to the other end of the neighborhood. She knew that Zhuang Yichen had spies outside the villa. She knew that her existence was a disaster. But she still had Yo-Yo. She could give up on anyone but Yo-Yo. She did not want to touch any man in this lifetime. She had nowhere else to hurt him. Xiaoyu got out of the taxi and carried Yo-Yo. There was milk powder and some clothes in her suitcase. She carried Yo-Yo with one hand and pulled her suitcase with the other. She anxiously walked towards the airport entrance. Please give me a ticket to Beijing and a ticket for the baby. She thought that if she wanted to find someone in Beijing, Guangzhou, and Shanghai, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. She would find a job and hire a nanny to take care of Yo-Yo. Then she would live a good life. Please wait a moment, the airline ticket agent behind the glass answered politely. What time do you want? The nearest one. There's still time to change your boarding pass. 3 in the afternoon. Is that okay? 3 in the afternoon? Is this the nearest one? Yes. All the other first-class cabins are full. How about Shanghai? The ticket agent was puzzled. There were people who changed their flight times. She had never seen people who changed their flight times. 10 in the morning. Xiaoyu was anxious. Then I want the one in Shanghai, she said. Yo-Yo hugged Xiaoyu's neck. Mommy, where are we going? Shanghai, baby. Yo-Yo's eyes lit up. Mommy, where's Daddy? Aren't we going to wait for him? Xiaoyu bit her lip. Baby, Daddy is busy. Let's go first. Mommy, I want to call Daddy. Xiaoyu's eyes were red and she was about to cry. She held it in. Baby, Mommy's phone is out of battery. Call him when we arrive, okay? Okay. Xiaoyu had just taken her ticket. Before she walked to the boarding pass counter, she heard a familiar middle-aged man's voice. Young mistress, young master asked me to come and pick you up. Xiaoyu turned around and saw Li Yong bowing to her. Behind him were 6 strong men. Just as she was about to call for security, Li Yong said calmly and respectfully, Young mistress, I believe that if there's a conflict, although you can escape, it will be difficult for Xiaoyu to escape unscathed. Bullets have no eyes. She might lose her life. Xiaoyu's body trembled. She suddenly let go of her luggage and hugged Yo-Yo tightly. Her body trembled nervously. Xiaoyu's departure almost caused Su Jian to break down. He fell to the ground and the letter was spread across his face. In the past, when he saw her bleeding from her head again and again, his heart ached. When he heard her call him Ichen, his heart ached too. But now, pain could no longer be used to describe what he was feeling. His heart was suddenly frozen and then suddenly shattered by a heavy object. When it shattered, the sound of it falling to the ground was very clear. He clearly heard the sound of his heart shattering, but he could not feel the pain now. Was it because of the quick freeze that caused him to feel numb? But the temperature was rising and the ice and snow were melting. He could feel it. His heart was empty, and all the blood in his veins could not find a place to exchange. The broken pieces of his heart on the ground began to hurt. There were pieces of his heart everywhere, and it hurt everywhere. He had never wanted her to love him. He had never wanted her body and heart to belong to him. He had thought for a long time that it would be enough for him to love her as a married couple. When he loved her, when she accepted his love, he was happy. He thought about the first time he saw her. She stood there smiling at him, but the melancholy in her eyes was so shocking. He thought about the end of spring this year. When he kissed her, she did not avoid him anymore. She began to respond to him. When he took off her clothes, she smiled gently at him. But he cried. She left and begged him not to look for her. She begged him to let her have a peaceful life. He knew that she had always been begging for a peaceful life. She wanted a peaceful life. What about him? Where could he go to find peace? She begged him to give her a peaceful life. Who could he ask for a peaceful life? Xiaoyu, you're just Xiaoyu. Didn't they say that a fish's memory only lasted 7 seconds? Why are you doing this? There was a knock on the door. A servant said softly outside the door, Sir, there's a Mr. Zhuang looking for you. Su Jian suddenly shuddered. He sat up. When he heard the word Zhuang, it was as if he could see Xiaoyu. Bring him to the study. Asterisk in the study. Compared to Su Jian, Zhuang Yichen did not look much better. However, one person seemed to have been defeated and was in a terrible state. The other person seemed to be full of injuries and was fighting with all his might. It was tragic and resolute. The two of them sat in the same position as if they were having a fair negotiation. There was a coffee table between them. Zhuang Yichen did not drink tea. I'm taking Xiaoyu away with me. He said this calmly, but his gaze was like a poisonous sword. He looked at the man opposite him and had the urge to cut him into pieces. Su Jian stood up. Where is she? You don't have the right to do that. What? I'm talking about Xiaoyu. Do you know who she is? Zhuang Yichen crossed his legs. His tone was calm and his gaze was fierce. Do you know someone called Xiaoyu? Su Jian's eyes flashed with panic. I don't know her. Beauty novel Xingwu 799. Chapter 786. Zhuang Yichen snorted coldly. Su Jian, you may not know who Qiu Xiaoye is, but in the past 2 years I've made a name for myself in the business world, haven't I? I've made a name for myself in order to find a wife. How could you not know that the woman Zhuang Yichen is looking for is Qiu Xiaoye? Do you dare say that you haven't seen photos of me, Mrs. Zhuang Yichen, in the major magazines and media? If she had seen my explanation in front of the audience earlier, do you think she would have stayed? So, you've blocked my information and didn't reveal my explanation to her at all. I just found out that Xiaoye hasn't read newspapers, magazines, or television for the past few years. She's practically cut off from the outside world. You're a good husband and you've fulfilled her request. So, all the channels in your house are children's channels and only the children's channel is available on demand, right? Su Jian was shocked. Mr. Zhuang, I don't know what you're talking about. Actually, you recognized me when you saw me outside the amusement park, didn't you? Zhuang Yichen sneered. I didn't come here to fight with you. She's my wife. Jiang Xiaoyu is just a fake identity. Her real identity is Qiu Xiaoye. It doesn't matter whether you're divorced or not because Jiang Xiaoyu no longer exists. Su Jian's eyes were bloodshot. As he ran over, he grabbed Zhuang Yichen's shirt. Give Xiaoyu back to me. Xiaoyu? Who's Xiaoyu? I don't know. Zhuang Yichen did not fight back. I just want to tell you that you should live a good life. I'll keep this secret for you. I believe that Xiaoyu will hate you when she finds out that you've been hiding information about me for the past 2 years. However, you know very well that her mental state has always been unstable. I don't want to agitate her or make her hate you. You can live forever in her heart. Don't care. Su Jian could not come back to his senses. He frowned and suddenly smiled. He let go of Zhuang Yichen and said sarcastically, You're so generous. If I had a choice, I wouldn't choose to be generous. Zhuang Yichen turned around and was about to leave when he suddenly added, I think she'll want to see you live a good life. As for the child, if you love her. Su Jian was surprised. Zhuang Yichen didn't know about this? Xiaoyu didn't tell him? I'll take back my child and my wife. You and me, I'm sans. But you and me and I are. If I don't have I'm is to be to is. I have no parents, no elders, no relatives. The only thing I can lose is everything I have. Everything I have inside and outside is just me and all of my assets. I don't know if you can afford to lose. If you can afford to lose your entire Su family, you can fight against them and force them to marry you. But if you want to see them destroyed along with you and me, I don't mind. Su Jian could see the ruthlessness in Zhuang Yichen's eyes. It was as if he was going to kill him. Crazy. Zhuang Yichen had always known that if he wanted to be with Xiaoye again, she would have to accept him again. In the past 2 years he hadn't changed, but she had. She had a family and a child. But he was still in the same place. He knew that it wasn't fair. He thought that perhaps he had always been such a one-track-minded man. Back then, for the sake of revenge, he had single-mindedly thought that he had to get rid of all his enemies. That kind of belief had always been rooted in his heart. When she left, he had also single-mindedly thought that he had to find her and be together with her. That was how it had taken root. Whatever he did, it was the same. It was the same for his career. Perhaps he was a little stubborn. He knew that, but he couldn't change it. He pulled her into the villa. She kept asking, Where's Yo-Yo? I've asked Uncle Lee to take care of Yo-Yo. He'll take good care of her. Don't worry. He comforted her softly. He thought that he was the one who had hurt her back then. Everything that had happened was because of him. He was worried that she would be afraid and didn't tell her. That was why it had happened. He couldn't blame her. Yo-Yo will cry if she doesn't see me. Let me see Yo-Yo. Xiaoye's eyes reddened. She followed him into the villa. Her heart wasn't here. Her heart was with Yo-Yo. That was her life. Her life. No one could replace her. He was a little angry, but he held it in. He held her hand with one hand and opened the shoe cabinet with the other. The helpers stood far away. They couldn't bear to disturb them because they had never seen Sir bring anyone home. Sir had never opened the shoe cabinet for anyone before. There was a pair of beige cotton slippers. There was a pair of cute little bears on the shoes. He bent down and placed the slippers in front of her. Little demon, these are your shoes. Xiaoye didn't look at the shoes. She was very anxious. Where's Yo-Yo? His face turned cold. Change your shoes. I'll tell you. Xiaoye quickly changed her shoes. Her heart was beating very fast. She was very afraid. Her mind was in a mess. She was uneasy and terrified. He pulled her up the stairs and into the bedroom. He pulled her to the bed and pressed her hands against the bed. The blanket on the bed was bright red. It was a European-style palace. It was thick with lace and lotus leaves. It was very luxurious. Little demon, you made this in the past. It's still so beautiful, isn't it? He pulled her to the wardrobe and opened the door. The clothes hanging inside were arranged according to color. He pulled her hands over and slid them over. Little demon, look. These clothes are all made by you in the past. They haven't changed at all, right? Also, look at our wedding photos. Little demon, I even bought you a pair of shoes that day. After that, I bought them for every festival and your birthday. Let me take you to try them out. Xiaoye's nerves started to ache. When she saw this room, she saw a woman from back then. She sat on the floor and cut the fabric in the wind. Then she dragged her suitcase and left. After she left, she returned to the house in Qingfeng Garden. She cleaned the room to pass the time. She was so lonely. She waited every day. She waited for a man named Zhuang Yichen to regret. She waited for him to come and find her after he regretted. But she didn't wait. She couldn't wait. She couldn't wait anymore. She left. She was like a normal person during the day. But after a period of time, when night fell, she couldn't help but hurt herself. She didn't want to. She wanted to control herself, but she couldn't. She hit the wall. The wall creaked and the wall was stained with blood. She bit her lip until it bled. She hated herself for falling in love so easily. She hated herself for not learning her lesson. She hit herself and scolded herself for not living up to expectations. Then she cried and cried, Zhuang Yichen. She watched the woman's pass just like that. Tears streamed down her face. She was hugged by a man named Zhuang Yichen. She heard him say, I'm sorry, little demon. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Yichen, it's been so long. It's not that long. It's only been 2 years. I'm not who I was back then. Do you understand? She had remarried, but that wasn't the point. The point was that starting from this spring, she had decided to let go of her obsession and live a normal life. Yes, because I'm not who I was back then either. Let me take Yo-Yo away. Even if there was a misunderstanding back then, it's been so long. Things are the same, but people are different. We've all changed. I haven't changed. I won't go back to Jiyan. I just want to live with Yo-Yo. Let Jiyan go. Let me go. Let me go. His chest started to rise and fall. His anger was rising and falling. He couldn't lose his temper. He thought she would be touched. Once, in order to find her, she even agreed to let the reporters into this room to film. He told her in front of the camera that he had mended these things, but it was very delicate and wouldn't be too tight. Hence, he didn't dare to wash them. When she came back, he hoped she could do more. So many people were so touched that they cried. Even Jiang Zhao and Jiang Zhao didn't dare to mention these touching things in front of him. But she didn't. She only thought about her and Su Jian's daughter. A child would always be the biggest burden. He held her shoulders and pushed her a little further away. Little devil, give birth to a child for me. She was shocked. What did you say? He was a little anxious. Give me a child. You said that you would give birth to my child. She pushed him away and said agitatedly, I will only have Yo-Yo for the rest of my life. I won't have another child. She wouldn't have another child. She couldn't go through the emotions of having a child. She had one and one was enough. His rationality began to crumble uncontrollably. The things that he wanted to tolerate in his heart began to explode. She could have children outside because of him. He couldn't blame her, but she couldn't refuse to have his children. Only when she had children would she think of him with all her heart. I don't care. You have to give birth to my child. He hugged her and kissed her. Little demon, give birth to my child. I only want Yo-Yo. I only want Yo-Yo. She struggled to escape. She knew that she and Zhuang Yichen were divorced. She was Zhuang Yichen's wife now. Zhuang Yichen couldn't touch her. Definitely not. Zhuang Yichen, my husband is Su Jian. Su Jian's wife is Jiang Xiaoyu. Your marriage certificate is just a piece of scrap paper. He pressed her down on the bed and shouted at her. He forgot that he shouldn't be shouting at her. He should be coaxing her. But his jealousy was uncontrollable. He hated it when she mentioned that man. Zhuang Yichen. That's impossible. Why? Little demon, how can you be so vicious to me? You're practically immune to poison now. What do you want me to do? She smiled. She smiled until tears welled up in her eyes. Was it vicious? Zhuang Yichen, do you know that I was once deeply poisoned by you? There was no cure. For those days and nights I almost died from the poison. I'm not born immune to poison. I'm afraid of being poisoned again. I don't want to live like that again." He pressed her down. Seeing the rejection in her eyes, his eyes were burning. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fine. Little demon Xiao. If you want that little B** star to live, give me a child. Give me a child too." He smiled cruelly. "You know, I can even kill my own brother." Her heart trembled. He actually called Yo-Yo a little B** starred. How could he? What? That's right. He was surrounded by enemies. She couldn't let Yo-Yo stay by his side. She wanted to live a peaceful life. Even if Yo-Yo couldn't live like Miss, she didn't want her to experience those terrible things. Her original intention was to let Yo-Yo Wuyu live a carefree life. Even if he called Yo-Yo a little B** starred, she wouldn't tell him that Yo-Yo was his daughter. What if one day many years later, someone hung Yo-Yo up and pointed a gun at him to make a choice? What should he do? Welfare Xinwu 799. Chapter 787. She could not afford to go through it again. She had lived her entire life in the past few years. She had had enough. She did not want love or affection. She only wanted a peaceful life with her daughter. He saw tears welling up in her eyes as she shivered. He started to regret it. He hugged her and shivered as well. He hugged her a little too tightly. How did she let go? How should he learn from her? "Xiaoyao, give birth to a child for me. Just give birth to a child. After you give birth, you can leave with Yo-Yo. I won't stop you. Leave a child for me." She was stunned. She was stunned. She knew what he was capable of. If he insisted on something, he would not give up. "You said it." "Yeah. I might not be able to give birth to a son." He said gently, "Our daughter is good too. Okay. I need to sign an agreement with you. After you give birth to the child, I will leave. After you give birth to the child, don't let me see it. Don't let me know its gender." She had been a mother before. She knew that sometimes, a single glance could mean a lifetime. But if she did not give birth to a child for him, what would happen to Yo-Yo? "Okay. As long as you give birth to my child, I will let you and Yo-Yo go." He got off her body and bent down to wipe her tears. Then he stood up straight. "I'll go and draft the agreement." Xiaoya thought that Zhuang Yichen would come and touch her soon. But he did not. He only came back to have dinner with her and said some nice things to her. Ever since she signed the agreement, Zhuang Yichen brought Yo-Yo to her. He even showed her the information about the Su enterprise. Slowly, everything returned to normal. He did not forget to add, "It's not easy to achieve peace. Xiaoyao, don't ruin it." She knew that he was threatening her. But as long as the Su enterprise was fine, everything was fine. She had Yo-Yo and Su Jian had his career. She couldn't have everything. Li Yong tidied up Zhuang Yichen's room and kept the medical records. "Young master, you don't have to go to the office for now. You just had the operation. It's okay. The doctor said that it's just a vasectomy. I can go back to work the next day." He had spent too much time looking for her over the years. Now that she was back, he had to take care of the company. "Young master, since young madam has agreed to have a child," Zhuang Yichen smiled bitterly. "Uncle Li, I can't let her get pregnant. You know that she's even more ruthless than me." After he finished speaking, Li Yong couldn't bear to continue. "Young master, what about the Su family? Talk to their chairman. I can lend them money to get through this without interest, but they have to be responsible for taking care of Su Jian. Otherwise, I won't help them in their hour of need. I will add frost to their snow. I'll go now." Zhuang Yichen knew that he was the one who had brought all of this upon himself. Xiaoya had given her heart to him back then, but he had been too careful, which had led to the current situation. He was still able to bear it, but he couldn't bear the thought of Xiaoya leaving him again. He knew that the past 2 years hadn't been easy. He had thought of many endings, but the current situation was already considered good. He knew that Xiaoya had feelings for Su Jian, but more than that, she probably wanted him to be safe. Therefore, he would help with the Su family situation. Su Jian had dozens of people in the Su family holding him back, so he couldn't cause too much trouble. Everyone had experienced heartache before, but everyone had different responsibilities. Su Jian's responsibility was the Su family. And Zhuang Yichen's responsibility was Qiu Xiaoyao. There was no one by his side, only her. He left the house and went to the company. He called Xia Qian and Yi Er to come over and accompany Xiaoya. Yi Er's twin sons. Xia Qian's daughter was about the same age as Yo-Yo. She was still holding the baby in her hands and she was already pregnant with another one. She complained to Xiaoya, I don't care about the others. I really don't want to have another child, but Grandpa treats me too well. I feel like I'm letting him down if I don't have a son. The Qin family only has Fian, how can they not have a son? So annoying. Why didn't Dad and Mom have more sons back then? Xiaoya looked at Xia Qian's blissful face and touched her face. Qian, think more about Fian. You have to be happier during your pregnancy. In the garden, the 4 children were sweating profusely while the 3 mothers sat far away. When they came, Jiang Zhao and Qin Fian had greeted Yi Er and Xia Qian, telling them not to talk nonsense and to talk more about how to take care of the children, what to feed the children, what to play at this age, and what to teach the children in the future. In short, they weren't allowed to talk about anything other than the children. Xia Qian was no longer the Xia Qian of the past. She was able to distinguish many things clearly. Although she was always loud and imposing towards Qin Fian, she was actually willing to listen to Qin Fian's reasoning. Yi Er didn't need to say anything. She had always followed Jiang Zhao's words blindly. Jiang Zhao was her idol. If Jiang Zhao said something she couldn't say, she wouldn't say it no matter what. Time passed very quickly. Even if the women were talking about the children, they could talk for a few hours. The little boy had a strong sense of protecting the weak since he was young. Especially when his 2 younger sisters ran around with him, he could show the demeanor of a big brother even though they were not even 3 years old. Children forgot everything very quickly. Every day Yo-Yo would ask for Daddy. Zhuang Yichen was very careful and never carried Xiaoya in front of Yo-Yo. Instead, he would carry Yo-Yo around the garden to play. He thought that if he wanted to be with Xiaoya for the rest of his life, Xiaoya loved Yo-Yo so much, no matter how much he wanted this child to belong to another man, he had to force himself to accept it and accept it. But he realized that he seemed to have an affinity with this child. When he saw this child smile, his eyes would turn into crescents. It was as if he saw a replica of Xiaoyao smiling. It was so cute. Sometimes when he went to work he would think that Yo-Yo was a cute child. He would tie the knot. Actually, it was not bad for Yo-Yo to be by Xiaoya's side. Time passed day by day. He felt that he didn't have to force himself to accept it. He seemed to have gotten used to it. The child also seemed to be happier day by day. In the beginning she would miss Daddy so much that she cried. Now she was clingy to him and wanted him to tell her stories. She said that Daddy would tell her stories at night and that Daddy was busy with work. Uncle would tell her stories. He would take a book and read it. Later he slowly learned how to use his voice to tell the child stories. He watched as Yo-Yo slowly fell asleep after his voice ended. He thought, Xiaoyao, you said in the past that you would give birth to my child. But now you gave birth to someone else's child. Zhuang Yichen didn't touch Xiaoya. However, Xiaoya became more and more restless. She lived in this villa and would always have dreams. She dreamed that Zhuang Yichen kidnapped her daughter. She wanted to leave. She wanted to leave with Yo-Yo immediately. She woke up in the middle of the night and pushed open Zhuang Yichen's bedroom door. She stood in front of his bed and said, Zhuang Yichen, let me go. He sat up on the bed. There was another set of bedding on the bright red bedding. He was afraid that it would get dirty, so he would always get someone to put away the bedding after he woke up the next day. He got out of bed and said, Xiaoyao, what are you doing now? I want to take Yo-Yo away. Don't watch me so closely, okay? He smiled and said, but you haven't given birth to my child yet. He lifted her chin and kissed her. Then he carried her and gently placed her on the bed. You came over so late. Are you inviting me? I told you that you can only leave after you give birth to my child. You're in such a hurry. Do you want to give birth to my child immediately and leave? He didn't wait for her reply and kissed her. Slowly, lightly, and then extremely lingering, he tore at her lips and tongue. Hearing her moans and struggling, he said teasingly, if you don't want me to touch you, you won't be able to give birth to the child. If you can't give birth to the child, how are you going to leave? Seeing that she had given in, he kissed and licked her skin. He covered her eyes and brushed his tongue against her ear. Xiaoyao. He caressed her body and felt her body tremble. His kiss became more and more urgent. He felt her resistance and struggle, and the pain in his heart was indescribable. He knew that between them they could not return to how they were in the past. The one who was in the past was only himself. But he couldn't let go. He could only spend more energy to tease her and ignite the desire in her body. Although he couldn't wait to have her immediately, he had to endure it every day. Until now he still had to endure it. There was no other way. Until she let him in, let him in. Before he had her, he thought that he was a clean freak. Perhaps he wouldn't be able to take it and wouldn't be able to accept it. But when he had her again he thought, finally it's finally back. Was it his or was it his? Every day after that, Zhuang Yichen secretly hugged Yo-Yo and taught her to call him Daddy. Yo-Yo was only 1.5 years old. She didn't understand the difference between a father and an uncle. At this age, she would probably call anyone Daddy. Gradually, Yo-Yo called Zhuang Yichen Daddy every day. Gradually, the word Daddy was rarely heard from her mouth. Xiaoya knew, but she didn't stop it, because she knew that it was good that Yo-Yo didn't remember Su Jian. After all, she wouldn't be with anyone in the future. Perhaps it was because every time she heard Yo-Yo call Zhuang Yichen Daddy, her eyes would start to water uncontrollably. She thought that she shouldn't have. She shouldn't have been someone who could be easily touched. She shouldn't. She had enough. 1 year later in the autumn, Xiaoya came out of the hospital again. She had already gone for countless checkups. They all said that there was nothing wrong with her. Her body was normal and she could get pregnant. But she couldn't get pregnant. Madam, pregnancy is not always a woman's problem. It is sometimes a man's problem. No, my husband and I have already had a child. A man's body will change. The high pressure in society now will cause a man's survival rate to decrease. It will affect fertility. Why don't you bring your husband for a checkup? Yes, she agreed. But how was she going to tell Zhuang Yichen? It was Saturday and Zhuang Yichen brought Yo-Yo out to play, so she could go out alone. He was always like this. If he brought Yo-Yo out, he would definitely ask the bodyguards to follow. But if she went out alone, she could go anywhere she wanted. He knew that Yo-Yo was the string that held the kite. As long as the string was in his hands, even if there were 10 Xiaoyachiois, she wouldn't run away. With Yo-Yo he could control her tightly. But she didn't call the police and say that he was under house arrest. He didn't know if it was because she didn't want to sue him or because she didn't want Yo-Yo's life to be exposed. When Xiaoya returned to the villa, the helpers were very respectful to her. She went upstairs to his study room. She would go there regularly to check on Su Corporation. He was always there. Su Jian had bought over an old chain of jewelry stores in the country. He looked like a gentle man, but he did things meticulously. She knew that he had always been outstanding. She thought that she shouldn't pay too much attention to him. It was fine as long as he was doing well. Attention Xingwu 799. Chapter 788. Zhuang Yichen carried Yo-Yo back to the villa. They walked past the lawn and headed towards the main building. Yo-Yo, wash your hands and face before you can eat the fruit. Yo-Yo hugged Zhuang Yichen's neck and pouted. I know. Daddy is so naggy. Li Yong followed behind the two of them and smiled. Beside him, Auntie Wang said softly, You don't say. Yo-Yo is really becoming more and more like Sir. This child is so close. Li Yong was stunned. Zhuang Yichen had already carried Yo-Yo into the main building. Li Yong frowned. Just as Zhuang Yichen carried Yo-Yo into the building, a maid came over. Sir, Madam is waiting for you in the study upstairs. She said that you should go and look for her. Zhuang Yichen handed Yo-Yo over to the maid and went upstairs. When he entered the study, he saw Xiaoya turn around and look at him. Little devil, what's wrong? Xiaoya raised the medical report and a series of receipts. She was filled with righteous indignation. What is this? Zhuang Yichen's eyes darkened. You went through my things. You with the surname Zhuang. You obviously had a birth control operation, but you want me to give birth to your child. He saw that she was trembling with anger. Her lips were trembling and her expression was ugly. There was a kind of hysterical anger in her. At first he was a little afraid. However, he knew that some lies would be exposed one day. He had to face it sooner or later. His slender and seductive eyes revealed a faint smile. So what? You can't give birth to my child in this lifetime. Even if you die, you can only die in front of me. She saw how ruthless and decisive he was. However, when he said, so what? It was as if he was describing something trivial. It was as if carrying on the family line was just a child's play. After her anger subsided, all she was left with was her breathing. Sometimes it was soft, sometimes it was heavy, sometimes it was urgent, and sometimes it was slow. Then she felt that her strength was running out. She saw the man in front of her go from clear to blurry. As her body slid down, she felt the man quickly come over and pick her up. He sat on the sofa and placed her on his lap. She could no longer hear him clearly, but she still heard him say, Actually, I don't have anything other than you. I don't have parents, I don't have any relatives. Little demon, if you're willing to rely on me and not have your own child, that's fine too. After all, I'm dead and won't be able to see anything. In fact, he didn't know why he had such thoughts. Perhaps it was only temporary. Even if it was temporary, such thoughts still popped out of his head. What does it feel like to love someone? He couldn't explain it, nor could he explain it thoroughly. He couldn't use words to describe it. All he knew was that if he loved someone he had to be with her. He didn't know what blessings were. He knew that her heart was dead. Whether it was him or Su Jian, all she had was an indescribable feeling. It was as if she had known each other for a long time. Perhaps what she felt for Su Jian was kinship, a kinship that she relied on. The love in her heart couldn't bloom. He was the one who ended it. Even if it was a misunderstanding, he missed the best time to make up for it. During the time when she was at her most desperate, he wasn't by her side. She endured it bitterly. In the process of enduring, the flowers in her heart all withered. In the past she would die for Kang Yun because she was young. However, after experiencing him, she left without taking anything with her. He knew that she only wanted to prove that she wouldn't die for a man. She would live well, change her identity, change her name. A fish's memory only lasted 7 seconds. She wanted to forget him, forget the hurt, and live a carefree life again. He knew that she was crazy and mentally unstable. The harder she tried to prove that she was strong, that she wouldn't die for love. The more she wanted to be calm and self-reliant, the more she couldn't walk out of that alley. She hurt herself. She couldn't control herself and hurt herself. In her mind, she desperately pulled herself not to do that. She couldn't do that. The two people in her body were fighting and it drove her crazy. Therefore, she didn't do anything to Su Jian, even though Su Jian deliberately blocked the news that he was looking for her. However, during that time when she was mentally unstable, it was Su Jian who took care of her. Otherwise, it was unknown whether she would still have the chance to stand in front of him. She heard him say that they depended on each other. How could he use these 4 words? These 4 words were so desolate and bitter. He had such a strong family business and depended on each other. It was suitable for people who worked hard to survive. How could he use these words? She wanted to say it, but she couldn't open her mouth. She didn't have any strength at all. Her strength had been sucked away by his words. He carried her back to the room and placed her on the bed. Before night fell, he hugged her and coaxed her to sleep. "Little demon, don't blame me for taking advantage of this loophole. I know you're a stubborn person, but I also have things that I want to persevere on. You can't bear to part with Yo-Yo, but I don't want children. That's why I can win. Little demon, this time, I'm more ruthless than you. That's why you can only be by my side." She didn't answer. She just closed her eyes and let the tears drip from her eyes onto the bedsheets. From then on, he didn't use the reason of wanting children to sleep with her. She also didn't enter his room. He only took her to the mall to buy shoes. However, he realized that she had changed. She didn't like high heels very much. She liked to wear more comfortable styles. She said, "It's tiring to take care of Yo-Yo. Wearing high heels makes my feet tired. There's a nanny at home. You don't have to carry her all the time. The child is mine. I can only carry her for a few years. When she grows up, she won't want me to carry her anymore." He could hear the sadness in her voice. He wanted to say, "Little demon, let's have another child. You can carry your child again." However, he knew that he couldn't and didn't dare to. He wasn't as ruthless as her. He didn't dare to try. Leon called. Zhuang Yichen picked up the call. Then his body trembled. His gaze landed on Xiaoya. His eyes started to redden and water started to well up. "Young master, I just got the DNA test results. Don't be so agitated. Actually, I didn't want to do this behind your back. I just heard a few servants talking about it. I was curious, so I took your and Yoyo's hair for the test. Young master, Yo-Yo is your daughter. 100%, 100%. The phone fell to the ground and the battery fell out. He looked at Xiaoya. She was looking down at the flat-heeled shoes on her feet. She was even tiptoeing as she said to the salesperson, "It looks like it's half a size bigger, but it'll be tight if it's a size smaller." The flavored bottles in his heart were all overturned. They were all overturned, and the feelings in his heart were surging uncontrollably. There must be mustard and chili in those flavored bottles. He could not control his tears and they fell. Yo-Yo was his daughter. Yo-Yo was his daughter, not Su Jian's. How could she lie to him like this? How could she lie to him and make him suffer? Those passers-by looked at him and whispered. They even pointed at him. He looked at her with a face full of tears. When she looked up and saw him, she was shocked. She quickly asked, "What's wrong?" He only hugged her tightly. She was in so much pain that she couldn't cry out. He hugged her and couldn't speak. His tears flowed freely. He lowered his head and bit her shoulder. He used a lot of force. Those suppressed sobs could be heard from between his teeth and the flesh on her shoulder. She was in pain. Her shoulder hurt. Because he was crying in front of her in public, the pain on her shoulder suddenly rushed to her heart. It hurt so much that she curled up into a ball and couldn't cry out. He carried her. She was still wearing only one shoe. He carried her horizontally and walked away. The bodyguard sensibly paid the bill. "What are you doing? Little demon, how can I repay you?" He pressed his face against hers. As he walked, he said in a low voice, "Tell me, how can I repay you?" She didn't understand. "You don't owe me anything. Why do you want me to repay you? Yo-Yo is my daughter, isn't she?" He was thinking about how she was going to give birth to Yo-Yo when she was mentally unstable. Yo-Yo was so cute, so beautiful, so smart, and so lovable. She was so stunned that she couldn't say a word. She didn't know if the water stains on her face were hers or his. The sun was always so bright. Zhuang Yichen learned how to make cakes and specially hired a pastry chef to teach him. Yo-Yo thought that he was very good. She looked at the cakes that he made. After squeezing chocolate and strawberry jam, they could turn into cute little princesses, puppies, or teddy bears. She clapped her hands and said, "Daddy, you're so good. So good." He put the little cake on a plate and squatted down. "Daddy will feed Yo-Yo, okay?" "No, I want to save the cake. I don't want to eat it. If I eat it, the puppy will lose its head, tail, and eyes." Yo-Yo was very disappointed. In her eyes, there was a halo of kindness. It was as if she would really hurt the puppy. "Daddy will make more for you after you eat it?" Yo-Yo shook her head. Her voice was still so childish. "Daddy, you should make watermelon, strawberries, and vegetables for me next time. Puppies can't eat them. Look at how cute our ice cream is. If she sees me eating puppies, she will be sad." Ice cream was Zhuang Yichen's pet dog. Yo-Yo liked it very much. She played with it every day and they had a very deep relationship. Zhuang Yichen stroked Yo-Yo's head. "Okay, we won't eat puppies. Daddy will make strawberries for Yo-Yo right now." Xiaoya stood outside the kitchen and watched the interaction between the father and daughter. She turned around. She thought that even if Zhuang Yichen didn't say it out loud, Yo-Yo would still be close to him because of the nature of a father and daughter. It was the middle of winter and it was snowing heavily. The crowded crowd and the streams of traffic were all symbols of the city. By the roadside, Su Jian stood in front of Xiaoya. The snow was fluttering in the air, dancing wildly, sticking to his clothes, hair, eyes, and hair. The air he exhaled came in clumps. "Xiaoyu, come back with me, okay?" "Jian, I can't leave Yo-Yo." He smiled bitterly. "You can't leave Zhuang Yichen, right?" She shook her head. "I can leave anyone, but I can't leave Yo-Yo." "You're trying to say that you can't leave anyone, including me, right?" "Yo-Yo, you're my life. Xiaoyu, you're my life too." She couldn't say anything for a while. She didn't even dare to look at him. The pain in his eyes would burn her. "I'm too selfish. I've hurt you, Jian." Both of them spoke softly, but their eyes were red. She saw him turn around and saw his sad smile. She was in a trance. Besides her consciousness, she also saw the wheels of the car rushing towards him uncontrollably. He heard the woman behind him scream, "Jian, be careful." A force pushed him from his back and he fell forward. He fell to the ground and heard a muffled bang. He heard the sound of the brakes and the car's tires skidding in the snow. Zhuang Yichen's men saw this and ran towards the road in all directions. Attention Hongcha 866. Chapter 789. Asterisk at the hospital. Blood transfusion, oxygen, cardiac pacing. Voices rang out one after another. Zhuang Yichen's fist landed squarely on Su Jian's face. Su Jian's heart was throbbing with pain and he couldn't scream even if he wanted to. Su Jian accepted it sullenly and didn't retaliate. All he could hear was the words she said in his arms. She sounded so weak and weak. "Jian, if I were your life, I would give it back to you. Live a good life, get married and have kids. I'm sorry. The only person I've let down in my life is you. Don't cry. Jian, I'm suddenly so happy. I feel so relaxed. I've never felt so relaxed in the past few years. I'm so tired, but I'm not worried. Yo-Yo has Zhuang Yichen. He will love her and take good care of her. My parents have Chen Chen and they have a granddaughter. They will be strong and live on. Jian, don't cry. You have to be happy for me. I feel so relaxed right now, so relaxed." Her hand was cold as ice as it caressed his face. He lay on the floor, tears dripping onto the floor. He shouldn't have come looking for her. He thought he was fully prepared to deal with Zhuang Yichen. He was defeated the last time because he was caught off guard. How could the Su enterprise fall so easily? He wouldn't allow it this time. But when he saw the light in her eyes, he knew she didn't want to go with him. He was disappointed. Zhuang Yichen wanted to be generous for once. He shouldn't have acted like Su Jian and deliberately kept the news from her. He only sent people to follow her and protect her. He didn't expect such an accident to happen. Are you happy now? Su Jian. Su Jian didn't reply. I'll wait here for her to wake up. If she doesn't wake up, I'll make you pay with your life. He looked up at Zhuang Yichen and smiled faintly. It was as if he didn't care about the rest of his life anymore. He pushed himself up and sat on the stool. It was the end of winter and the snow had melted. There was still the smell of medicine in the ward. The fragrance of the flowers in the vase mixed with the smell of disinfectant. It was very strange. Zhuang Yichen held the bowl of porridge and blew on it carefully before feeding it to Xiaoya. She didn't eat it. It's tasteless. He was very happy that she had woken up. He did not dare to raise his voice at all. Have some porridge before you eat the vegetables, okay? No, I don't want to eat. Then what do you want to eat? Tell me and I'll have someone make it for you right away. Zhuang Yichen, I want to marry you. I'm telling you, if you don't marry me, I'll break up with you. I'm already 25 years old. She angrily pushed his bowl away. The bowl fell to the ground and shattered. The porridge splattered all over the floor. His hand was still grasping the air, as if he was still holding a bowl in his hand. His body stiffened and he couldn't believe it. With a trembling voice he said, "Little demon, wait a little longer." She said firmly, "No. I still have a few more 4 years. In another 4 years I'll be almost 30 years old. I won't wait. I'll either get married or break up. Ye is already married at such a young age. Even Qian is married. If you don't marry me, I'll find someone who's willing to marry me." Tears streamed down his face. "Don't you dare," she harumphed. "You'll see if I dare." He hugged her. "Little demon, let's go get our marriage certificate tomorrow then." "Really? Really? I'll even give you a grand wedding. I'll even give you a company and shares, okay? Really?" His heart ached so much that it was about to split open. But seeing her like this he was happy. "Really?" She sobbed. "Zhuang Yichen, don't lie to me." "I won't lie to you. From now on I'll tell you when I eat, when I get off work, where I'm going and what I'm doing. I'll never lie to you. Little demon, I won't lie to you or hide anything from you in the future. Okay?" She wiped the tears off her face and pouted. Then she said seriously, "I'll make my own wedding dress. I'll make your formal dress for you." "Okay. You've always made my clothes. Of course you'll have to make my formal dress too." Outside the door, a figure froze for a moment before leaving. She wanted him to get married and have children. A month later, in the Zhuang family's villa in the suburbs, they were arguing again. "Zhuang Yichen, if you don't marry me, I'll break up with you." "Okay, we'll get married tomorrow." "Don't lie to me." "I won't lie to you. I won't lie to you or hide anything from you in the future, okay? I'm going to have my formal dress made. You must invite Yi and Qian. I must show off. You must. You mustn't miss out on anything. Buy them the biggest diamond ring." A young tycoon in Haiqing held 3 weddings in a single season. He spent tens of millions each time and all 3 weddings were with the same bride. Some people laughed foolishly, some called him silly and some said, "When love is strong, how can you be silly?" Xiaoya walked around the garden outside, thinking about how to design her formal dress. She stood there for half an hour and no one dared to disturb her. In the end, when she returned to the main building, her feet were frozen stiff. Zhuang Yichen saw that her nose was red from the cold. He was worried that she might be too loud and disturb Yo-Yo, so he lowered his voice and scolded the maids. "Is this how you take care of Madam?" "Sir, Madam doesn't want us to disturb her." "Keep your voice down. You're so ungentlemanly." Xiaoya rolled her eyes at Zhuang Yichen and held his arm. "Yichen, I'll go up and soak my feet." As her feet soaked in the water, they were surrounded by warmth. Xiaoya sighed comfortably. "So comfortable." Zhuang Yichen squatted on the ground and stroked her feet. "Next time, don't stand for so long when you go out. If you're in the cold for too long, your skin will be damaged. Yichen, don't do it for me. I'll do it myself." Xiaoya felt that she should wash his feet. Suddenly she was a little scared. She was afraid that he would dislike her and not want her anymore. "Don't move." He rubbed her feet for a while before he took the towel and placed it on his lap. He wrapped her feet in the towel and wiped the water off her feet. He held her feet in his large palms. His hands were very warm. He placed her feet against his chest. "Do you remember what I said? If you stand outside in the cold again at night, I'll get angry." He knew that ever since her mental condition had worsened, she had always listened to him. Aside from the matter of marriage, she had always been very firm. Usually she would listen to whatever he said. I won't do it again. Looking at her pouting timidly, he wanted to laugh. Xiaoyao, do you still remember that I told you that I love you? She was stunned. Her mouth was slightly open, her eyes were wide, and her eyelashes were blinking. She blinked and tears came out of her eyes. You lied to me. She jumped up from the stool and stepped on the water. She punched his shoulder and cried non-stop. Zhuangyichen, you lied to me. When did you say that? When did you say that? Say it again, say it again. He stood up, hugged her, and kissed the tears on her face. I said it yesterday, in the morning and in the afternoon when I called you. You forgot. How could I forget? You must be lying to me. You must be lying to me. She cried hard and punched him intensely. She suddenly pushed him away and ran into the study barefooted. The helper heard the commotion and hurried into the room to clean up. Xiaoya entered the study and took a new notebook. She took out a pen and looked at the time on the clock on the wall. She wrote down the year, hour, minute, second, and year one by one and added a sentence at the end. Zhuangyichen said to me that he loves you. Many years later there were several notebooks in the study. The year, hour, minute, second, and year were densely recorded. Zhuangyichen said to me that he loves you. Zhuangyichen Yi Er and Qian Qian each have 2 children. Okay. Why do we only have 1 child? He was delighted and kissed her forehead. After some time we'll have a child too. The vasectomy was not a major operation, but after it was done she would need to recuperate for some time before she could have a child. He thought that as long as she was willing to have children, of course, he would want to have 2 more children. Really? Really? Then let's talk to Yo-Yo tomorrow and have another child to accompany her. Okay. End of Zhuang Ye's narration. Attention Xinwu 799. Chapter 790. A pair of warm hands landed on her face, awkwardly wiping away the tears on her face. Someone whispered in her ear, Sis, did you have a nightmare? Don't be afraid, your brave and handsome little brother is here with you. No one will dare to bully you. Ahan ahan. Jiyuchi opened her heavy eyes. Through the haze of tears, she saw a handsome but slightly childish face. Ahan, it really was her little brother, Ahan. Ahan? Jiyuchi hugged him, tears rolling down her face. She kept saying, Ahan, I can still see you. Ahan, I missed you so much. Jiyunhan was stunned. Looking at his sister who was crying so hard that she was out of breath, he blinked in puzzlement. Finally, he hugged her and gently patted her back. Sis, don't be so agitated. I'm right here, I'm not going anywhere. You can see me every day in the future. Be good, don't cry. You won't be pretty if you cry anymore. Jiyuchi was crying and laughing at the same time. This was her little brother, a noisy, handsome, and cute little brother. Why did she think that her little brother was rebellious and insensible? She was so stupid to actually believe Qin Tingfang and her mother's instigation. Miss, don't cry. Your body is weak. If master sees you, his heart will ache. A pair of calloused hands held a tissue and gently wiped away the tears on her face. Mother Wu. Jiyuchi raised her head to look at the familiar and kind face. Her tears fell even harder. Mother Wu was the Ji family's nanny. She had been serving the Ji family since Jiyuchi was born. She treated Chi-Chi and Ahan better than her own son. In Jiyuchi's heart, she was like her second mother. Be good, don't cry. Mother Wu will make your favorite dessert for you later. Although Mother Wu's face was smiling, her eyes were a little red. She had always treated Miss as her own daughter and doted on her. How could her heart not ache when her child was hurt? After a long while, Jiyuchi's emotions stabilized. What was going on? Wasn't she dead? Why did she see the dead Ahan and Mother Wu who had returned to her hometown to retire? Could it be that before she died she was hallucinating? She bit her tongue hard. Yes, it hurt. It wasn't a hallucination, it was real. Perhaps the heavens had heard her unwillingness and regret before she died, so they had given her a chance to start over. In the bathroom, Jiyuchi looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was much younger. She thought for a long time and finally confirmed that she had been reborn. She had returned to the time when she was 20 years old. In the winter of that year she had accidentally fallen into the lake. It was Jiang Tianhao who had saved her. That was the first time they had met. Thinking of that man, Jiyuchi's blood began to boil. Hatred was like a ferocious beast tearing at her soul. She was in so much pain that she wished she was dead. Her body trembled, and the anger and hatred in her eyes made people shudder. Since she had been reborn, she would never allow those cheese to control her life. She would protect the people she loved and make those who harmed her pay the price. Sister, are you okay? Ji Yunhan's worried voice came. Ji took a deep breath and slowly hid the hatred in her eyes. She opened the door and walked out. I'm fine. Han, where's Mother Wu? Mother Wu went downstairs to make some snacks for you. Sister, are you still feeling unwell? If you're feeling unwell, you must tell me. Ji Yunhan looked at her with concern. He felt that something had changed after his sister fell into the water, but he couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was. Ji smiled and rubbed his head. I'm fine, don't worry about me. How about you? How have your studies been? Have you been bullied in school? She remembered that Han had just entered the first year of high school. He was originally very good at his studies, but for some reason he started to skip classes. He didn't study hard and often made her father angry. Later he joined the mafia. Her father was so angry that he almost cut off all ties with him. Later on Ji Yunhan proudly raised his chin. Who do you think your brother is? How could I be bullied? You don't have to worry about my studies, I'm the first in the entire cohort. Of course my brother is the best. Ji smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Then she said seriously, Han, no matter what difficulties you encounter, remember to tell me. I'll definitely help you. Don't forget I'm your biological sister. Ji Yunhan was startled. His handsome face bloomed with a brilliant smile. He nodded heavily. I know, sister. Ever since Yi Zissou entered their house, his sister rarely chatted with him so intimately. She preferred to play with Yi Zissou. However, now that his sister was willing to treat him intimately again, he was so happy that he could fly. Big sister Chi, may I come in? A gentle voice interrupted the siblings' conversation. Ji heart trembled. She unconsciously clenched her fists and stared at the closed door with hatred. She would never forget that it was the owner of that voice who had colluded with that beast Jiang Tianhao to destroy their Ji family. Ji Yunhan muttered impatiently, annoying person. Ji seemed to wake up from a dream. Her tense body suddenly relaxed. She had to calm down. If she always got angry so easily, Yi Zissou and her good mother would definitely see through her. She rubbed Ji Yunhan's hair and whispered, in the future, even if you hate someone, you can't show it. Otherwise you'll be used by the enemy, understand? Ji Yunhan stared at her in disbelief. Sister, are you sure you're really my sister and not an alien in disguise? He had nagged his sister more than once that mother and daughter were bad people, but he was always scolded by his sister for being insensible. This time she didn't scold him and even said such things. Ji felt a little bitter. She hugged him. Han, only you and Dad are my family. I'll definitely protect you. Ji Yunhan still wanted to say something, but Yi Zissou knocked on the door again. Sister Chi, are you okay? Ji let go of Ji Yunhan. Her lips curled into a tranquil smile as she said softly, I'm fine. Zissou, come in. The door opened and a beautiful figure walked in. The 19-year-old Yi Zissou was very beautiful. She looked very much like her mother, Chen Tingfang. She had a pair of big watery eyes, a tall nose, pink lips, and a delicate face the size of a palm. She wore a white wool dress that accentuated her graceful figure. Her movements were elegant, like a fresh and elegant lily that bloomed quietly. Others were bewitched by her pure appearance. Only Ji knew that her heart was as vicious as a scorpion's. Ji smile grew brighter, but her eyes were cold. Yi Zissou, we meet again. Sister Chi, are you feeling better? Yi Zissou's delicate face was filled with worry. Ji stared at her beautiful face and her pretentious expression. She really wanted to rush up and bite her throat. However, she couldn't be impulsive. She would take revenge for all the pain she had suffered bit by bit. She pinched her palms hard and tried to control her emotions. She curled her lips and said, I'm fine now. I've made you worry, Zissou. Yi Zissou seemed to heave a sigh of relief. Her furrowed brows loosened, and she looked at her reproachfully. Sister Chi, you have to be more careful in the future. It's so dangerous to fall into the lake in the middle of winter. Fortunately, someone passed by and saved you. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Her tone was reproachful, but every word she said was for Ji sake, as if she was really a good sister who cared about her older sister. If Ji hadn't been reborn and seen through her true colors, she would have been bewitched by her fake kindness. Ji eyes flashed with ridicule, but her lips curved into a gentle smile. Alright Zissou, I already know my mistake. Don't embarrass me anymore. I was just taught a lesson by Han. Ji Yunhan had been standing to the side watching Yi Zissou's pretentious behavior. He was originally very impatient, but when he recalled his older sister's reminder, He didn't mock and ridicule Yizisu like before. He only snorted and replied to his older sister. In the future, don't tell others that I'm your younger brother. I don't have such a stupid older sister like you. Jiuchi pretended to be angry and snorted twice. Yizisu hurriedly smoothed things over and changed the topic, but in her heart she couldn't wait for the relationship between the siblings to worsen as much as possible. Sister Chichi, I almost forgot that Senior Jiang Tianhao is here to see you. Let's hurry downstairs. Jiuchi looked confused. Jiang Tianhao? Who's that? Yizisu stepped forward and held her arm. She smiled gently. Sister Chichi, Senior Jiang is a famous person in our school. How could you forget? Also, he's your savior. Savior? It must have been carefully planned. Jiuchi still remembered that day when she was sitting by the lake and reading a book. Suddenly, she felt a weight on her shoulder and fell into the lake with a splash. She struggled and shouted for help, but there was no one around. The suffocation grew stronger and stronger. She drank a lot of water and thought that she was dead for sure. Suddenly, a hand grabbed her arm. In her previous life, she thought that it was just her imagination and didn't think much of it. In this life, she was sure that someone had deliberately pushed her into the lake. The person behind the scenes was naturally Jiang Tianhao. He wanted to create a scene of a hero saving a damsel in distress to get close to her and win her favor. Jiuchi narrowed her eyes and seemed to be thinking seriously. After a while, she came to a realization. No wonder I thought his name was familiar. So it's our student council president. Her long eyelashes fluttered and she looked a little shy. Zisu, you said that Senior Jiang saved me? The perfect smile on Yi Zisu's face froze, and her voice was gentle. Yes, Senior Jiang has been very worried about you, so he specially came to see you. Let's hurry down and not let him wait too long. But I haven't changed yet. Jiuchi glanced at her clothes and shook her arm coquettishly. Zisu, you go down and accompany Senior Jiang first. I'll change first. Okay, I'll go down first. Hurry up and come down. Yi Zisu chuckled, her lowered eyelashes hiding the strong jealousy in her eyes. Welfare Hongcha 866. Chapter 791. In the living room, a man and woman were sitting on opposite ends of the sofa, chatting in a soft voice. From time to time, Yi Zisu's delicate laughter could be heard. Jiuchi sorted out her emotions, trying her best to suppress the flood of hatred, and slowly walked down the stairs. Hearing the sound of footsteps, Jiang Tianhao looked up, his deep eyes revealing a stunned expression. The woman slowly came down the stairs. Her beautiful long curly hair naturally draped over her shoulders, giving off an enchanting luster under the light. She was wearing a long red dress. The enchanting red was like a burning flame, forcing people to hold their breath and stare directly at it. Her every movement exuded a charming charm, but her pair of agate eyes revealed a trace of coldness, like the perfect combination of an angel and a devil, so beautiful that it was soul-stirring. Jiuchi was also sizing up Jiang Tianhao. His face was really handsome, no wonder she was mesmerized by him in her previous life. Even if she was now sizing him up with a heart full of hatred, she had to admit that he was indeed wearing the skin of a beauty. This year he was only 22 years old, but his calm and restrained aura was not to be underestimated. Although he had a warm smile on his face, she could see the ambition and greed in his deep eyes. Jiuchi's lips hooked up into a faint smile. Jiang Tianhao, don't you like to plunder? Then wait for me to destroy it for you to see. Jiang Tianhao stood up like a gentleman, his smile could be described as perfect, and his voice was soft and smooth. Junior sister, how is your body? It's already much better, thank you senior for your concern. Jiuchi faintly smiled, a faint blush appearing on her white cheeks. Senior, I still haven't thanked you for saving my life. Jiang Tianhao modestly said, it's just a small matter, junior sister is fine, so I'm relieved. Jiuchi calmly glanced at Yi Zisu, seeing her stiff smile, the smile on her lips deepened and she playfully winked, her voice carrying a trace of coquettishness. To senior, it's just a small matter, but to me it's a great kindness that is difficult to repay. Senior, if you don't mind, I would like to treat you to a meal to express my gratitude. Jiang Tianhao naturally declined. Jiuchi coquettishly said, Senior, if you don't agree, then it means you're looking down on me. Junior sister, you're too polite, then I can only accept deferentially. Jiang Tianhao's smile, but his tone was even more gentle, as if there was a trace of doting. Clang. Yi Zisu accidentally knocked over the teacup, the tea spilling onto her skirt. Her face was pale and she awkwardly smiled. Sorry, you guys take your time chatting, I'll go change my clothes. Jiyuchi watched as she hurriedly left, a trace of ridicule in her eyes. So, Yi Zissou had liked Jiang Tianhao for a long time. In her previous life, this big idiot had stupidly asked Yi Zissou to teach her how to pursue Jiang Tianhao. She was really stupid to the extreme. After Yi Zissou went upstairs, she didn't come down again. Jiyuchi also didn't want to look at Jiang Tianhao's disgusting face, so they arranged to eat together. After faintly exchanging a few words, Jiang Tianhao tactfully took his leave. Jiyuchi stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, watching Jiang Tianhao's tall and straight back disappear into the distance. She couldn't help but recall her previous life, when she also secretly watched him leave. The difference was that at that time she was filled with anticipation for their next meeting. But now her heart was filled with hatred and nothing else. The fallen leaves and trees in the courtyard were bare, giving people a feeling of desolation for no reason. In the garden, several red plum blossoms were in full bloom, awe-inspiring and unafraid of the cold wind. The fiery colors ignited the hatred hidden deep in Jiyuchi's heart. Her lips hooked up in a cold arc, so cold that it was frightening. "Chichi, why are you wearing so little? Don't freeze." Ji Bowen had just returned home when he saw his daughter standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in a daze, and his heart ached. Jiyuchi's heart trembled, and her eyes quickly filled with tears. It was her father who loved her the most. She abruptly turned around and threw herself into Ji Bowen's embrace. Smelling his warm and familiar scent, her tears fell down. In her previous life, she had ignored her father's objections and insisted on marrying Jiang Tianhao, breaking his heart. Her heart was filled with regret. "Dad, I missed you so much. Dad, I'm sorry. This child, didn't we just part ways this morning? Why are you getting more clingy as you grow up?" Ji Bowen smiled as he stroked his daughter's head. He couldn't help but scold her. "Chichi, you're not allowed to do dangerous things in the future. Dad is old and can't stand being scared." Jiyuchi fiercely nodded. "Dad, I'll definitely listen to you in the future. I won't make you angry anymore." Ji Bowen's warm large palm pressed on her head and sighed with gratification. "Chichi, you've grown up. You know how to care for your dad. Dad is very happy." "Dad." Jiyuchi's nose twitched and her tears fell again. "Okay, don't cry." Ji Bowen lovingly patted her back. "Chichi, go upstairs and put on another layer of clothes. Don't catch a cold." "Dad, I'm not cold." The heater in the room was very strong, and it was as warm as summer. Ji Bowen deliberately put on a stern face. "No, you've just recovered from a serious illness. You have to be more careful. Gigai, be a good girl and go upstairs and put on another layer of clothes." "Okay, I'll listen to Dad." Jiyuchi hugged him tightly, then released him. She playfully stuck out her tongue, then turned around and ran upstairs. Ji Bowen laughed and shook his head with a doting expression. Qin Tingfang stood on the second floor and jealously watched the scene of the father and daughter being filial. Her strict husband rarely smiled in front of her and Zissou, but in front of Jiyuchi he was never stingy with his smile. Could it be that he never cared about his wife? "Auntie Qin," Jiyuchi sweetly called out when she brushed past Qin Tingfang. Qin Tingfang smiled and said gently, "Chichi, change your clothes and quickly go downstairs to eat." Jiyuchi responded crisply, "Okay." Qin Tingfang waited for her to walk away, and the smile on her face immediately disappeared, leaving only a gloomy viciousness in her eyes. During dinner, Ji Bowen kept putting food into Jiyuchi's bowl, piling up a small hill. She pouted and said, "Dad, if you continue to feed me like this, I'm going to become a little fat pig." "You'll be prettier if you become a little fat pig. Look at you now, you've lost weight. Come eat more. This is the chicken soup that Mama Wu specially made for you." Ji Bowen scooped half a bowl of chicken soup and placed it in front of her. Jiyuchi rolled her eyes and said with a smile, "Dad, you can't just spoil me. There's still Zissou and Ahan. Be careful not to make them jealous." "Do you think they're as petty as you?" Ji Bowen was amused by her mischievous look. Although he was joking, he still scooped half a bowl of soup for Yi Zissou and Ji Yunhan. "Thank you, Uncle Ji." Yi Zissou took the soup and felt an indescribable pain in her heart. No matter how good or how outstanding she was as a stepdaughter, she would never be able to compare to someone else's biological daughter. The next day was Sunday, and it was also the day that Jiyuchi and Jiang Tianhao had agreed to go out for dinner. She woke up early in the morning and dressed herself up beautifully. She quietly took in Yi Zissou's jealousy into her eyes. At around 9 o'clock, Jiang Tianhao came to pick her up. His black coat made him look handsome, gentle and tall. Jiyuchi skipped over to him, revealing the innocence and cuteness of a little girl. "Good morning, Senior." Good morning, junior sister. Jiang Tianhao looked at her with a gentle gaze that could drip water. Jiyuchi smiled and put on a white cloak with Mother Wu's help. She looked as adorable as a doll carved from jade. She carried her bag, turned around and said to Yi Zissou, "Zissou, are you really not going? Senior isn't an outsider. It'll be more lively with one more person, don't you think so, Senior?" She tilted her head and looked at Jiang Tianhao with a smile on her face. For some reason, Jiang Tianhao had the urge to rub her soft hair. However, when he glanced at the low-key luxurious decorations of the Ji family, the strange feeling in his heart disappeared. He smiled and said, "Yuchi is right. Zissou, why don't you come with us?" Yi Zissou's eyes lit up. Senior Tianhao called her name. She was so excited that her heart raced. She wanted to tell him that she was willing to go, but when she saw Jiyuchi secretly winking at her and looking at her pleadingly, she had to suppress the excitement in her heart. She smiled stiffly and said, "I've already made an appointment with my friend, so I won't be going with you. Have fun." "I see. What a pity. Zissou will be leaving first." Jiyuchi waved at Yi Zissou. Jiang Tianhao also nodded politely. Seeing the two figures disappear at the entrance of the courtyard, Yi Zissou picked up a vase and smashed it on the ground. Her beautiful face was twisted with anger and jealousy. "Mom, how long do I have to endure this? I saw Senior Tianhao first. Why should I give him to that bitch Jiyuchi? Mom, I can't accept this. I really can't accept this. Senior Tianhao likes me too. We're a match made in heaven." Yi Zissou roared angrily in the master bedroom. Qin Tingfang's slender and white fingers tapped Yi Zissou's forehead. She said resentfully, Senior Tianhao, what's so good about that poor boy? You'll marry a rich man in the future. Don't associate with those poor people." "Mom, you can't say that about Senior Tianhao. Although his family isn't well off, he's capable and ambitious. He'll definitely make a name for himself. I like ambitious men like him." "Stupid. No matter how capable he is, without connections and funds, he'll only be able to climb to the position of a department manager. Compared to those rich second-generation heirs, he's already lost at the starting line." Qin Tingfang frowned impatiently. "Zissou, listen to Mom. Don't associate with him anymore. With your Uncle G's status, it'll be easy for you to marry into a rich family in the future. Why do you have to suffer with a poor boy? Right, doesn't that Tang boy like you? I think he's not bad. Come and see." Songshu 566. Chapter 792. "Mom, Tang Feng isn't bad, but I don't like him. The one I like is Senior Tianhao. I beg you, please help me." Yi Zissou hugged Qin Tingfang's arm and acted like a spoiled child. "Mom, if G Group becomes ours, we'll have our own money. Why do we have to marry a rich husband and look at his face?" Her words poked at Qin Tingfang's sore spot. Although Qin Tingfang married a rich husband after remarrying, Ji Bowen wasn't the kind of person who indulged in extravagance. He wouldn't let Qin Tingfang flaunt her wealth, so he often made her lose face in front of those rich wives. Thinking about it, she used to be a legitimate daughter of a wealthy family. If it weren't for her family's downfall and her ex-husband's downfall, she wouldn't have to look at her current husband's face. Qin Tingfang's expression turned ugly. Yi Zissou continued to add fuel to the fire. "Mom, you've seen it for yourself. No matter how hard we try, Uncle G still likes Jiyuchi the most. She's his biological daughter. There's no way he'll leave his family assets to us. It was fine in the past. Jiyuchi was arrogant and ignorant. One day she would fall into our hands. But now it's as if she's suddenly enlightened. Look at how happy she's made Uncle G. I'm even suspecting that she knows something." Qin Tingfang's gaze turned cold. Her scarlet nails dug into the edge of the table. She sneered and said, "If we want to defeat Jiyuchi, we have to first make her lose Ji Bowen's favor. Let's see what else she can do without the person protecting her." Yi Zissou was delighted. "Mom, you have a plan?" Qin Tingfang scratched a few marks on the table with her fingernails. Her eyes were sinister and vicious. She whispered something into Yi Zissou's ear, which made Yi Zissou beam with joy. Jiyuchi, let's see how long you can be so mighty." Jiyuchi, who was being talked about, was having a meal with Jiang Tianhao in a high-class Western restaurant. She lowered her eyes and elegantly cut the steak on the plate. She imagined that she was cutting Jiang Tianhao, and her mood inexplicably became better. Sure enough, love and hate were separated by a single thought. In her previous life, she loved him so much that even a scratch on his hand made her heart ache. But now, fantasizing about how to torture him had become her greatest hobby. Yuchi, what do you usually like to do? Jiang Qinhao's voice was clear and gentle. Ji Yuchi's expression was indifferent. Eat, sleep, study and occasionally go shopping. There's nothing special. Jiang Qinhao was startled. He thought that this arrogant miss in front of him already had a good impression of him. She should have shown her good points in front of him to attract him. Even if she didn't have any good points, she should have said that she had some elegant interests. Her answer was too honest. Ji Yuchi didn't know what he was thinking and didn't care. She only focused on eating, treating him as if he was nothing. Jiang Qinhao still wanted to worm his way into being friends with her. He created a few more topics but she rebutted him indifferently. He couldn't guess what she was thinking, but he also found it more interesting. It seemed that she wasn't the simple-minded, unruly and willful Miss in the rumors. When it was time to pay the bill, Jiang Qinhao displayed his gentlemanly demeanor. He took out his wallet and rushed to pay the bill. Ji Yuchi stopped him and directly handed a gold card to the waiter. She lightly smiled. I already said that I'll treat Senior. How can I let Senior spend money? Jiang Qinhao didn't insist and gently said, It's still early. Why don't we go watch a movie? It had been the same in his previous life. After the two of them had finished eating, he had suggested that they watch a movie. In the end, they had watched a literary film about a pair of childhood sweethearts. Ji Yuchi had thought about her own feelings and had started to cry. Jiang Qinhao had taken out a tissue and gently wiped her tears. At that moment she had developed a good impression of him. Ji Yuchi's lips curved into a cold smile. Her voice was flat. Sorry, Senior. I'm not feeling well today. Maybe another day. Then I'll send you home. There's no need. The driver is waiting for me outside. Jiang Qinhao thoughtfully took the coat and was about to put it on for her. She took the coat from him and put it on herself. Men were all cheap. The easier it was to get something, the more boring it was for him. The harder it was to get, the more it could arouse his fighting spirit. Especially this kind of man who had bad intentions and deliberately approached her. How could she not make it more difficult for him? She was neither close nor distant. Only then could she seduce him and make him unable to stop even if he wanted to. When she got home it wasn't even 4 o'clock. Qin Tingfang and her daughter were not around. When she asked Mother Wu, she found out that the two of them had left after lunch. They probably went shopping. Ji Yuchi had just finished changing her clothes when Xiao Rou came in. Xiao Rou was Mother Wu's distant niece. Under Mother Wu's influence, she was 100% loyal to Ji Yuchi. The two of them were very close. In private they called each other by her name. Yuchi, I was cleaning Madam's room today. I accidentally overheard Madam and Miss Second's conversation. Xiao Rou repeated the conversation she overheard in the cloakroom word for word. Ji Yuchi did not have much of a reaction after hearing this. She had already expected that Yi Zissou would not be willing to give up on Jiang Tianhao. That would be good. The deeper Yi Zissou's feelings for Jiang Tianhao, the deeper she would be hurt. In her previous life, Xiao Rou did not overhear their conversation. Perhaps her rebirth had changed the trajectory of some things. Ji Yuchi did not speak. Xiao Rou thought that she had suffered a blow and was too sad, so she asked with concern, Yuchi, are you okay? Ji Yuchi's heart warmed. She smiled and said, I'm fine, Xiao Rou. Thank you for telling me this. This is what I should do. However, that mother and daughter are too hateful. Should we tell Master? No need. We don't have any solid evidence. Even if we tell my father, he won't do anything to them. Moreover, I don't want to alert them. Ji Yuchi's eyes moved slightly. The smile on her lips was frighteningly cold. I'm not afraid of them doing anything. I'm just afraid that they won't do anything. Xiao Rou's eyes widened. She thought that her eyes were playing tricks on her. Although Yuchi was unruly and willful, she had a good heart. How could she show such a scary smile? Xiao Rou, Ji Yuchi held Xiao Rou's hand and said bluntly, I was stupid in the past. I didn't know who was sincere to me and who was not. But now I see clearly. I won't be deceived by those villains. Xiao Rou, in this family you and Mother Wu are the people I trust the most. Mother Wu is old and I don't want to involve her in these things. Are you willing to help me? Xiao Rou bit her lip. Although she did not read many books, she was very attentive and sharp. She could see that Qin Tingfang and her daughter did not have good intentions. In the past, Yuchi was deceived by them. She and Mother Wu also tried to persuade Yuchi, but she did not believe them. Now that she saw clearly, Xiao Rou naturally chose to stand on Yuchi's side. Xiao Rou's eyes were firm. Yuchi, Xiao Rou is your person in life and your ghost in death. I will never betray you. Ji Yuchi's eyes welled up with tears. She hugged Xiaoro. Xiaoro, thank you. In her previous life, Xiaoro had also treated her wholeheartedly. In the end, the Ji family fell into dire straits. The servants either left or scattered. Only Mother Wu and Xiaoro refused to leave. They insisted on staying by her side to take care of her. Madam, they spoke too softly in the end. I didn't hear their conspiracy. What should I do? Jiuqi pursed her lips and smiled, but the smile did not reach her eyes. It's okay. I have a rough idea of what they want to do. Qin Tingfang and her daughter were very good at shopping. They did not come back until the evening and bought a lot of things. Yi Zixu took out 2 identical bottles of Chanel perfume and smiled as she approached Jiuqi. Big sister Qiqi, this is a new perfume from Chanel. We sisters will each have a bottle. We will use the same perfume at the Christmas ball. What do you think? This was an elegant and delicate fragrance of oriental flowers. Jiuqi took a deep breath and smiled happily. Zixu, your idea is amazing. Others will wear sister outfits and we will use sister perfume. Many people will be envious. Then it's a deal. Yi Zixu's charming face had a gentle smile, but a trace of viciousness flashed through her watery eyes. Imperial Capital University was one of the top universities in the country. Their business administration was a well-known major in the country. Most of the students studying in the management school had a strong background and could enter their own companies as soon as they graduated. This group of proud sons and daughters all had a sense of superiority and liked to be in the limelight. Therefore, they prepared with all their might and wanted to be the most dazzling and eye-catching person at the school's masquerade ball. Walking into the luxurious ballroom, a beautiful melody lingered in the hall. Miss, who came from a prestigious family, was chatting and laughing with the young masters. Her every movement exuded an elegant temperament. Jiuqi glanced at Yi Zixu, who was walking beside her. She smiled and said, Zixu, you are so beautiful today. Yi Zixu's black hair was tied up. She wore a silver fox mask on her delicate little face, revealing her perky nose and captivating cherry lips. She wore a layered white muslin evening gown that was as beautiful as a wedding dress and a pair of crystal high heels on her feet. It was not hard to tell that she was dressed as Snow White. Big sister Qiqi, you look very good today too. Yi Zixu praised her insincerely. Jiuqi, this B*TCH was wearing all black. Did she think that she was filming The Matrix? Heavens, Yuqi, you are so handsome in this outfit. It seems that I should give up my title of school hunk to you. A man in a white tuxedo walked towards them. A silver mask covered the upper half of his face, revealing his thin chin and proud nose. A pair of elegant peach blossom eyes stared at Jiuqi affectionately. Jiuqi's slender fingers rested on her chin. She smiled lazily and said, Gu Fifan, I haven't seen you for a few days and you have become more and more romantic. Gu Fifan, the famous playboy of Imperial Capital University, was a sentimental seed. He changed girlfriends faster than he changed clothes. Some time ago he had taken a liking to Jiuqi. Unfortunately, Jiuqi had never treated him well. He did not expect her to suddenly change her attitude. How could he not be surprised? Attention, Songshu 566. Chapter 793. Gu Fifan's eyes became more and more scorching. He casually picked up 2 glasses of red wine from the waiter's tray and handed one to Jiuqi. He held the other glass in his hand and slowly shook the wine glass. He chuckled and said, to be able to receive Miss G's praise, I would be willing to die. Miss G, I wonder if you would be willing to do me the honor and accompany me for the first dance? From the beginning to the end, Gu Fifan did not even look at Yi Zixu. She was about to explode in anger. She always thought of herself as beautiful. Every time at the ball, she would be the object of the men's attention. This was the first time she was completely ignored by a man. Okay, it would be my honor. Jiuqi gracefully touched Gu Fifan's wine glass and took a sip of red wine. Yi Zixu watched her drink the red wine. Her eyes suddenly turned cold. Very good, Jiuqi, just wait to fall into hell. She glanced at Gu Fifan. You blind man. Just wait to be destroyed together with Jiuqi. Jiang Tianhao searched for Jiuqi for a long time. In the end, he saw her dancing with a man in a white suit. Jiuqi's graceful body was wrapped in a tight black vest with a black leather jacket. Black hot pants tightly clung to her perky buttocks and slender thighs. A pair of knee-high boots decorated her figure even more sexy and charming. She did not wear a mask on her face. Her expression was cold. Her pair of charming phoenix eyes were indifferent. Her chin was slightly raised. Her white cheeks were suffused with a cold luster under the bright light. Two figures, one black and one white, danced in the hall. Their dance moves were bold and unrestrained, attracting everyone's attention. Amazement, envy, jealousy, all kinds of gazes were intertwined on them. Jiang Qianhao stared at the beautiful figure without blinking. His deep eyes showed a trace of absent-mindedness. Every time he saw her, she was different. Arrogant, cute, charming, cold. Which one was the real her? She was like a poppy flower. She had a beautiful appearance and a mysterious aura. He couldn't help but get close to her and get addicted. Yi Zixu stood a few steps away. Seeing that Jiang Tianhao was completely focused on Jiuqi, her heart was filled with jealousy and hatred. Her fingers, which were gripping the wine glass, turned slightly pale. That man was hers. She must not let Jiuqi take him away. She took a sip of red wine, put the wine glass aside, and walked towards him with light steps. At the end of the song there was a round of applause. Gu Fifen's charming peach blossom eyes slightly raised as he chuckled and said, "Miss Ji, tonight you are fully deserving of the title of prom queen." "Mr. Gu, are you indirectly praising yourself?" Jiuqi glanced at Yi Zixu and Jiang Tianhao, who had already slid onto the dance floor. She smiled. It seemed that things were going smoothly. "Then are you willing to be my empress?" Gu Fifen approached her and blocked her line of sight without batting an eyelid. His nose was filled with her unique fragrance. Jiuqi raised her eyebrows slightly and said with a smile that wasn't a smile, "I'm not willing. I already have someone I like." Gu Fifen's eyes suddenly darkened. "Are you talking about the person who danced with your sister?" Jiuqi chuckled and didn't answer. She walked away. Dressed in black, she shuttled through the crowd of orioles and swallows. She was as dazzling as the stars surrounding the moon. Gu Fifen watched her walk away. His face was covered by the mask and his charming peach blossom eyes were like icicles. There had never been a woman who dared to give him face like this. Jiang Tianhao, he actually dared to snatch a woman from him. Was he tired of living? Jiuqi stood in the corner with her arms around her shoulders. She coldly looked in the direction of the dance floor. She saw that Yi Zixu and Jiang Tianhao's dance had become strange. The two of them hugged each other and kissed as if there was no one around. They even impatiently tore off each other's clothes. Poor Yi Zixu didn't even realize that half of her breasts were exposed. She even boldly stroked Jiang Tianhao's lower body. "Ah, my God, what are they doing? I didn't expect Yi Zixu to be so lewd despite her innocent appearance. Wow, her figure is really seductive. That man is actually Senior Jiang. My God, how can he be such a beast? He's simply too shameless. How can there be such a shameless person in our school? Don't look anymore. Hurry up and inform the security." The hall was noisy and noisy. Accusations and insults flooded into Jiuqi's ears. Her face didn't look good because in her previous life, the protagonists who suffered all this were her and Gu Fifen. Even the lines of abuse were the same. Later, her reputation in the rich circle was ruined. Coupled with some things that happened later, she was completely abandoned by those rich people. They would not accept a daughter-in-law who had a ruined reputation. Jiuqi clenched her fingers and forced herself to calm down. Because the humiliation she suffered in her previous life, she would take it back 1,000 times. Jiuqi walked out of the hall expressionlessly. She was met with a group of reporters holding cameras. The one running at the front almost bumped into her. She leaned to one side and made way for the reporters to quickly run in. Unknowingly, it started to drizzle and the cold air hit her face. Jiuqi wrapped herself in her coat and took out her mobile phone. "Hello, Dad, I won't go home to sleep tonight. I'll go to the old house." "I know. Okay, you should rest early too." After hanging up the phone, she quickened her pace. She still had to rush to a place. Opposite Imperial Capital University was a leisure park. On a cold winter night like this, not a single person could be seen. It was dark and quiet all around. Jiuqi tried to calm her wildly beating heart as she walked into the small forest. She turned on the flashlight on her phone and carefully rummaged through every patch of grass. The sound of footsteps on the ground was especially clear in the silence of the night. There's no one. Maybe he hasn't come yet. Jiuqi walked through the entire forest but did not find the person she wanted to see. So, she turned off the flashlight of her mobile phone. She did not care if she would dirty her clothes and directly sat on the wet lawn. She leaned against a tree and waited anxiously. Jiuqi was very nervous. She was looking forward to seeing him but also afraid of seeing him. Even in the night, which was a few degrees below zero, her palms were sweating. As time passed, her heart beat even more violently. She clearly remembered that it was this day. Why hadn't he come yet? Could it be that things had changed and would not develop according to the trajectory of her previous life? Bang! A gunshot was heard. Jiuchi was shocked and trembled all over. She tightly hugged the tree trunk and controlled herself not to rush out. With her mediocre martial arts, even if she rushed out, she would only be a burden to him. Chaotic footsteps came from afar and dozens of black figures ran into the park. They were wearing masks and holding guns. Under the moonlight they looked eerie. Search, don't let him escape. Someone growled and 4 or 5 men in black immediately rushed into the forest. Bang bang, a few more gunshots were heard from the lake. Quickly chase, he's over there. Dozens of people ran in the direction of the lake. The chaotic footsteps quickly disappeared. Jiuchi's heart was beating fast. Her hair on her forehead was already wet with sweat. She was so close to being discovered by the group of men in black. After confirming that the black-clothed man had left, Jiuchi clenched her teeth and crawled to her feet, intending to search for that person's whereabouts. She had just taken a step when her ankle was suddenly grabbed by someone. She was startled, and before she could react, the hand that grabbed her ankle suddenly pulled hard, causing her to fall backwards onto the ground. Then a strong hand pinched her neck and a low and magnetic voice came from behind. Don't make a sound. That voice was very familiar. It was Shinja. The smell of blood in the air was strong. A black figure crept beside her. Jiuchi could not help but tremble. It was not because of fear but because of heartache, excitement, regret, and all kinds of complicated emotions in her heart. In her previous life she was most sorry to Shinja. This time she would not hurt him. In her previous life she was set up by Yi Zissou and kissed Gu Fifan at the ball. Everyone criticized them and laughed at them. After she woke up, she was ashamed and ran into the park in a panic. She happened to meet the injured Shinja. But at that time, Shinja was almost unconscious and did not have the strength to pinch her neck. She brought him back to the old mansion for treatment and recuperation. From then on, their fates were intertwined. Thinking about her past life, Jiuchi's nose began to sting uncomfortably. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she grasped Shinja's hand that was strangling her neck. She really wanted to tell him that she missed him, but right now they were just strangers. She held back her tears and said word by word, "Believe me, I won't hurt you." After waiting for a few seconds, his hand was still pinching her neck and he did not say anything. Jiuchi thought that he could not hold on any longer. Anxious and distressed, she hurriedly said, "My name is Jiuchi. I'm the daughter of Ji Bowen from Ji Group. You're seriously injured and need to be treated quickly. Believe me, I won't hurt you." After hearing her introduction, Shinja's hand finally loosened. Jiuchi hurriedly crawled to his side. With the help of the phone's light, she saw an extremely familiar face. He pressed one hand on his bleeding chest. Even though he was on the verge of fainting, his dark eyes were cold and sharp. His voice was hoarse. "Don't go to the hospital. Take me to a small clinic." He had gunshot wounds. If he went to the hospital, the police would be attracted. It was more likely that the assassins would be able to track him down. Okay. Jiuchi did not have time to think. She hurriedly helped him up from the ground and leaned him on her shoulder. With one hand on his waist and the other holding the phone's light, she groped her way out of the forest. "Hold on a little longer. My car is parked outside." Jiuchi was so tired that she was panting. Suddenly, she realized that the person leaning on her shoulder was not responding. She turned her head to look. Shinja's head was drooping. He had already fainted. Jiuchi's heart clenched. She hurriedly helped him lean against a tree trunk. She quickly took off her high-heeled boots and threw them aside. Then she bent down and carried him on her back. His weight almost pressed her down. She gritted her teeth, lifted his body on her back and struggled to walk. Welfare Jianghu 799. Chapter 794. The ground was very cold. Even though she was wearing wool socks, the bone-chilling coldness still spread from the soles of her feet to the rest of her body. She didn't care at all. Her eyes were firmly fixed in the direction of the car as she walked forward steadily with heavy steps. In the old district of the northern part of the city, there were many courtyards left behind. It was said that the people who used to live here were all people of high status. Jiuchi carried Shinja on her back and stepped into a courtyard. This was the old house left behind by her grandfather. She would stay here for a few days every year. Someone would clean it every half a month so the room was clean and tidy, and there were all kinds of daily necessities. She put Shinja on the bed. She was so tired that she was sweating and her feet were almost frozen. She didn't have time to rest and ran to the kitchen to boil water. Lash chi. An old but vigorous voice rang out. Jiuqi hurriedly went out to greet him, only to see a white-haired old man carrying a large medical kit, running towards her as if he was flying. "Oh little Chi, pity these old bones of mine being called over by you in the middle of the night? Grandpa Tang, your medical skills are so good. Otherwise, I wouldn't have troubled you." Jiuqi smiled and took the medicine box. She led him to the bedroom. "Grandpa Tang, my friend is seriously injured. Please take a look at him." Tang Hejia panted and stroked his beard. Okay, don't worry. Let me catch my breath." He looked down and suddenly saw that she was only wearing socks. He immediately blew his beard and stared at her. "You little girl, why didn't you wear shoes? What if you freeze?" Tang Hejia and Jiuqi's grandfather, Su Zhenghang, were close friends. The Tang and Su families were old friends. Tang Hejia loved Jiuqi very much. "Grandpa Tang, I'm fine. Please take a look at my friend. He's bleeding a lot." Jiuqi was so anxious that she directly pushed him to the bed. "You won't die with me here. Chi girl, put on your shoes and come over to help me." Before Tang Hejia retired, he was a famous surgeon in the army. He could make a judgment just by looking at the position of Shenji's injury. "All right." Jiuqi methodically took out the scalpels and other items from the medical kit. Although she had never studied medicine, under the influence of Tang Hejia, she still had a good understanding of these surgical instruments. Tang Hejia put on his mask and cut open Shenji's shirt with a pair of scissors. Suddenly, a muscular chest was exposed, followed by an abdomen with a six-pack. Although it was stained with blood, it didn't affect his charm at all. Jiuqi blushed, but then she felt ashamed. She was also a nurse now, so how could she have so many scruples? Pursing her lips, she picked up a hot towel and carefully cleaned up the blood stains. Anesthetic. Tang Hejia stretched out his right hand. Jiuqi hurriedly placed the anesthetic needle in his hand. Scalpel. Surgical forceps. Hemostatic forceps. In the brightly lit room, a bullet removal operation was being carried out nervously. 2 hours later, Tang Hejia completed the last step and was drenched in sweat. He took off his mask and slowly breathed a sigh of relief. "Okay girl, pay attention to his temperature tonight. If his fever is too high, give him the antipyretic medicine and use physical cooling methods." "Okay, I got it. Grandpa Tang, you must be tired. I'll take you to the guest room to rest." Jiuqi looked at his tired face and her heart was full of gratitude. "No need, I'll go by myself. I'm familiar with this place as if it's my own home. You must be tired too. Rest for a while." Tang Hejia said a few more words to her before leaving. Jiuqi took out a clean nightgown and toiletries from the wardrobe and sent to Tang Hejia's room. Then she went to the bathroom to take a shower. When she took off her socks, she found that the blisters on the soles of her feet were broken and the socks were stuck to the soles of her feet. When she took them off, she hissed in pain. After her shower, she changed into a set of home clothes and used alcohol to disinfect the soles of her feet. Then she covered herself with a blanket and stayed by Shenji's bedside. She leaned against the back of the chair and carefully looked at Shenji. In her previous life, she had focused all her attention on Jiang Tianhao and had never seen the good in Shenji. For the first time, she realized that Shenji was even more beautiful than a woman. His tall nose was as exquisite as a sculpture, his thin lips were perfect to the extreme, and his pale face did not affect his innate nobility and arrogance. She still remembered how magnificent his eyes were when he opened them. She still remembered that he gave up his eyes and gave up his light for her. Her heart ached. She reached out and covered his eyes with her hands and murmured, "Shenji, it's not too late. Shenji, in this life, I don't want you to sacrifice anything for me. Shenji, in this life, it's my turn to protect you." Jiuqi adjusted the clock and woke up every half an hour. She touched Shenji's forehead to see if he had a fever. It was past 5 in the morning. He indeed had a fever. His beautiful face was flushed. Jiuqi checked his temperature with a thermometer and found that his temperature had reached 38 degrees Celsius. Her heart tightened and she quickly poured a glass of warm water and took out some fever medicine. "Shenji." Jiuqi wanted to wake him up to take the medicine but suddenly remembered that he was still a stranger to her. She could only gently pat his cheek. "Hey, wake up, wake up." "Ah." Thump. Jiuqi was sprawled on the floor, grimacing in pain. She looked at the culprit. She didn't know when Shenji had already sat up straight. His long and narrow eyes glowed with a cold light. His thin lips were tightly pursed, and his entire body was releasing a violent aura. He was like a ferocious leopard, staring at her warily. But if she took a closer look, she would find that his gaze was a little unfocused. It seemed that he was not really awake. Damn it, she actually forgot about Shenji's weird habit. That guy would never allow anyone to touch him when he was unconscious. She didn't understand why before, but after her rebirth, she could understand. His habit of being vigilant and on guard was obviously due to living in a dangerous environment for a long time. It was slowly cultivated. Thinking of this, her heart ached and she pitied him. Jiuchi rubbed her aching chest and stood up. She took a small step forward under a certain someone's dangerous gaze and said gently, "Don't be afraid, I'm Jiuchi. Do you still remember that I was the one who saved you from the forest today?" Shenji's deep eyes moved slightly and his brows furrowed. He seemed to be thinking hard but also seemed to be trying hard to stay awake. Jiuchi did not rush him and stood quietly in front of the bed. His gaze gradually focused and became deep. After a long while, he moved his thin lips and said in a cold and indifferent voice, "What are you trying to do?" Jiuchi knew that he was completely awake. She heaved a sigh of relief and pointed to the cup of water and pills at the head of the bed. "You're running a high fever. I want to wake you up to take some fever medicine." Shenji glanced at the medicine and then at the white bandage wrapped around his chest. He said indifferently, "I'm not taking it, it's too bitter. Give me an ice pack." After saying this, he lay back on the bed and did not even look at Jiuchi. His awkward look was like a child who was throwing a tantrum. Jiuchi sighed. This person was still like a child, afraid of taking medicine. She took the ice pack and placed it on his head. Her fingers accidentally touched his forehead and she could not help but frown. "Your fever is very serious. I'll get some alcohol." Jiuchi soaked the gauze in the alcohol and twisted it. She wanted to help him wipe his neck and chest, but his cold eyes were staring at her and she could not do it. Pursing her lips, she ordered, "Close your eyes." Shenji's long eyelashes fluttered and a strange emotion flashed across his long and narrow eyes. He stared at her for 2 seconds and then closed his eyes. Jiuchi pursed her lips and smiled. She used the gauze soaked in alcohol to wipe his neck gently. She looked so serious that it was as if she was treating a precious treasure. As the cold gauze moved on his body, the coolness spread and the boiling heat in his body was alleviated. Occasionally, her fingertips would touch his skin and create ripples in his heart. He felt that the woman beside him was not a stranger, as if they had known each other in their previous lives. Jiuchi carefully avoided his wounds. After wiping his body, she covered him with the blanket. Just as she was about to get up, he suddenly grabbed her wrist and asked in a hoarse voice, "Can you sing?" The flush on his face had faded and his eyes were clear like a lake. He looked at her with an indifferent expression, but she felt that he was like a child who was asking for candy. She suddenly smiled. "What do you want to hear?" He thought about it seriously. "Anything is fine." The smile on her lips deepened. She sat back down beside him and sang softly. Her voice was gentle and tranquil. There was a faint melancholy in her delicate eyes, as if she was telling a touching story. His gaze gradually deepened. His heart, which had been cold for a long time, suddenly beat fiercely. Jiuchi looked at Shenji's peaceful sleeping face and smiled. Her hand reached out to his forehead, but before she could touch him, her hand froze and the smile on her lips became bitter. "Shenji, you said that when you see me smile, it's as if you have the whole world. Am I not the same? As long as I see you safe and sound, it's my greatest happiness." The next day, Jiuchi was awakened by the glaring sunlight. She found that she was sleeping on Shenji's bed and there was no trace of him in the room. She hurriedly jumped out of bed and hurriedly put on a pair of slippers and ran out, shouting, "Shinja, Shinja!" Shinja and Tang Hejia were chatting in the courtyard when they heard Jiuchi's panicked cries. They turned around and saw her in her cute plaid bear home clothes, her long messy hair draped over her shoulders as she ran out with an anxious expression. Shinja frowned. This woman was wearing so little. Didn't she know that it was cold? For a moment, he didn't realize that there was anything wrong with her calling his name. Tang Hejia was dumbfounded. He had never seen the little girl lose her composure like this. He coughed and pretended to be serious as he said, "Chi-Chi, what happened?" Attention Hongcha 866. Chapter 795. Jiuchi stopped in her tracks and stared blankly at Shenji before turning to Tang Hejia. Her cheeks suddenly turned red and she laughed awkwardly. "Haha, nothing. I just had a nightmare. You guys take your time talking. I'll go in first." Damn it, she thought Shenji had left without saying goodbye. She didn't expect her image to be completely ruined. Also, Shinja was really hateful. He was obviously seriously injured, but instead of lying in bed after waking up, he actually ran around and made her worry for nothing. After Jiyuki finished washing up, she saw that Shinja and Tang Heija had returned to the living room. She quickly went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. Because she knew that she would be staying at the Gu mansion for a while, she had asked Ruru to buy food in advance and store it in the kitchen. The vegetables and fruits in the fridge were very fresh and the rice and noodles in the cupboard were neatly arranged. Jiyuchi took a deep breath and made a cheering gesture. In her previous life before she married Jiang Tianhao, she was still a pampered Mississippi. But after she got married, Jiang Tianhao didn't like her to show her face in public, so she obediently became a housewife. She learned how to do laundry, cook and clean. She simply became his personal nanny. Jiyuchi shook her head to get rid of distracting thoughts and began to cook seriously. Half an hour later. In the dining room, the three of them sat around the dining table. There was fragrant millet porridge, green stir-fried cabbage, dry-fried green beans, cold cucumber and half-boiled eggs. One look and one's appetite was aroused. Tang Heijia stared at Jiyuchi in disbelief. "Little Jiyuchi, did you make this?" Jiyuchi winked playfully. "Of course I made it. Grandfather Tang, you worked hard last night. Come eat some eggs to nourish yourself. I'll make chicken soup for you at noon." As she spoke, she put half of the egg into his bowl and then gave the other half to Shinja. "You eat too." Shinja looked at her charming and adorable smile, and a warm current seemed to flow through his heart. It was very comfortable, and the cold and hard corners of his lips raised, then quickly straightened. Tang Heijia's eyes were brimming with tears. "Poor Chi girl. Once you have a stepmother, you will have a stepfather. You must have had a hard time all these years. When your grandfather was alive, you were a spoiled little princess. When have you ever done such a thing? Did your father and stepmother force you to do it? Just you wait, I'm going to find Ji Bowen right now to settle the score." He patted the table and left. Jiyuchi quickly grabbed his arm and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Grandpa Tang, you think too much. It has nothing to do with my father and Auntie Chin. I learned to do it myself." "Really? Really?" Tang Heijia looked at her suspiciously. "Why are you learning all this?" Jiyuchi pulled him to sit down and winked at him with a smile. "There's a good saying, if you want to capture a man's heart, you have to capture his stomach first. That's why I'm making plans for my future. I can't always be a rice worm who stretches out her hand and opens her mouth, can I? Girl, even if you become a rice worm, no one will dare to despise you." Although he said that, Tang Heijia still felt very gratified. He sighed and said, "Chi girl, you've grown up. If your grandfather was still alive, he would be very happy." Jiyuchi's eyes reddened. Her grandparents only had one daughter, which was her mother. The couple doted on their daughter very much. When they had Jiyuchi, their granddaughter, they doted on her even more. They couldn't wait to pluck the moon from the sky and give it to her. Okay, let's eat. I'll try Chi girl's cooking." Seeing her eyes redden, Tang Heijia smiled and picked up his chopsticks to change the topic. After the meal, Jiyuchi washed the dishes in the kitchen. Tang Heijia forced Shinja to lie down on the bed to recuperate. Tang Heijia glanced at the kitchen and then turned to Shinja. His always kind face turned cold and he said in a deep voice, "Shinja, I don't care how you got injured or who you are. If you hurt Chi-Chi, I won't let you go. You have to believe that I have the ability to do so." With Tang Heijia's keen eyes, he had long seen that Shinja was not an ordinary person. If Shinja and Chi-Chi became enemies, he would not let him go. He was not an ordinary military doctor. He had a military rank. Moreover, with the power and status of the Tang family in the city, it was not difficult for him to deal with Shinja. Being threatened so blatantly, Shinja was not displeased. Instead, he raised the corner of his lips and a faint smile appeared on his handsome face. "Mr. Tang, I, Shinja, am not a villain who bites the hand that feeds him." Tang Heijia looked at him deeply as if he wanted to see through his dark eyes and see his internal organs. He slowly said, "That had better be the case. Chi-Chi is a good girl. I won't let any harm come to her." Shinja closed his thick eyelashes and seemed to have fallen asleep. It was not until Tang Heijia walked to the door that he heard him murmur, "I won't either." Although his voice was low, it was very clear. Jiyuchi had overheard everyone's conversation in the room. When she heard footsteps, she quickly blinked away the mist in her eyes. She smiled and pretended to be lighthearted as she walked up to him. "Grandpa Tang, can you stay here for lunch today?" Tang Heijia held his huge medical kit and smiled kindly. "No need. I stayed out all night. Your Granny Tang must be worried. She has been talking about you for the past few days. When you have time, come and see us. Feng Er He. Grandpa Tang. Jiuqi knew what he wanted to say and quickly interrupted him. Grandpa Tang, I will visit you. Let me walk you to the door. She snatched the medical kit from his hand and held his arm with one hand. They walked out of the door intimately. Tang Hejia's expression was complicated. In the end, he sighed secretly. After watching the Tang family chauffeur take Tang Hejia away, Jiuqi was in a daze for a moment. In the end, she curled her lips and revealed a bright smile. The weather today was so good. It was so good to see those people who cared about her again. Shenja leaned against the headboard with his eyes slightly closed. Jiuqi thought that he had fallen asleep. She quietly walked to the bed and tucked him in. Suddenly, a deep and magnetic voice sounded in her ears. Do you know me? Jiuqi's heart trembled. She suddenly raised her head. His obsidian eyes looked at her seriously. She chuckled. I don't know you. Last night was the first time we met. His tone was calm. You called my name in the courtyard, but I never told you. Her lips curved. You were talking in your sleep after you fainted. He raised his eyebrows and said lightly, That's the worst lie I've ever heard. She touched his forehead to make sure that his fever had subsided. She pursed her lips and smiled. You exposed me. I do know you. I saw your photo in the newspaper. As the eldest son of the Shen group, he had been secretly photographed by a reporter when he had just returned from abroad. Her palm was very cold. When her fingers glided over it, it felt soft like a feather. He said lightly. Why were you in the little forest? My sister stole my dance partner. I felt uncomfortable, so I went to the park to relax. She explained, I'm studying at the capital university. The school held a dance party last night. With that said, Jiuqi took a book from the desk and placed it beside his pillow. I have to go home. Someone will come to take care of you later. If you feel bored, you can read to pass the time. By the way, what size are you wearing? Shenja glanced at the title of the book, Red and Black. His dark eyes seemed to flash under his long eyelashes. He calmly told her his size. Jiuqi nodded and said, I wrote my phone number on the post-it note. If you need anything, just call me. I'll be leaving first. Have a good rest. The scene of Yi Zissou and Jiang Tianhao making a fool of themselves at the gala had already made the headlines. People were saying that the rich miss was promiscuous and addicted to drugs, and that the rich man sacrificed his looks to climb up the social ladder. The pictures of the two of them kissing in disheveled clothes were described in an obscene manner. The comments were full of criticism. The two of them had now become well-known celebrities. Originally, the matter wouldn't have blown up so much. Who asked Yi Zissou to harm others and harm herself? She had hired a bunch of reporters to take pictures of Jiuqi's ugly behavior, but in the end she had gotten herself into trouble. Jiuqi's lips curled into a sneer. She turned off her phone and started the car. After driving for less than 10 minutes, her phone suddenly rang. It was Ji Yunhan. Sis, are you still at the old mansion? Something big happened at home. Dad asked you to come back quickly. Okay, I got it. I'll be back soon. Big sis, why aren't you asking me what happened? Ji Yunhan paused for a moment before rejoicing in her misfortune. Yi Zissou is out of luck. Jiuqi chuckled. I saw the live version last night. Of course, I know what happened. Han Gigai, stay in the room. Don't get yourself into trouble. Okay sis, I'll listen to you. In less than half an hour, her car arrived at the Ji family's mansion. There was a group of reporters outside the mansion and even the gate was blocked. When they saw Jiuqi's car, they all swarmed over and asked at once. Miss, according to the news, the second miss has had 5 boyfriends. Is this true? Miss, according to the news, you and Jiang Tianhao are very close. Did the second miss come between you two? Miss, is it true that the second miss took drugs? Jiuqi sneered in her heart. Took drugs? Sleeping with a man in front of so many people was indeed like being drugged. She pushed open the door amidst the dazzling flashing lights. She was wearing a white wool coat, a black short skirt, a pair of sheepskin boots and a white woolen hat on her head. Her delicate face was decorated by her curly hair, making her look even more lustrous like jade. There was a faint smile on her lips, and her actions were elegant and generous, without the slightest embarrassment of being surrounded. Everyone, I believe that the innocent knows that they are innocent, and the muddy knows that they are muddy. I understand that everyone is eager to know the truth, but please understand the difficulties of the Ji family. Jiuqi's words were ambiguous. It depended on how others interpreted it. It could be understood that she was protecting Yi Zisu's innocence and didn't want the reporters to disturb the Ji family anymore. It could also be understood that she was implicitly saying that Yi Zisu was the stepdaughter of the Ji family. Even if Yi Zisu's conduct was questionable, the Ji family couldn't restrain her. Those reporters were all smart people. Based on her ambiguous words, they could speculate a lot of secrets of the rich families. Welfare Jianghu 799. Chapter 796. As soon as Jiyuchi entered the door, Nanny Wu, who was guarding the door, immediately came forward. She helped her take off her coat and said in a low voice, "Miss One, the school leaders called last night. Master and Madam personally went to the school to pick up second Miss One. Early this morning, a group of reporters came outside the house. Master was so angry that he didn't even eat breakfast and went straight to the study. Madam scolded second Miss One and brought breakfast to the study, but she quickly brought it out." Jiyuchi nodded. "Nanny Wu, where's Ahan?" Young master went back to his room to read after breakfast. Jiyuchi nodded and said, "Nanny Wu, ask the kitchen to prepare breakfast and send it to the study. I'll go see Dad first." Nanny Wu nodded and trotted away. When Jiyuchi went upstairs, she bumped into Xiaoro. Seeing that there was no one around, she said in a low voice, "Xiaoro, have you prepared the things I asked you to prepare?" "Yes." Although Xiaoro was curious why Miss wanted to prepare men's clothes, she cleverly didn't ask. Jiyuchi smiled appreciatively. "Very good. Xiaoro, send those things to the old house. I have a friend who lives there. Please take good care of him. If anyone asks, tell them that I asked you to go shopping." With that, her eyes moved slightly and she whispered a few words in Xiaoro's ear. "Okay, I got it." Xiaoro glanced in the direction of Yi Zisu's room and said in a low voice, "Yuchi, will Miss One find out about that?" Jiyuchi smiled. "Don't be afraid. She won't find out. Xiaoro, I won't let her hurt you. Be careful. Don't let her find out that you're working for me." Xiaoro was moved and nodded heavily. Jiyuchi knocked on the study door with breakfast and said softly, "Dad, I'm Chichi. Can I come in?" Ji Bowen's tired voice came from the study. "Come in." Jiyuchi pushed the door open and entered. She saw Ji Bowen standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window with a cigarette between his fingers. The room was filled with the smell of smoke. The sunlight shone through the curtains and shone on his body. She suddenly realized that there were white hairs on his head. She suddenly felt a little guilty. As a child, she had always been protected by her father, but she had never been filial to him. She sniffled and put the breakfast tray on the desk. She walked behind him and massaged his shoulders. She said softly, "Dad, I heard from Nanny Wu that you haven't eaten anything. It's not good for your health. Let's eat something first, okay?" Ji Bowen's fingers that were holding the cigarette trembled, and the ashes of the cigarette fell to the floor. His daughter's hand was massaging his shoulders and it was very comfortable. The irritation in his heart also dissipated a little. "After hearing what you said, it seems that I'm really hungry. I've already prepared it for you. Dad, please help yourself." Jiyuchi beamed. She took his arm and walked to the desk. Ji Bowen smiled. He actually didn't have much of an appetite, but when he saw his daughter looking at him expectantly, he turned his anger into appetite. He drank a glass of milk and ate a sandwich. Jiyuchi didn't mention Yi Zisu. She thought about how Shenja still had to recuperate in the Gu mansion for a few days. She had to find an excuse to go to the Gu mansion. She thought about it and said, "Dad, I want to renovate the Gu mansion. I saw that the flowers and plants in the yard were a little messy last night, and the paint on the door was peeling." Ji Bowen nodded. "The Gu mansion is a memento that your grandfather left for you and your sister. It should be well renovated. I'll find time to arrange this." Jiyuchi quickly said, "It's okay, Dad. Let me arrange it. I've never done this kind of thing before. It's also a kind of training." Ji Bowen's smile deepened. "That's good. I'll leave this matter to you. Just tell me how much money you need." The atmosphere between father and daughter was very good. Ji Bowen temporarily forgot about his troubles. However, in the other room a storm was brewing. "What's going on? How did you get involved with Jiang Tianhao?" Ever since she brought Yi Zisu back last night, Qin Tingfang had been thinking of ways to appease Ji Bowen's anger. She hadn't had a chance to ask her daughter what happened. Yi Zisu's eyes were red and swollen. At the mention of this matter, she began to cry again. She choked and said, "I don't know what happened either. Tianhao and I were dancing. As we were dancing, I suddenly felt very hot. My heart was very irritable. When I woke up, Tianhao and I were already, Yi Zisu didn't dare to recall that scene. She and Jiang Tianhao were almost naked. The two of them were tightly hugging each other and kissing wildly. If someone hadn't splashed cold water on them to wake them up, they would have done something inappropriate in public. When they separated in shock and panic, they were faced with people's mocking and accusations as well as the sound of camera shutters. "Alright, stop crying," Qin Tingfang scolded irritably. She frowned and thought for a moment. Then she sneered. "This must be the doing of that Jiuchi. She already knew that there was a problem with the perfume you gave her, so she swapped the two of your perfume. So, the person in trouble is you." Yi Zisu was yelled at and her sobs stopped abruptly. She widened her eyes in disbelief. "It can't be. She always trusted me, idiot." Qin Tingfang glared at her. "She's pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. If she didn't pretend to be close to you, would you lower your guard against her? This TC. It seems like we underestimated her in the past." A few days ago, Qin Tingfang had specially prepared 2 identical bottles of Chanel perfume. One of the bottles had a hallucinogen added to it. This hallucinogen was colorless and odorless, and was not harmful to the body. However, if the user drank alcohol, the hallucinogen would become an aphrodisiac. Originally, Yi Zisu had given the added perfume to Jiuchi. She wanted Jiuchi to make a fool of herself at the gala. They even hired reporters, intending to blow up the matter and ruin Jiuchi's reputation. Even if Ji Bowen doted on his daughter, he would definitely be unhappy with Jiuchi, who knew that the perfume would be swapped, and the one who would be ruined would be Yi Zisu. Yi Zisu thought about it carefully and felt that Qin Tingfang's words made sense. She said angrily, "Jiuchi, that ***, how dare she deceive me? I won't let her off. Mom, she made me lose face this time. I will pay her back double." Qin Tingfang frowned. "Let's put the matter of dealing with Jiuchi aside for the time being." "What?" Yi Zisu's voice was sharp. "Mom, your daughter is being bullied by that ***. Are you going to let her off just like that?" Qin Tingfang poked her forehead with her finger and said angrily, "How did I give birth to such a stupid daughter like you? The most important thing now is not to deal with Jiuchi, but to think of a way to solve your problem. You may be happy to be pointed at by others, but I can't afford to lose face." Yi Zisu hugged Qin Tingfang's arm in an attempt to please her. She giggled and said, "Mom, I knew you wouldn't leave me in the lurch. Mom, you're the best." Qin Tingfang pulled her arm away and said, "Get off me. I get annoyed when I see you," but her expression softened a lot. Yi Zisu could naturally see the change in her mood, so she acted even more coquettishly to please her. In the study, Jiuchi danced and talked about interesting things in school to make Ji Bowen happy. The father and daughter were laughing together when suddenly there was a knock on the door. Jiuchi quickly said, "Dad, I'll open the door." Qin Tingfang stood at the door with a tray of snacks. When she saw Jiuchi, she smiled kindly. "Yuchi, I brought some food for you and your father." "Thank you, Auntie." Jiuchi smiled brightly and reached out to take the tray in her hand. She had no intention of inviting her in. Qin Tingfang's smile froze. She dodged her hand and said gently, "Be careful, it's hot. Let me take it." As she spoke, she pushed her shoulder to the right, seemingly inadvertently pushing Jiuchi away from the door. Jiuchi slammed into the door with a loud bang. Ji Bowen was shocked. He walked quickly to Jiuchi. "Chichi, are you okay? Where does it hurt?" "Dad, don't be nervous. I'm fine." Jiuchi rubbed her sore arm pitifully and squeezed out an exaggerated smile. In Ji Bowen's eyes, this smile looked like his daughter forcing a smile so that he wouldn't worry. He was distressed and angry. His gaze suddenly turned to Qin Tingfang, who looked stunned. He scolded, "Tingfang, what are you doing?" Qin Tingfang opened her mouth and was about to speak when Jiuchi spoke first. "Dad, don't be angry. It's not Andy's fault. It's all my fault for blocking Andy's way." Qin Tingfang's face turned pale. How could she not tell that Jiuchi was speaking up for her on the surface, but in reality she was confirming that she had pushed Jiuchi. Sure enough, Ji Bowen's expression turned even uglier. Seeing that he was about to explode, Jiuchi hugged his arm and acted coquettishly. "Dad, don't be angry with Auntie. Auntie didn't do it on purpose. Besides, I only bumped into her. I didn't hurt anywhere." How was this persuasion? It was clearly adding fuel to the fire. Qin Tingfang was fuming. She knew that she had been tricked by the little ***, but she still had to smile apologetically. "Chichi, I'm really sorry. Auntie didn't do it on purpose." "Auntie, don't worry. Of course, I know you didn't do it on purpose. You love me so much, so how could you intentionally bump into me? People say that stepmothers are ruthless, but you're the best stepmother I've ever seen. Jiyuchi smiled innocently. Her flattery made Qin Tingfang extremely depressed. Looking at such a sensible daughter, Ji Bowen nodded comfortingly. Jiyuchi knew when to stop. She didn't expect her father to see Qin Tingfang's ugly side in one go. She wanted to slowly plant a seed of disgust in his heart. One day this seed would bloom and bear fruit, completely destroying their relationship. She knew that Qin Tingfang wanted to discuss Yi Zisu's matter with her father, so she very considerately left them some private space. Jiyuchi walked to the stairs and heard a woman's shrill scream from downstairs. It's you? You're the one who harmed me. Her eyelids twitched. Interesting. What kind of game did Yi Zisu want to play? Yi Zisu wore a white dress and stood gracefully in the middle of the living room. She pointed her finger at the young maid kneeling on the floor. Her face was filled with anger, and her voice trembled from agitation. What? Why did you harm me? What did I do wrong to you? Jiyuchi crossed her arms and leaned against the railing. The corners of her lips curled up playfully as she looked at the maid, Xiaofeng. In her previous life she was Qin Tingfang and her daughter's lackey. Xiaofeng trembled, her face filled with fear as she begged for mercy. Second miss, I beg you please spare me. I didn't do it on purpose, I just... Before she could finish her words, her tears had already flowed down. Hongcha 866. Chapter 797. Yi Zisu said angrily, What are you? If you don't tell me the truth, I'll send you to the police station immediately. No, Second Mississippi. Xiaofeng hurriedly knelt a few steps forward and hugged Yi Zisu's calf. She cried and begged, Second Miss, I beg you please forgive me. I was just confused for a moment. Yi Zisu's expression changed. She raised her arm and slapped Xiaofeng hard on the face. She said sternly, You caused me so much trouble, and now you want to erase everything by saying that you were confused for a moment? Do you think I'm a fool? Xiaofeng cried with a bright red handprint on her face. She didn't defend herself and just kept kowtowing, begging Yi Zisu to let her go. Jiyuchi's smile deepened. As she expected, Qin Tingfang and her daughter were unwilling to admit defeat and started to fight back. What are you doing? Ji Bowen appeared at the staircase with a gloomy face. His sharp gaze swept over Xiaofeng's red and swollen cheeks. He looked at Yi Zisu with even more displeasure. Miss, a rich man's daughter, actually hit and scolded a servant. Even he heard it from upstairs. What a scandal. Zisu, who had always been gentle and magnanimous, seemed to have changed into a different person. He was really disappointed. Speaking of which, this was also Qin Tingfang's responsibility as a mother. Thinking of this, he turned to look at Qin Tingfang, who was standing next to him. The displeasure in his eyes was self-evident. Qin Tingfang saw that the situation wasn't good. She quickly put on a guilty expression and deliberately scolded, Zisu, what are you doing? Why are you making such a ruckus? Yi Zisu's eyelashes fluttered and tears filled her eyes. She said pitifully, Mom, Uncle, I found out something so I got too excited. I'm sorry. Qin Tingfang asked in surprise, What is it? Is it related to Xiaofeng? Yi Zisu's eyes were brimming with tears. She bit her lips and wanted to say something but couldn't. She could only stomp her feet and say in embarrassment and anger, Xiaofeng, you say it. Say what you did in front of everyone again. Xiaofeng's entire body trembled. She lay on the ground, not daring to raise her head or speak. She could only kowtow and beg for mercy. Ji Bowen frowned and scolded in a deep voice, Stand up and explain everything clearly. Ji Bowen rarely lost his temper at the servants, but once he lost his temper, no one dared to provoke him. Xiaofeng knew his character very well, so she didn't dare to escape anymore. She stood up timidly, lowered her head and stammered, Master, Madam, it's my fault. I added hallucinogens and second miss perfume, which made her make a fool of herself at the party. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. Ji Bowen's pupils shrank, and his face was so gloomy that water could be squeezed out of it. Qin Tingfang rushed up with red eyes. You damned woman, how dare you harm my daughter? I'll fight it out with you. Mom, don't be agitated. Yi Zisu quickly stopped her and looked at Ji Bowen with expectation and trust. Mom, I believe that uncle will definitely stand up for me. Ji Bowen's expression relaxed, and his tone became even more severe. Xiaofeng, why did you do this? Xiaofeng shrank back and said in a trembling voice, I hate second Mississippi. I accidentally broke a vase a few days ago, and she asked the butler to deduct half of my salary. I worked so hard to earn my hard-earned money and she deducted it just like that. I hate her. Ji Bowen called the butler over, and the butler testified that such a thing had indeed happened. Ji, who had been watching the drama for a long time, raised her eyebrows. The motive for the crime sounded quite reasonable. She glanced at Yi Zissou, who had an aggrieved expression that said, "I was framed," and then at Qin Tingfang, who looked furious. The corners of her lips curled up slightly and she said gently, "Dad, I have a few questions to ask Xiaofeng." "Can I?" Ji Bowen nodded. In fact, he also had doubts about this matter, and he wanted to hear his daughter's opinion. Jiuqi's voice suddenly became stern. "Xiaofeng, raise your head." Xiaofeng's body trembled. She slowly raised her head and her eyes were red. She looked a little pitiful. Jiuqi looked straight into her eyes and said, "Since you've admitted that you drugged her, tell me, where did you buy the medicine, when did you buy it, when did you drug her? Did anyone testify for you? How did second miss find out?" The series of questions shot at Xiaofeng like bullets. She couldn't help clenching her fingers in panic and mumbling, I contacted the seller through the internet. I bought it on the 22nd and drugged it on the 23rd. No one testified. I've been hiding it from everyone." As she spoke, she knelt on the ground with a thud and sobbed, "Eldest young miss, I didn't know that the matter would blow up to this extent. I was scared, so I confessed my mistake to second young Mississippi master. Madam, I've let the G family down. I've let second miss down. Please spare me on account of my loyalty and diligence in the past few years." Jiuqi sneered. "Your salary was deducted because of your mistake, and you're waiting for an opportunity to take revenge on your master. You call this loyalty? Xiaofeng, when you did all this, have you ever thought about your parents? They'll be laughed at for having a daughter like you. They'll never be able to raise their heads. You still have a brother in high school, right? If he knows that his sister is in prison and the family's source of income is cut off, will he still be in the mood to study? No, he'll drop out of school and go out to work at a young age. He'll become the second you." Jiuqi's questions were like iron hammers pounding on Xiaofeng's heart. Even though she had received a sum of money to ensure that her family would not have to worry about food and clothing, she still collapsed to the ground in fear. However, she had already come this far and could no longer turn back. She gritted her teeth, kneeled a few steps and threw herself at Jiuqi's feet. She cried and begged, "Eldest miss, please spare me. You were the one who told me to do this. I was only following your orders. Please don't leave me alone." Jiuqi stared at Xiaofeng expressionlessly. Her eyes were getting colder. "Xiaofeng, I've already given you a chance to tell the truth, but you're so stubborn. Don't blame me for being cold-blooded and heartless." Yi Zissou smirked proudly. Jiuqi, let's see what else you have to say." Qin Tingfang clenched her fists in anger. She had only wanted Xiaofeng to take the blame for drugging her, but now Xiaofeng had implicated Jiuqi. It was obvious that Zissou had instructed her. Zissou was an idiot. Why didn't she understand that Ji Bowen doted on Jiuqi so much that he wouldn't believe a servant's words? This would only backfire and make Ji Bowen suspect them instead. As expected, Ji Bowen, who had always been lenient to his servants, was furious. He kicked Xiaofeng's shoulder and sent her to the ground. "You evil servant, how dare you frame Miss? Old Wang, call the police immediately and send this evil servant to the police station." Xiaofeng was in so much pain that she couldn't move at all. She was still shouting that she was innocent. Ji Bowen was furious and ordered the butler to gag her mouth. Even after the police car left with Xiaofeng, Ji Bowen's anger still hadn't subsided. Jiuqi hugged his arm and acted coquettishly and cutely. Finally he couldn't help but laugh. Jiuqi leaned against his arm and said emotionally, "Dad, thank you for believing in me." Ji Bowen stroked her hair lovingly. "You're my daughter. Of course I believe in you." He had already informed the police chief and asked them to interrogate Xiaofeng. If Xiaofeng was stubborn and refused to let go of Yuqi, he would let her know that the Ji family wasn't to be trifled with. Jiuqi's eyes turned red and she mumbled, "Dad, I must have offended Xiaofeng somehow. That's why she framed me like this." Ji Bowen's heart skipped a beat. Yuqi was innocent and couldn't see through the strangeness of the matter, but he did. Xiaofeng said that she felt guilty and confessed to Yi Zissou about drugging her. If Yuqi was really behind it, why didn't Xiaofeng say it from the beginning? Why did she wait until she was convicted of drugging Yuqi? If he didn't trust Yuqi and Yuqi was accused of framing her sister, then Yi Zissou would be the one to benefit from this matter. His feelings told him that Yi Zissou was a kind girl and wouldn't do such a thing. However, his rationality told him that Yi Zissou was suspicious. If Yi Zissou had directed this show, then did Qin Tingfang know about it? Ji Bowen's feelings were complicated. In the end, his feelings overwhelmed his rationality and he convinced himself that Qin Tingfang and her mother were innocent. However, there was a thorn in his heart. Qin Tingfang knew that things weren't going well, so she acted even more submissive and tried to please Ji Bowen and Ji Yuqi gently. Ji Yuqi didn't want to see her fake smile, so she found an excuse to leave. When Ji Yuqi arrived at the mansion, Ruru was carrying 2 bags of trash. When she saw Ji Yuqi, she quickly threw down the trash bags and walked up to her with a smile. "Chichi, you're here. Is Yi Zissou in big trouble?" Ji Yuqi pursed her lips and smiled. She briefly explained what happened in the Ji family and said, "Although we won this time, we can't let our guard down. They won't admit defeat so easily." Ruru nodded heavily. She admired Ji Yuqi very much. At first, Yuqi guessed that Yi Zissou was going to use perfume to plot against her, so she asked Ruru to switch the perfume with the knockout powder. She also guessed that Yi Zissou wouldn't let it go and might find someone to take the blame. Therefore, she asked Ruru to investigate the situation of all the servants in the house. That was how Yuqi knew about Xiaofeng's family. Even if Ruru didn't see it with her own eyes, she could imagine the scene of Yi Zissou's failure. Ji Yuqi looked in the direction of the bedroom. "Ruru, how is Shenjia?" "Mr. Shin is in good spirits, but he doesn't have a good appetite. He only ate half a bowl of rice for lunch. Oh, by the way, Mr. Shin asked me to burn the clothes he changed into. Those clothes were stained with blood and bullet holes." Ruru's heart was pounding when she burned them. She moved closer to Ji Yuqi and whispered, "Chichi, that person was shot. Could he be from the underground organization? Will we get into trouble?" "No, he won't. Shinju is a good person. Someone wanted to harm him, so he got injured." Ji Yuqi's tone was particularly serious. "Ruru, he is my friend. He won't harm us. Come and see." Xingwu 799. Chapter 798. Xiao knew what she meant and hurriedly said, "I understand. I won't tell anyone." Ji Yuqi smiled gratefully and then asked Xiao to find some men's clothes, wash them, and hang them on the clothesline in the yard. Xiao didn't understand her intention. She blinked mysteriously. "Fishing. This is the bait." Xiao touched her head. She still didn't understand, but she believed in Yuqi. Stepping into the room, hot air hit her in the face. Shenjia was lying on the mahogany recliner with his eyes closed. His long eyelashes cast a faint shadow under his eyelids. His handsome face was like a sculpture. Ji Yuqi walked to his side gently and bent down to take the book on his lap. As soon as her fingers touched the book, he opened his eyes. His pair of black gem-like eyes didn't have the confusion of just waking up. There was only innate coldness and indifference. Her heart couldn't help but tremble. She pursed her lips and smiled. "You're awake?" "Yes." An imperceptible warmth appeared in his cold eyes. Actually, he hadn't fallen asleep. He even heard her and Xiao's conversation outside the door. She trusted him. This knowledge made his mood. Ji Yuqi and Shenjia were lying on 2 reclining chairs side by side, each holding a book in their hands. The atmosphere was indescribably warm and harmonious. After dinner, Ji Yuqi called her father and told her that she would stay in the old house tonight and would not go home. Before ending the call, Ji Yuqi's father suddenly said, "Chichi, no matter what happens, Dad will believe in you." Ji Yuqi thought that he was talking about what happened in the morning and felt very touched. Then she called Ruru, who had already returned to the villa, and reminded her of some things. When she called, she didn't have any intention of avoiding suspicion in front of Shenjia. Shenjia also acted as if he hadn't heard anything and browsed the news on his phone. When he saw the headline, "Miss G made a fool of herself at the ball, the mastermind behind it is Big Miss G," his brows furrowed slightly. Ji Yuqi hung up the phone. Seeing that Shenjia didn't look too good, she thought that his wound was hurting again and hurriedly brought him painkillers. Shenjia shook his head and pursed his thin lips. He wanted to say something but stopped. She had a feeling that he didn't want her to be hurt. The way he looked at her was a little strange. It seemed to be sympathy? Ji Yuqi blinked in confusion. "What's wrong with you?" Shenjia wanted to hide it from her, but on second thought, if he didn't tell her now, she might be even more hurt if she found out about it at another occasion. He handed his phone to her and stared at her with his dark eyes, hiding an imperceptible worry. Ji Yuqi took the phone curiously and glanced at it briefly. The maid, Xiaofeng, admitted that Jiyuchi had instructed her to frame Yi Zixu. Xiaofeng also said that Jiyuchi had always been secretly in love with Jiang Tianhao, but Jiang Tianhao's heart was on Yi Zixu, so Jiyuchi deliberately played tricks to embarrass them. Jiyuchi's expression didn't change, but the little person in her heart was laughing coldly. Humph, Xiaofeng had already been taken to the police station. She couldn't have leaked the information to the media, unless someone impersonated her and threw this so-called evidence to the media. Yi Zixu was really ruthless. After one failed move, she came up with another. Shenja had been paying attention to her expression. Seeing her calm face, a look of admiration flashed in his eyes. He said lightly, "Do you need my help?" Jiyuchi was slightly stunned. In her previous life, whenever she was in trouble, Shenja was always the first to appear in front of her and solve it for her. In this life, she didn't want to implicate him, and she didn't want him to see her vicious and cold-blooded. She pursed her lips and shook her head gently. "No need. I'll handle this matter myself. You should rest. I live next door. If you need anything, just call me." The snow-white walls, the empty corridor, and the sound of footsteps became clearer. Jiyuchi stood at the end of the corridor in a white hospital gown and looked at the familiar figure walking out of the smoke. Her heart beat rapidly and her throat tightened. Shenja. She ran towards that person with ecstasy as if she had been searching for him for thousands of years. That person turned his head. His pair of empty gray eyes were unfocused, and the indifferent expression on his handsome face made her panic. "Shenja, your eyes?" She froze in place in shock. She reached out to grab his arm, but she grabbed empty air. His figure had quickly retreated a few meters and then disappeared into the fog. "Shenja." Jiyuchi abruptly woke up from her dream. Her entire body was drenched in sweat, and her mind was still filled with boundless despair. She threw off the blanket and got out of bed. She ran out of the room barefoot and pounded on the door next door like a madwoman. Shenja was awakened by the woman's panicked cries. His gaze suddenly turned cold. He quickly walked to the door and opened it. Before he could open his mouth to ask what had happened, a delicate body with a cold aura had already thrown itself into his arms. She hugged him and wailed. "Shenja, Shenja." She cried heartbreakingly as she called out his name over and over again. The fear, and attachment in her voice made his chest tighten uncontrollably. He slowly raised his left hand that was originally hanging stiffly by his side and wrapped it around her waist. His bottomless eyes stared at the woman in his arms. Her face was pressed against his chest, and her hot tears soaked the white bandage. His wound was throbbing with pain, but for some reason he couldn't bear to push her away. Her cries of despair gradually weakened, turning into soft sobs. By the time Jiyuchi completely woke up, she was already lying in Shenja's arms, sitting on the edge of his bed. "Sorry, I just had a nightmare." She frantically withdrew from his arms and awkwardly wiped the tears from her face. She glanced at his chest in embarrassment and mumbled, "I just touched your wound. Is it okay?" Shenja looked at her red nose and red eyes like a rabbit's. He couldn't help but frown. Instead of answering, he asked, "What nightmare did you have? Why are you crying like that?" Of course, Jiyuchi wouldn't tell him that she was reborn. She also wouldn't tell him that ever since she was reborn, she hadn't had a good night's sleep. Every night, she was tormented by nightmares and tortured by hatred. Her mind was constantly stretched taut, afraid that if she took one wrong step, she would step into the trap that Chen Tingfang and her daughter had set for her. Every time she faced Yi Zixu and Jiang Tianhao, she had to use all her rationality to suppress the resentment in her heart. She also had to pretend that she didn't know anything. No one knew how hard it was for her. She lowered her eyes slightly to hide the bone-piercing sadness in her eyes. The corners of her lips stiffened as she said in a low voice, "I dreamt that a monster was chasing me. I asked you for help and called out your name loudly." Her voice became lower and lower as it trembled. "But you shook off my hand and disappeared." Under the light, she exuded an indescribable sadness. The strong loneliness in her words made his heart tremble. His chest felt stuffy and his heart seemed to beat even harder. He couldn't help but reach out his hand. His warm palm landed on her soft hair and gently pressed it. His deep voice was as pleasant as a cello. "Don't cry. Dreams are all fake." After saying that, he seemed to sense that something was wrong. He quickly retracted his hand and supported his chin with his left hand. He coughed softly, and the tips of his fair ears were dyed a light pink. Fortunately, Jiyuchi had her head lowered and didn't notice. The next morning, when Jiyuchi saw Shenja, She suddenly recalled the scene of her crying in his arms last night. Her cheeks instantly burned. Fortunately, Shinja didn't mention a word. It was as if nothing had happened last night. The two of them finished breakfast in silence. Jiyuchi tidied up the kitchen and saw Shinja standing in the courtyard. Beside him, little yellow flowers were blooming around the Four Seasons osmanthus. The cold fragrance was refreshing. He was wearing a white coat and black trousers. The contrasting colors of white and black made him look even more beautiful. He leaned lazily and elegantly against the tree trunk. His gaze was distant, as if he was thinking about something. Seeing his obsidian-like eyes, Jiyuchi's heart trembled. She quickly lowered her head to hide her emotions. After a while, she looked up and revealed a gentle smile. Shinja, I have 2 classes in the morning. I'll go to school. I'll be back early. What do you want to eat for lunch? I'll buy it on the way back. Shinja slowly retracted his gaze from the sky and looked at her intently. Do you know how to make Westlake vinegar fish and mushroom fried chicken? Jiyuchi raised her eyebrows. This man was really impolite. He treated her as his personal chef. However, why didn't she feel unhappy at all? Instead, she was very happy. Jiyuchi parked the car in the school's parking lot and then went to the dormitory to get her textbooks. Wang Jing and Xia Yin, who used to have a good relationship with her, looked as if they had seen a ghost when they saw her. They kept their distance and looked at her with disdain. On the other hand, Lin Yushi, who had never interacted with her, said good morning indifferently. Good morning. Jiyuchi smiled brightly. Yushi, let's go together, okay? Lin Yushi was slightly startled. Then she faintly said, okay. After the two of them went out, they heard Wang Jing whisper, shameless. I didn't expect her to be so vicious. Lin Yushi turned to look at Jiyuchi and calmly explained, the news said that you ordered the servants to poison Yi Zissou. They believed it. Jiyuchi knew that Wang Jing was scolding her, but she didn't care. In her previous life, she saw Wang Jing and Xia Yan's true colors. Their family backgrounds weren't as good as hers and they liked to hug her thighs. They always said in her ear, Yuchi, your Louis Vuitton bag is so beautiful. Can you lend it to me? And Yuchi, your Givenchy dress is so beautiful. Can I try it on? The implied meaning was self-evident. She was generous when it came to money and gave them a lot of gifts. However, later on, when Jiyuchi caused a scandal at the ball, the two of them were the happiest to hit her when she was down. Jiyuchi smiled faintly. Let them scold me. No matter how hard they scold me, I won't lose a piece of flesh. Lin Yushi was startled. Jiyuchi, you've changed. If it was in the past, you would definitely quarrel with them. Jiyuchi playfully blinked. You were bitten by a dog. You can't bite back, right? Lin Yushi's beautiful face, which had always been cold, revealed a smile. Of course not. You'll only disgust yourself if you bite back. Jiyuchi held her hand and said seriously, Yushi, thank you. She thanked her for not saying anything bad about her in her previous life. She also thanked her for believing in her in this life. Lin Yushi didn't say anything and just held her hand. On the way to the school building, countless disdainful and malicious gazes intertwined on Jiyuchi. They pointed at her and whispered about her vicious behavior. Jiyuchi walked in the midst of the scolding with a calm expression. Lin Yushi held her hand comfortingly and she responded with a warm smile. Jiyuchi, you're too vicious. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. An angry and low male voice suddenly sounded. Jiyuchi looked at the man not far away with a complicated expression. He was Tang Feng. He was Tang Hejie's grandson and Jiyuchi's childhood sweetheart. The two of them had agreed to be engaged when they were very young. They were originally very close and Jiyuchi had always liked him. However, everything changed after Yi Zissou entered the Ji family. Tang Feng became more and more distant from Yuchi and closer to Yi Zissou. He became Yi Zissou's guardian angel. He told Yuchi more than once that he wouldn't marry her. Yuchi thought that she wasn't good enough, so she studied hard and tried to change her bad temper. However, he said, it's useless no matter how good you are. The person I like is not you. Later, Yuchi and Gu Fifan caused a scandal at the ball. Tang Feng didn't even want to maintain the harmony on the surface. Ignoring the Tang family's objections, he proposed to the Ji family to cancel the engagement. Ji Bowen felt that his daughter had wronged Tang Feng, so he could only agree. After the engagement was cancelled, Tang Feng openly pursued Yi Zissou. The two of them caused a stir in the school. Jiyuchi would always become Yi Zissou's foil. One was a slut, the other was a noble white lotus. She was trampled into the mud by Yi Zissou. Every time Jiyuchi was hurt, Jiang Tianhao would appear like a god to save her. Slowly, she was moved by his gentleness and was intoxicated by his thoughtfulness. It could be said that Tang Feng was one of the important people who pushed Ji Yuqi into Jiang Tianhao's arms. Come and see. Xinwu 799. Chapter 799. Scenes of the past surfaced in her mind. During the darkest period of her life, she had hated Tang Feng. If it weren't for him, she wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. But now, seeing him angrily settling scores with her and fighting for Yi Zissou, Ji Yuqi suddenly didn't want to hate him. She only felt that he was pitiful. He loved a beautiful snake, but he was played by her and ended up in such a miserable state. He was just a pitiful person. After Ji Yuqi thought it through, the ruthless aura that she was releasing instantly retracted. She looked coldly at Tang Feng holding Yi Zissou's hand and walking in front of her. Tang Feng was very handsome with straight eyebrows and bright eyes. Because he was born into a military family and had been in the army for a few years, he exuded an awe-inspiring righteousness. He was tall and straight, standing in front of Ji Yuqi like a towering mountain. His handsome eyebrows were tightly knitted, and his deep eyes were surging with anger. Ji Yuqi, when did you become so vicious? Just because I don't love you, you want to destroy Zissou? Ji Yuqi looked at him in amusement. Tang Feng was the most outstanding grandson of the Tang family. Since young he had a sense of superiority. To put it nicely, it was arrogance. To put it bluntly, it was self-righteous. She chuckled. Tang Feng, you're thinking too much. Her gaze was filled with pity, and her smile was filled with faint mockery. This made Tang Feng, who was favored by the heavens, very uncomfortable. How could his little tail, who had been following him around since young, look at him with such a gaze? Clearly, she was very sad when he said that he wouldn't marry her some time ago. That's right, it must be a disguise. Zissou had said that Ji Yuqi was very good at disguising herself. There was a hint of disgust in Tang Feng's eyes as he said with a cold face, Ji Yuqi, do you know how important reputation is to a girl? You actually framed Zissou and caused her to lose face at the ball. I order you to apologize to her immediately. Big brother, you forget it? Big sister didn't do it on purpose. Don't make things difficult for her. Yi Zissou hugged Tang Feng's arm and timidly hid beside him. She was like a delicate little white flower. Tears were about to fall from her beautiful big eyes. She was really lovable. Sure enough, when Tang Feng saw her tear-stained and delicate appearance, the love and pity in his heart grew even stronger. The gaze he used to look at Ji Yuqi became even colder. Ji Yuqi, apologize immediately. Ji Yuqi said indifferently, how do you want to apologize? Do you want me to go to the radio station and admit in front of all the teachers and students that I'm a vicious and shameless woman who framed my gentle and beautiful sister? Or, do you want me to kneel in front of all these people and beg for your forgiveness? How does that sound? Tang Feng was stunned. He had never thought of that. When he was young, he also liked his little sister Yuqi. She was obedient and cute, but later on, she changed. She became vicious, unruly, and always bullied Zissou. He came to find her full of anger and asked her to apologize to Zissou. It was not only to seek justice for Zissou, but also because he was heartbroken for her. Even so, he had never thought of embarrassing her in front of the whole school. His eyes were dark and unreadable. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but Yi Zissou beat him to it and said, No, big sister, big brother, you didn't mean that. Don't be angry with big brother, you okay? It's all my fault. Ji Yuqi didn't even look at her. She stared straight at Tang Feng and smiled. Her smile was very gentle and poignant. Big brother Tang Feng, how do you want me to apologize? Just tell me and I'll do it. Big brother Tang Feng. In his memory, that delicate little girl always called him so softly. Tang Feng's heart softened and his expression softened. Yuqi, you did something wrong, so you should apologize. Say sorry to Zissou. Ji Yuqi sneered in her heart. Sure enough, all men liked Yi Zissou's gentle and lovely style. The corner of her lips curled up slightly as she said softly, All right, I'll do whatever big brother Tang Feng says. Then she looked at Yi Zissou and smiled gently. Zissou, I'm sorry. Yi Zissou, I'll let you be arrogant for a few more days. The more arrogant you are now, the more miserable you'll be when that matter is exposed. It's okay, big sister. I've never blamed you. Yi Zissou had a bright smile on her face, but she was vomiting blood in her heart. She deliberately urged Tang Feng to find trouble with Ji Yuqi, not to hear her apologize, but to see them turn against each other. Ji Yuqi smiled at Tang Feng again. Her smile was sad. Big brother Tang Feng, although I've listened to you and apologized, I still want to make it clear. Whether you believe it or not, I've never instructed Xiaofeng to harm Zissou. She wasn't lying. She had instructed Xiaofeng ha. After saying that, without waiting for Tang Feng's response, she took Lin Yushi's hand and walked away. Tang Feng's eyes narrowed as he looked at her straight back. Even if she was submerged in the crowd, she was still very conspicuous. She was like a red plum, proud and noble, but also had a coldness that kept people 1,000 miles away. Why did he have a feeling that he had suddenly lost something? Zissou shook his arm and said softly, "Big brother you, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I caused a misunderstanding between you and big sister." Tang Feng came back to his senses. "It's not your fault, Zissou. Class is about to start. Let's go." For Jiuqi, this was a day full of troubles. When she and Lin Yushi walked into the classroom, a rag flew at them. Jiuqi quickly took a step forward and stood in front of Lin Yushi. Then she reached out to block it. The rag fell at her feet, but her clothes were stained with black ink. A few drops of ink even splashed on her fair cheeks. It was very eye-catching. "Jiuqi, you black-hearted woman. Black really suits you. Look at her now. Doesn't she look like a dusty groundhog? Ah, don't be like this. She's the dancing queen of this year's Christmas ball." "Dancing queen? I think she's more like an old witch." Lin Yushi was shocked. She quickly took out a tissue and wiped the ink off Jiuqi's face. She quickly said, "Yuqi, ignore them. I'm fine." Jiuqi's heart warmed. She did not stop her. She looked up and looked indifferently at the people who were mocking her. They were a group of rich second generations. Just because their families were rich, they acted like tyrants in school. The leader was called Xiao Ren. He looked like a hooligan and treated Zissou as his goddess. He could not wait to follow behind her every day. Now that their goddess was in trouble, of course they had to stand up for her. Jiuqi's eyes were cold and clear. Although her red coat was dirty and her hair was a bit messy, her aloof and otherworldly temperament and calm expression made everyone feel a little guilty. She did not question or explain. She looked straight ahead and walked step by step to the seat she was used to sitting in. Lin Yushi naturally sat beside her. The atmosphere in the classroom became strange. Xiao Ren and the others who were still provoking and cursing suddenly shut their mouths. Things were not over yet. After class, Jiuqi went to the washroom. She was tidying her clothes in the cubicle when a basin of cold water fell from the sky, drenching her from head to toe. Outside the cubicle, the girl's arrogant laughter could be heard. January was the cold season. Even though there was a heater in the washroom, her face was still blue from the cold water. When she came out of the cubicle, the group of girls who were teasing her had disappeared. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled coldly. "Yuqi, are you okay?" A well-defined hand appeared in front of her eyes and pushed away the wet hair covering her forehead, revealing a pair of large misty eyes. Jiuqi stared blankly at the man in front of her. His tall and slender figure and handsome face were full of worry. He took off his coat and draped it over her shivering body. He held her shoulders and anxiously called out, "Yuqi? Yuqi?" Tears as big as beans fell from her eyes and slowly flowed down her pale face. Her lips that had turned purple from the cold trembled. "Senior?" Jiang Tianhao breathed a sigh of relief. His handsome brows quickly furrowed again. He said angrily, "Did they bully you? Tell me who they are. I won't let them off." Jiuqi shook her head and stubbornly wiped away her tears. Her beautiful face glowed with pride. "Forget it. Don't argue with them. Senior, thank you." It was rare for the arrogant girl to show a delicate expression. She pretended to be strong, and this caused Jiang Tianhao to feel more pity for her than a delicate little white flower. His expression became gentler and his brows were full of tenderness. He said gently, "Yuqi, don't think too much. Those things will pass." Jiuqi nodded, touched. "Senior, you have to believe me. I didn't do those things that were reported on the news." Jiang Tianhao gently stroked the hair by her ear. "Of course I believe you. Yuqi is a good girl. She would never do anything to hurt others." Jiuqi smiled through her tears. That smile was like the sun piercing through the clouds. It was dazzling and beautiful. Jiang Tianhao was momentarily dazed. His expression became gentler. "Yuqi, I'll send you back to the dormitory. Change into a new set of clothes. Be careful not to catch a cold." Jiuqi didn't reject him. She put on an expression of being touched, but deliberately restrained herself. She appeared reserved, but at the same time she revealed her special feelings for him. Jiang Tianhao naturally noticed this, and a surge of joy welled up in his heart. It seemed that he would soon conquer this rich young lady. It was the same in his previous life. When Jiuqi was teased and walked out of the bathroom drenched, Jiang Tianhao appeared like a savior. He said that he believed in her. He said that he would protect her and not let her be bullied again. At an angle that Jiang Tianhao could not see, Jiuqi's lips curled into a strange smile. Since you like to be a hero so much, I'll let you be as much as you want. In less than half an hour, the news of the student council president, Jiang Tianhao, sending Jiuqi back to the female dormitory spread all over the school's intranet. There was also a post titled, "Mr. President, you're busy playing around with feelings. Does your mother know?" The post was pushed to the top of the forum. The post had pictures and the truth. There were pictures of Jiang Tianhao and Yi Zhisu having a passionate conversation. There was also a shot of Jiang Tianhao putting on a jacket for Jiuqi. The comments below the post were divided into two factions. One faction was Jiang Tianhao's diehard fans. They scolded Jiuqi and Yi Zhisu for being shameless enough to seduce their president. The other faction came out of nowhere and scolded Jiang Tianhao for being shameless and walking between the two beauties. In the end, the mysterious faction overwhelmed the diehard fans. All of the posts scolding Jiang Tianhao sprung up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. It even alarmed the school leaders, who gave Jiang Tianhao a warning and criticism. Yi Zhisu looked at the intimate photos of Jiang Tianhao and Jiuqi. She was so angry that she almost crushed her silver teeth. That slut Jiuqi actually seduced her senior Tianhao. She was too hateful. Why didn't she just die? Yi Zhisu's hatred for Jiuqi grew with each passing day. It was endless. Hongcha 866, that you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.